glowing runes flare amid a raging blizzard. The area is identified as the Deadlands, a harsh, frozen battlefield. Armored boots crunch through the snow as a large force advances. A blonde leader marches at the head of a massive army of armored warriors. He walks out before the troops between rune-covered monoliths to address them. Guild Master Kyojo Itsuki declares their goal is the unprecedented defeat of the 8th floor Guardian. Itsuki warns the coalition not to relax, saying failure here means never reaching floor 9. He turns as the assembled forces react to the arrival of another group. A man notices the newcomers and tersely remarks on their appearance. The elite Blue Eyes Guild appears in full force, drawing everyone's attention. Their masked leader is introduced as Rank 1 Guild Master Narakami Subaru. Itsuki greets Subaru warmly as the two guild masters meet. They shake hands, Subaru apologizing for any delay while Itsuki notes they were first to arrive. Subaru comments that even the martial clans joined because he is leading the charge and they want leftovers. He adds that if others just want scraps, he already has one such scrap prepared. Subaru passes a small item to Itsuki while still clasping his hand. The item, a glowing trinket, is discreetly transferred to Itsuki's palm. Itsuki examines the legendary artifact Blessing of the Archangel and is shocked by its power. Subaru tells him he plans a perfect clear but insists Itsuki keep the item for safety, saying Itsuki needs it more. Subaru then invites Itsuki to rejoin Blue Eyes after the battle. He says Itsuki can simply return the artifact at that time. Itsuki falls silent, visibly moved and conflicted. Subaru adds that if Itsuki never returns, he can just keep the artifact forever. A sudden disturbance causes Subaru and Itsuki to tense and look up. Itsuki announces that the Guardian has appeared much earlier than expected. The 8th floor Guardian is formally introduced as everyone braces for its arrival. Itsuki shouts for everyone to brace for impact as the threat descends. The Venom Dragon Hydra, a multi-headed poison dragon, crashes onto the battlefield. Subaru looks up at the monster and casually insults its appearance. He clenches his hand into the ground, saying the creature makes his skin crawl. Lightning floods Subaru's body as he activates his power and vows the Hydra will die today. The Hydra's eye narrows as it focuses on the opposition. One of its heads gathers a massive ball of venomous energy to unleash a breath attack. Itsuki orders everyone to fall back from the incoming breath, but Subaru tells them it is unnecessary. Itsuki, confused, watches as Subaru stands firm before the charging energy. The Hydra's venom beam erupts forward in a devastating blast. Subaru dashes in, lightning-charged sword ready to meet the attack. His lightning slashes through the venom beam, creating a titanic explosion of light. The clash blasts apart the land, but Subaru's strike carves a path and protects the army. Itsuki watches Subaru's display and remarks that Subaru never changes. Subaru's teammates praise his attack and grumble that they missed the opening strike. One of them asks Subaru what he just gave Itsuki, and Subaru says they will find out soon enough. Subaru turns to his team and asks if everyone is ready. He declares that they will slay the oversized lizard and finally break through the cursed 8th floor. The Hydra looms ahead as Subaru's party charges while Itsuki and the rest follow behind. Itsuki, watching Subaru's group, makes a sardonic comment about how close they all seem. A mustached man quietly reports that their hidden soldiers are in position according to plan. Itsuki approves and signals that their own operation should begin. The cloaked conspirators agree and wish each other fortune as they move. Itsuki stands alone, expression shifting as the true plan sets into motion. The healer Chino prepares her staff as the storm roars around them. Blue Eyes members rush the Hydra, attacking different heads in a coordinated assault. A rushing Hydra head lunges at them, jaws open wide. A female fighter leaps in, slicing at a head while another ally shouts not to charge in without warning. She grins mid-attack while closing in with her blade. She carves a deep bloody gash along the Hydra as she jokingly asks if they are still not used to her. Another ally freezes part of the monster and scolds that they should still be more aware of each other. A red aura fighter, Toshiya, charges up and challenges his comrade to see who deals more damage. Toshiya unleashes a massive red slash that devastates one of the Hydra's heads. As the head falls, another ally considers how to respond to the challenge. A blue energy assassin dives down declaring that the loser will have to buy dinner. He cleaves another head in a vertical strike, showering the field with blood. One ally nearly crashes near Chino, apologizing as the wounded Hydra thrashes. Chino tells them not to worry about her and urges them to keep attacking. She raises a glowing orb and summons a huge pink barrier dome to handle defense. Subaru calls out to Chino, getting her attention as she holds the barrier. Standing close behind her, Itsuki slyly asks if she can defend against what he is about to do as well. Chino's eyes widen in shock as something goes horribly wrong. Itsuki suddenly stabs Chino through the chest from behind, remarking that this is what happens when someone gets cocky. Subaru, seeing her collapse, staggers and calls out her name in horror. Chino falls bleeding, the attack clearly fatal. Behind her body, Itsuki stands smiling, bloodied weapon in hand. Subaru's eye goes cold and furious at the sight of his fallen comrade. Itsuki taunts Subaru that this is no time to be distracted. Subaru, stunned, asks Itsuki why he is doing this as the Hydra hovers behind. The narrative flashes back to the moment every player first saw the tower's message, being chosen to climb in preparation for an unknown beginning. That first message is described as what every player sees when they enter the mysterious tower. It is explained that no one knows who created the tower or why, and that people can only obey the enigmatic command to climb. Players from many worlds strive toward the unreachable top, each from different realms such as Earth and other dimensions. Countless players from various dimensions march toward the tower's entrance and climb again, each with their own mission. Back in the Deadlands, smoke and debris fill the air after the Hydra's rampage. The battlefield is littered with the mutilated corpses of the Hydra, showing the brutal fight's aftermath. Among the carnage, Subaru's allies lie dead and impaled on the snowy ground. Subaru gasps raggedly, barely holding on after the slaughter. Narration reveals that despite being told to run, Subaru and his team defeated the supposedly impossible Floor 8 boss, Venom Dragon Hydra. Subaru looks at the bodies of his fallen comrades and bitterly says he never told them to die for him. He calls his dead friends idiots, overwhelmed with grief. System messages warn Subaru that he is poisoned, his fatigue is extremely high, and his condition is critical as he reflects that survivors will still praise him. Another warning states that reaching fatigue 100 means death. While Subaru imagines people lauding him as the master of lightning, he glares at Itsuki from the ground and asks why Itsuki betrayed them. Subaru screams at Kyojo Itsuki to answer him. Itsuki calmly says it has been 10 years leading up to this day and expects Subaru to understand. He explains that baiting Subaru and sacrificing Blue Eyes was the only way to defeat him without interference. The scene lingers on the corpses of Subaru's teammates, as the weight of the betrayal sinks in. Itsuki rants that Subaru has no idea how much being indebted to him twisted his life, so he chose the world over Subaru. Subaru weakly acknowledges that Itsuki's explanation is all there is to it. Itsuki admits it is a shame things ended this way but says he can finally glimpse the tower's end. He tosses the Archangel artifact away, saying there is no need to return it now that Blue Eyes will vanish with Subaru. Itsuki tells Subaru not to be sad because he will be remembered as a hero even in death. Subaru smirks bitterly, saying Itsuki always talks only about what he wants right to the end. Bloodied fingers dig into the ground as Subaru musters the last of his strength. He resolves that even if he cannot save himself, he will not let Itsuki's betrayal stand. Subaru's eye flares again as he prepares a final move. He opens his inventory interface and vows he will not go quietly. Itsuki's face twists in surprise as he senses Subaru's last stand. Subaru draws the legendary weapon Yahello's, whose power can create a storm that blows a target far away. He activates the item, shouting back that of course he would never reveal it earlier. System text shows Yahello still has 4 uses, and Subaru plans to use them to fire 4 blasts. He notes there are 4 Blue Eyes members still alive that he can rescue. Subaru unleashes a massive storm, intending at least to blow his surviving comrades to safety. The gale seizes people across the battlefield, flinging them high into the sky. Itsuki panics and orders his forces to chase them and not let anyone escape. Martial clans respond to the order and rush to pursue the fleeing Blue Eyes members. Subaru powers the gale further, determined not to let any pursuers reach his friends. He grins through the pain, swearing he will not allow escape for Itsuki's forces instead. Despite critical fatigue warnings, Subaru raises his flaming lightning aura and declares everyone will stay here. The system warns his fatigue has reached 95 and that his Master of Lightning state is time-limited. He triggers Master of Lightning Dissension, calling down colossal lightning around himself. Itsuki, sweating, admits Subaru's stubbornness as the power surges. Subaru's body is further wounded as fatigue spikes to 96. Surrounded by raging lightning, Subaru admits he cannot give anyone the glorious send-off they deserve. He promises Itsuki will pay for this betrayal with his life. Subaru solemnly declares that from now on no one leaves without his permission. Some enemy soldiers curse but commit to attacking, realizing they have no other choice. They charge Subaru in a desperate all-or-nothing rush. Subaru meets them head-on, cutting through their ranks in a storm of blades and lightning. He judges that these weaker enemies are not strong enough to kill his escaping comrades. However, he worries about what will happen once Itsuki personally intervenes. Subaru hurls his spear with a lightning-charged throw directly at Itsuki. He notes that Itsuki is finally far enough away, but his own fatigue climbs to 97. Subaru thinks he cannot stall much longer as more enemies swing at him. He barely dodges and counters another sword strike, body nearly at its limit. His fatigue rises to 98 as blood pours from his mouth. He cries out in pain yet continues charging toward Itsuki's line. A huge blast of power or blood erupts, obscuring the clash. Enemies recoil as Subaru's suicidal attack detonates in a red-tinged explosion among them. A bloody spear falls to the ground, showing that Subaru has been gravely wounded. One soldier gasps and exults that he has killed Narukami Subaru. Subaru suddenly grabs the man, lightning crackling, and coldly asks him to repeat that claim. A massive lightning shockwave radiates outward, frying the surrounding foes. Enemies convulse as dark lightning tears through their bodies. One charged soldier collapses at Subaru's feet, dead from the discharge. Subaru clutches the weapon buried in his own chest, still refusing to falter. He kneels alone amid corpses, his body wreathed in failing lightning while enemies ring him warily. Nearby soldiers stare at Subaru's collapsed form and wonder if they have finally defeated the monster. Itsuki approaches, remarking that it is hard to believe Subaru's era could end so easily. He continues to muse that Subaru's dominance appears to be over. System alerts show Subaru's fatigue at 99, warning that one more point means certain death. Subaru, staggering forward, calls out Itsuki's name, insisting Itsuki should know something above all others. He says that even at the very end, there is one truth Itsuki should never forget as he advances through the storm of lightning. Subaru, blazing with power, charges forward with a spear and a furious scream. He unleashes a massive golden attack, declaring that he will be the victor. In a snowy memory, Kyojo receives the blessing of the Archangel and coldly laments that if Subaru had not given it to him things would be different. Subaru widens his eyes in shock as the golden attack approaches. Mortally wounded, Subaru realizes in disbelief that even at the very end he remains the one who wins. In a void after death, Subaru calls his own end pathetic and regrets not landing the final blow on Kyojo, though he is sure his last strike hit. As he drifts near death, Subaru muses on his runaway thoughts, fears being trapped like this forever, then suddenly feels agonizing sensation. Smelling something foul, Subaru is startled to realize he can still sense odors and begins to suspect he is alive again. A metal trash can clatters on the ground in an alley. Subaru finds himself reborn in a filthy alley, half buried inside a trash can. Looking around the alley, he wonders if this place is really Earth. A status screen identifies this body as low-level Hasoi Subaru from Earth, and the bewildered Subaru mocks how pathetic the stats are. As foreign memories flood in painfully, he complains that the new name does not suit him. Past voices mock Earthlings as trash tier and say the previous Subaru was exceptional, while thugs assume this Subaru only came for moral support. Remembering, Subaru hears a scolding that he should at least match half the strength of the Subaru who died 20 years ago, and reacts in confusion. Realizing Narukami Subaru died 2 decades earlier, he concludes in shock that this weak body is that Subaru's namesake successor. Climbing out of the trash can, Subaru screams in frustration at the ridiculous situation. He slips and crashes to the ground, skidding across trash toward a strange tablet. On the floor he spots the device and stares at it intently. Picking it up, he recognizes it as a player kit and thinks he can use it to check on things. He operates the kit and searches for information related to Blue Eyes. Articles on the screen praise the Blue Zone Guild, its connection to Narukami Subaru and Blue Eyes, and recall Blue Eyes' heroism 20 years ago, leaving Subaru stunned. Seeing a modern image of Kyojo on the screen, Subaru realizes his old enemy survived. Narration clarifies that Kyojo, Itsuki, and Subaru were once not enemies at all. In a rooftop flashback, Itsuki confides late at night that he plans to leave their group Blue Eyes. Subaru, surprised, asks why, and Itsuki simply tells him to inform the others of his departure. Subaru recalls he had considered Itsuki a friend as Itsuki hints Subaru will understand his reasons someday. Itsuki promises he will remain Subaru's shadow even if they are apart, and later reappears having founded his own guild using their joking name, Blue Zone. Subaru remembers Blue Zone was the guild Itsuki had talked about, while new voices mock the present Subaru for still being stuck on a low tower floor after 20 years of nothing. Hearing this, Subaru reacts tensely, beads of sweat running down his face. Through his tablet, Subaru reads that crowds still gather at a Narukami Subaru Memorial Hall every year to honor him. Subaru arrives at the imposing Narukami Subaru Memorial Hall and cannot believe such a grand place is dedicated to him. Awed by the lavish building, he admits it is far fancier than anything he had imagined. He notices a black and gold mask on display that matches the one he once wore. Inside the hall, he watches a holographic projection replay his own past battle as Blue Eyes before visitors. Troubled, Subaru wonders why anyone would immortalize him like this. He walks closer to watch the projected fight more carefully. Staring at the huge recording of his final stand, he questions who created this memorial and for what purpose. As he listens to the narration calling him their constant guide, he clutches his head in emotional turmoil. The memorial voice recounts that Narukami Subaru, the hero behind Blue Eyes who climbed farthest in the tower, led them and became a legend. It explains that Subaru's comrades built the hall to keep his memory alive forever. Hearing this, Subaru protests inwardly, refusing to accept that story. The hologram reveals that Itsuki and Blue Zone were the ones who constructed the memorial. Rage boiling, Subaru grits his teeth at this revelation. The holographic Itsuki proclaims that Subaru and Blue Eyes are gone, while presenting Blue Zone as the guild inheriting their noble spirit. Itsuki continues the speech about Blue Zone upholding Subaru's ideals, but Subaru silently curses that claim as blatant lies. Subaru demands to know if killing him was not enough for Itsuki and vows he will live up to Itsuki's false expectations in his own way. Itsuki's recording adds that Subaru and Blue Eyes may never return, but Subaru mentally promises that Itsuki will have to face him again. Itsuki ends by saying they will never forget Subaru and Blue Eyes, smiling with feigned sincerity. Subaru, glaring at the hologram, swears to rewrite everyone's memory of these events from the ground up. Determined, he resolves not to let the same tragedy happen again. He bolts out of the hall, promising not to waste this second chance at life. In the lobby he bumps into a small boy and stops, while the boy groans in pain on the floor. Subaru helps the child up and kindly asks if he is alright. As the kid steadies himself, Subaru suddenly notices something strange. The boy raises his head wearing a black and gold mask identical to Subaru's old one, shocking him. The boy's masked parents rush over apologizing and checking on their son, while Subaru brushes off the accident. Seeing that the parents also wear versions of his mask, Subaru is stunned to realize many people now copy his former look. He turns away, disoriented, trying to process what he has just seen. Subaru rubs his eyes as if hoping it is all a bad dream. Still shaken, he stammers in disbelief. Looking around, he sees that almost every visitor in the hall is wearing a Blue Eyes style mask. Among the crowd he glimpses a masked blonde man being dragged along, wondering what on earth is happening. Subaru recalls Kyojo's final words to him, telling him not to look so sad about dying. He relives that moment where Kyojo smirked and assured him that even if Subaru died, he would still be hailed as a hero. Outside, Subaru walks away from the hall, finally understanding the twisted meaning behind those words. Narrowing his eyes, he quietly mutters Kyojo's name with hatred. He hurries toward the back of the memorial, pushing through the massed crowd. Inside the main chamber, he sees an ornate altar covered in blue and gold flowers beneath a portrait of his masked former self. Staring at the shrine, Subaru wonders if the entire setup exists only so Kyojo can steal Blue Eye's achievements. His eyes suddenly widen as something catches his attention at the altar. Among the flowers, he spots a glowing blue chrysanthemum-like blossom reacting to his presence. The sight of this special flower triggers a powerful emotional response in his eyes. Pushed along by the flow of mourners, he is jostled away from the altar. Determined, Subaru forces his way back through the line despite staff shouting at him. He falls to his knees before the altar, ignoring the commotion. Reaching into the bed of flowers, he grabs the glowing blossom. Holding the radiant chrysanthemum, he wonders aloud if Asagiri's Shu was the one who left it there. Elsewhere atop a building, a hooded figure surveys the city from the rooftop edge. The cloaked man comments that they have survived to another anniversary. His hooded companion chides him for being too relaxed, saying they nearly ran into the blue zone. The silver-haired man jokes that they could have just left simple flowers instead of traveling so far for every memorial. Pulling back his hood, he replies that you never know what might happen. Revealing his face, Shu remarks that maybe Subaru will notice the flowers he left for him. His companion questions if Shu still believes Subaru is alive, and Shu admits he never personally saw Subaru's corpse. The other man grumbles that they are more likely to be caught by Kyojo than find Subaru. He argues that if Subaru were alive, he would not have watched them be hunted for 20 years, while Shu only smiles knowingly. Time passes to sunset, birds flying across the orange sky. In a forest, Subaru runs until he is out of breath, sweat dripping as he gasps. He glances at his feet, wondering if the man he seeks is truly still alive. Bent over in the woods, he questions again whether Shu has survived. Subaru clutches the metallic chrysanthemum, calling out Shu's name with renewed resolve. Back at Hasoi Subaru's modest room, he looks around the bare space and notes how poor the former owner must have been. Using his kit, he searches everywhere for traces of Blue Eyes and finds nothing, but reads plenty about Kyojo. Even so, he confirms from records that Shu definitely survived. He concludes that Shu has been alive but in hiding for 20 years, likely because of Kyojo. Subaru reasons that Kyojo must be the reason Shu disappeared, since Kyojo would never let anyone who knows the truth go free. Remembering the battle where Kyojo obliterated Blue Eyes, he admits he does not know how many comrades besides Shu survived, but contacting them now would be suicidal. He reflects that as long as Kyojo dominates, reaching out would only get them all killed. Acknowledging his own current weakness, he decides that charging in recklessly would only make things worse. He looks at his old mask and the blue chrysanthemum, deciding on his first step. Subaru resolves to regain his former strength. Remembering Hasoi's memories, he recalls that a player qualification tutorial is scheduled soon. He prepares his sword, planning to use the upcoming tutorial in 2 days as his starting point. With sword drawn, he tells himself that if Shu is alive, he must grow strong enough to reach him. He believes that if she truly lives, their paths will eventually cross again. The scene shifts to the massive tutorial trial grounds arena. In the center, a bloody trainee stands among slain goblins. Trial supervisor Hyuga watches quietly, clipboard in hand. The exhausted trainee has just finished off his goblin opponents. Hyuga tells the panting man that he barely passed. Hyuga then asks if he wants to attempt the next stage, surprising the worn-out trainee. A prompt appears explaining that each higher step adds another goblin and offers greater rewards, leaving the man anxious. He yells that he refuses to fight 3 goblins at once, while Hyuga grumbles that his shouting is giving him a headache. The panicked trainee insists that a pass is still a pass as he is teleported away in blue light. Watching him vanish, Hyuga mutters that such weaklings will not survive beyond the tutorial and laments having to let them advance. He notes that only Isaac, Reinhardt's son, managed to reach step 20, dismissing all other participants as worthless. Disgusted, Hyuga says the tutorial has become far too easy and kids these days are pathetic. Checking his device again, Hyuga suddenly notices something unusual. Subaru steps into the arena, approaching with sword in hand as Hyuga observes. Hyuga comments that Narukami Subaru is a heavy name to bear. Looking at Subaru from the platform, he adds that this is assuming Subaru can even pass the test. A system announcement begins as Subaru listens impassively. The screen declares that 2 goblins will be released and must be defeated. As Hyuga begins to formally start the tutorial, Subaru moves before he can finish. Subaru blurs forward and slices, decapitating both goblins in an instant. Hyuga, stunned, wonders what just sped past him as goblin heads fly. He then sees the decapitated goblins raining down around him while Subaru stands further away. Subaru smirks, thinking it was wise to spend the last 2 days non-stop training this body. He recognizes that this reincarnated body is actually very gifted. Hasoi Subaru simply never used its stats properly. When asked if he wants to challenge the next step, Subaru answers confidently and urges them not to waste his time. Hyuga's eyes bulge in shock at this attitude and display of strength. A goblin head rolls to Hyuga's feet. Surveying the arena full of goblin corpses, Hyuga exclaims in disbelief at what is happening. Watching Subaru continue to cut through waves of goblins, Hyuga begins to sweat nervously. He realizes Subaru's attacks are not wild swings but precise, calculated strikes. Observing the battle, he notes Subaru is reading the fight several moves ahead. Subaru's bloody sword hovers steadily in his grip. Hyuga concludes that Subaru's ability goes beyond ordinary swordsmanship and borders on something supernatural. Subaru smiles confidently amid the chaos, sword resting on his shoulder. Hyuga thinks Subaru's combat strength is unbelievable, comparable only to Narukami Subaru himself reborn. A ferocious elite goblin charges, only to be slashed by Subaru's blade. Subaru casually cuts down yet another goblin while its companion freezes in fear. A prompt appears stating Subaru has cleared step 49 and asking if he wants to face the final boss. Catching his breath, Subaru calmly agrees to attempt it. Surrounded by fallen goblins, Subaru steels himself as power gathers for the next stage. The arena floor cracks and surges with energy as the final challenge is summoned. From the shattered ground, a towering goblin boss with a massive club erupts before Subaru. Hyuga frantically shouts at Subaru to stop, warning that even Narukami Subaru struggled with this foe and begging him not to throw his life away. Ignoring the warning, Subaru stands firm with sword drawn as the colossal goblin boss roars and descends upon him. The Goblin King senses the heavy casualties up to step 49 and flies into a rage. The old examiner shouts that they must retreat, saying challenging the Goblin King is far too reckless. As the towering Goblin King approaches, the examiner warns that fighting it is suicidal and that greed cannot overcome such a stat gap. Subaru inwardly admits that with his current stats he likely cannot even scratch the Goblin King. Despite that realization, he tightens his grip on his sword, determined to keep fighting. He then refuses to continue the straightforward fight, rejecting the obvious approach. Subaru deliberately drops his sword at his feet on the blood-stained floor. The examiner panics, thinking Subaru has lost his mind for discarding his weapon now. As the enraged Goblin King charges, the examiner yells that he knew something was strange about Subaru from the beginning. A small poison needle strikes the Goblin King in the thigh, drawing blood. The Goblin King growls in surprise as it realizes it has been pricked by something. A bead of sweat runs down the Goblin King's face as it senses danger. The Goblin King watches, confused, as Subaru calmly picks up a goblin's crude club from the ground. Subaru reveals multiple poison needles in his hand and taunts the Goblin King for being surprised. Holding the needles, Subaru proposes a wager with the advancing Goblin King about what will happen first. He declares the bet is whether the Goblin King beats him, or he turns it into a pincushion with the needles. Subaru whips his arm and begins hurling the spinning needles with precise force. The Goblin King roars for an answer as the poison needles rain toward it. Struck and poisoned, the Goblin King screams in agony. Multiple needles bury into the Goblin King's body as Subaru dashes in closer. The Goblin King raises its axe to retaliate, determined to crush Subaru. Subaru slips past the blinded Goblin King and slams it into the floor with a powerful strike. Using the opening, Subaru closes in, readying the next phase of his attack. His eyes sharpen with focus as he commits fully to the fight. A flashback shows Subaru training knife throws at a tree target. The training throw misses, showing his struggle to hit the mark. His instructor tells Reina that the current throwing form is ineffective. Reina cheerfully explains that any object can become a throwing knife if its balance is understood. She demonstrates flipping a pen-like object into a throwing grip. Reina shows that once you find the center of gravity, you can throw it like a proper knife. Her throw perfectly pierces the center of the practiced target. Back in the present, a poison needle lodges in the Goblin King's mouth and blood streams out. The Goblin King staggers, riddled with needles and vomiting blood as it screeches. Subaru recalls Reina's lesson that more spin gives more power and that hesitation ruins accuracy. He notes that all of this is exactly what Reina taught him about throwing. The examiner realizes Subaru cleverly used the fact that goblin corpses and poison needles persist until the trial ends. Remembering Subaru's swordsmanship, the examiner notes he can already cut down goblins easily. He then marvels that Subaru can also hit precise targets with thrown weapons, calling him a genius. Watching the wounded but still standing Goblin King, the examiner thinks even the word genius does not fully capture Subaru. At last the Goblin King collapses in front of Subaru, defeated. Subaru calmly picks his dropped sword back up from the bloody ground. Standing over the dying Goblin King, Subaru says he bears it no personal grudge. He then drives his blade down, finishing the monster in a spray of blood. A system window appears announcing that Subaru has defeated the Goblin King. Another window states he is the first to clear tutorial step 50, and he begrudges how brutal this so-called tutorial is. System messages flood in that he leveled up, gained credits and achievement points, and unlocked a tutorial shop. Wondering what he can buy, Subaru opens the shop for the first time and sees he has 2,425 points. Browsing cheap items and skills, he notes that their prices are low compared to his available points. Something on the list shocks him, catching his full attention. He discovers an expensive rare weapon called the Unnamed Demon Blade and is surprised such a thing can be bought here. Tempted yet cautious, he considers that the blade drains stamina and wonders how it would combine with his lightning ability. He decides that what he truly needs is the Sacred Sword option that boosts endurance, not the Demon Blade alone. Subaru weighs the raw power of the Demon Blade against the survivability of the Holy Sword, unsure which to choose. He concludes that either weapon alone feels right and that his first purchase must be chosen very carefully. Then he notices the shop menu can scroll further down. Realizing there is more, he scrolls deeper into the list. He finds a rare skill called Wedge of Greed that suppresses side effects from any skills or items he uses. Astonished, Subaru thinks he has never seen a skill like that before. He reasons that Wedge of Greed might cancel the penalties of the Demon Blade, or even his lightning power. Subaru spends his points to purchase both Wedge of Greed and the unnamed Demon Blade, deciding the combo is worth testing. He concludes that if the synergy works as hoped, the skill and Demon Blade will be a perfect pair, so he fully commits to that path. The examiner, introducing himself as Hyuga, praises the choice but admits he does not understand Subaru's reasoning. Hyuga asks why he bought such an inefficient, unproven skill. Subaru, exasperated, complains that explaining his logic is a hassle. When Hyuga reacts aggressively, Subaru forces himself to respond politely while internally grumbling about formal speech. Hyuga lets Subaru's attitude slide, assuming he is just exhausted, and gives his name while Subaru notes it. Subaru recognizes Hyuga as the boy he once knew, now grown into an examiner, and reflects on that change. A flashback shows a nervous fan asking masked Hyuga for an autograph. Hyuga coldly tells the fan he has no autograph, leaving the boy flustered. The fan then desperately asks Hyuga to at least write his name, introducing himself as Hyuga. In the present, Hyuga rants about how young players today lack manners, while Subaru silently mocks his receding hairline. Subaru refuses to explain his choices further and only asks Hyuga to keep his trial results confidential, prompting more grumbling. Annoyed, Hyuga vows to drill proper manners into Subaru from scratch. He then tries to recruit Subaru into his Nightly Way guild, but Subaru bluntly turns him down. As Subaru chooses to move on to floor 2, Hyuga protests that being personally scouted is a rare honor. Subaru teleports away while Hyuga runs after him, shouting that he is not finished talking. Left alone, Hyuga sighs that he must have overestimated Subaru. Subaru materializes on the second floor, arriving in a bustling town. He takes in the noisy marketplace called the Starting Grounds on floor 2. Hearing vendors hawking exotic clothes, Subaru notes that he has returned to this familiar place. He reflects that he has received a chance nobody should ever have. He frames this as his second run through the tower. Since he has already lived this once, he resolves to be smarter this time. Remembering his old teammates and their horrific deaths, he swears to find them and get the revenge they never had. He heads to the solo training grounds where players privately test new skills and equipment. Subaru enters the facility that every player regularly uses. The receptionist suggests he take the basic first training room with straw dummies. Subaru instead requests the much harder and more expensive fifth room, surprising the clerk. The clerk warns him he is wasting money and urges him again to take room 1, but Subaru insists on half an hour in room 5. Ignoring further complaints and the no-refund policy, Subaru pays 50 credits and walks toward room 5. The narration explains that higher-numbered rooms are more dangerous. Meanwhile, another newbie flees a giant boulder trap in room 3, showing how brutal the higher rooms are, especially for someone with poor gear. Subaru grasps the handle of room 5, ready to enter. He steps into the ruined chamber and says it is time to begin his training. He draws the Demon Blade, preparing to test it. The unnamed Demon Blade activates, beginning a user verification process as it glows red in his hands. His stats surge at the cost of rapidly draining his stamina and mana, causing him intense pain. Wedge of Greed kicks in, partially negating the Demon Blade's backlash and restoring some stamina and mana. Even so, Subaru feels his fatigue climb and realizes he expected too much from a level 1 skill, but decides to push a bit further. The Demon Blade keeps devouring his stamina as his stats rise in proportion to what is consumed. Bloodied and shaking, Subaru tests how far he can go and senses the upper limit of his body. The system reports he spent 10,000 credits, and that Wedge of Greed has leveled up. Now at level 2, Wedge of Greed requires far more credits for the next upgrade but better suppresses item side effects. Subaru repeats the process until the skill grants noticeable resistance to the Demon Blade's penalties. With the blade still drawing stamina, he swings again to further push his limits. His stats spike again, and he approves of the increased power despite the strain. Bracing himself, he charges forward for a full power test strike. He unleashes a devastating slash that obliterates the room's deadly mechanisms. While the clerk naps at the front desk, unaware, the training continues. Hearing something, the clerk wakes up, confused. Half asleep, he questions whether he is still dreaming. He glimpses Subaru leaving a bloody trail as the young man staggers out of room 5, silhouetted by light. The clerk wonders if that was the client from room 5, surprised it ended so quickly. Curious, he knocks on the 5th room's door to check if the ambitious youth is still inside. He cautiously opens the door to peek in. The shocking sight inside makes him shout in disbelief. He sees the room utterly destroyed, with shattered traps and devastation everywhere, and wonders what happened. Elsewhere, morning light streams into Subaru's room as he awakens with a groan. Stretching, Subaru wonders how long he slept and notes that his body still feels stiff. Over breakfast, he reflects that only a flawed weapon like the Demon Blade allowed yesterday's events. Otherwise, things would have gone very differently. He notes that thanks to Wedge of Greed, the strain on his body has eased a bit, meaning he can now draw out more of the sword's power. Checking his current stats, Subaru realizes he should not even be able to wield the Demon Blade properly at his level, much less use its full strength. He concludes that Wedge of Greed and the Demon Blade were made for each other. Therefore, he reasons the skill should also work well with his lightning ability. His next obstacle is raising Wedge of Greed further, but seeing it costs 20,000 credits while he has only 50, he laments how broke he is. Subaru muses that he has truly hit rock bottom financially, then casually greets some newcomers entering the inn. A flamboyant streamer arrives on floor 2 to film a segment where he asks young players about the cost of their gear. During the live broadcast, a viewer named Alexander sends the streamer a donation of 1,000 credits. Delighted by the big tip, the streamer gushes his thanks while getting splashed with his own drink. Watching from above, Subaru stares out the window and wonders what on earth that guy is doing. A close-up of Subaru's eye shows his curiosity and growing interest. Reading an article about how common live streaming is among players, Subaru contemplates streaming as well. He concludes that live streaming is a real-time video system that brings in donations and realizes this is what the flamboyant man was doing just outside. Just then, a well-dressed blonde man approaches Subaru, greeting him and noting he also advanced a floor. The man sits beside Subaru, making small talk and asking if Subaru plans to stay around here. Subaru feels his body react with instinctive unease, sensing that he and this man are not on friendly terms. As the man complains about being ignored by a supposed friend, Subaru realizes the feeling is more like fear than mere discomfort. Subaru acknowledges his fear aloud and admits he just recently arrived on this floor. The man remarks it is surprising Subaru cleared the tutorial at all. Smiling cruelly, he says no one expected a nobody like Subaru to survive the tutorial. Subaru glares as the man adds that he assumed the goblins would beat Subaru to death, which triggers an old memory. A flashback shows Subaru as a bruised younger boy asking Isaac in terror why he is doing this to him. Isaac coldly answers that he is tormenting Subaru because he considers him trash. Isaac further mocks him for his name and background, calling him a disobedient, parentless fool. Young Subaru protests that the credits Isaac gave him were not enough. Isaac violently kicks Subaru while shouting that he never asked for Subaru's opinion. He then tears up Subaru's blanket and declares that from now on the alley with the trash is Subaru's home. Eating in front of him, Isaac tells Subaru he will never escape this place and threatens what will happen if he ever tries to leave. Returning to the present, Subaru thinks the previous Hasoi Subaru was pathetic for letting himself be bullied and dumped in a trash can. Isaac boasts that he broke his father's record by reaching step 20 and recalls Hyuga praising him as Reinhardt's son, while Subaru listens with a terse response. The blonde man boasts that he earned a high-grade B-rank skill as the best reward from the tutorial and casually decides to get himself a drink. The dark-haired protagonist drinks while the blonde tells him to relax, and the protagonist says he is about to leave. Hearing that, the blonde cheerfully orders the protagonist to fetch him coffee and a snack of his choosing. The protagonist is confused, and the blonde face bombs, calling him a hopeless fool. Growing suspicious, the blonde asks why the protagonist keeps staring at him like something is off, jokingly wondering if his soul was replaced. The protagonist bluntly refuses to buy coffee, saying he has no extra credits, and the blonde should pay for himself. The blonde's expression hardens as he curtly orders the protagonist to sit back down. The protagonist thinks he has no time to get involved in someone else's revenge, unless that person interferes with his own. Realizing the danger, the protagonist's eye widens in alarm. The blonde violently grabs his arm to stop him from leaving. He menacingly asks if the protagonist wants to learn what happens to runaway trash. The protagonist warns him in a low voice to release his grip. Their confrontation draws the attention of everyone else in the cafe. A memory surfaces of someone once telling the blonde not to get overconfident, calling him Subaru. The memory focuses on Subaru's intense red eye. The protagonist restrains himself, thinking he cannot cause a scene in front of this many people, or it will create problems later. The blonde suddenly bursts into laughter, dropping the threatening act. He brushes it off as just teasing like old times, insisting the protagonist is still weak. Mocking him further, he claims the protagonist must have barely survived the tutorial, and is just feeling cocky. The protagonist quietly shifts his stance, his boots scraping the floor as if steeling himself. The memory continues with another taunt to bragging about his powerful father, and how easily he could make Subaru disappear, asking if Subaru really wants to oppose him. Back in the cafe, the blonde jokingly tells the protagonist to take care out there as they part ways. The protagonist silently watches him go, internally scoffing at being called a friend. Narration explains that players have two primary ways to grow stronger. The first method is to challenge the tower's official trials, climbing floor by floor and naturally gaining strength through rewards. These paid virtual trials allow safe growth, where death only costs the credits spent and any progress made. The second method is hunting. Hunting involves killing monsters in the real world or clearing special field dungeons, which yields faster growth than trials but carries real lethal risk. In hunting grounds, dying means permanent death, as shown by adventurers devoured by monsters. One such hunting location is introduced, a dungeon called Lair of the Waiting Orcs, which most players avoid since few want to risk their lives. Despite the danger, narration hints at an exception. The protagonist is revealed resting amid corpses of orcs, remarking that safer routes slow growth. He notes that the more dangerous the area, the faster one can develop. He pulls out his tablet device, preparing to check something. Looking at the screen, he mutters in thought as he browses. He finds a masked streamer using the name Narakami Subaru with an audience of 80,000 viewers. The screen shows the masked figure hyping up his attempt at Floor 3's trial, while the chat jokes about him repeatedly failing it. Watching, the protagonist realizes this man is impersonating Narakami Subaru, wondering how many copycats exist now. A system message appears announcing a mission titled after Narukami Subaru being an idiot, offering 20,000 credits if cleared, which the fake Subaru happily accepts. Shocked at the payout, the protagonist realizes that there are hefty mission bounties tied to streams. More missions from viewers pile on, quickly raising the total reward as the fake Subaru gleefully thanks his benefactors. A comedic comparison shows the fake Subaru raking in money streaming while the real Subaru had to literally risk his life slaying monsters. The protagonist fumes that the impersonator is making a fortune while he sits with only 50 credits. He silently stares at the stream, thinking. Standing up beside a slain orc, he sighs as if reaching a decision. He pulls his blood-soaked demon sword free, saying he has one more task to handle before leaving. Heavy footsteps announce approaching enemies. A group of snarling orcs emerges from the tunnel darkness. A notification declares that the dungeon boss, the orc general, has appeared. Facing the new enemies, the protagonist muses that although he lacks poison needles this time, he has something even better. System messages describe his unnamed demon blade that drains stamina in exchange for boosting all stats, while his Wedge of Greed skill negates the blade's side effects, and he tells the watching orcs he is busy. After restoring some stamina and mana, he contemptuously calls the ordinary monsters small fry as he stomps one. He launches orcs through the air with overwhelming force. He follows up in midair with a brutal finishing attack. The orc general looks up in alarm as the protagonist hurtles toward him. The protagonist's eyes blaze red as he delivers a devastating strike. A notification announces the lair of the waiting orc's dungeon cleared while the protagonist holds the familiar mask in his hand, surprised to be using it again. He resolves to put the mask back on because streaming could earn him significant credits. Donning the mask, he decides that if he is going to do this, he will lean fully into what he does best. Fully masked, he stares into the mirror, gearing up for his new role. Sword in hand, he steps out into the light, asserting that he is the genuine Narukami Subaru. Elsewhere, a notification announces that Narukami Subaru has started a live stream, drawing the attention of Azure Sky Entertainment. Inside the office, the empty workstations wait as the notification spreads. A woman in ornate clothing sees the alert on her device and becomes intrigued. She clenches her teeth in frustration, clearly affected by what she sees. She then screams in rage, startling her coworker. Exploding in insults, she calls failed streamers useless trash and cannot believe 5 of them all failed the same mission. Her colleague reminds her that swearing can incur censorship penalties and asks who is bothering her now. She answers Tsubkichi. They joke about this Tsubkichi being just another cheap Subaru knockoff, remarking that since the real Narukami never appears, whoever draws the most attention effectively becomes him. She laments that streaming has devolved into endless Narukami Subaru cosplays and worries the whole industry might be fading, while her coworker panics since their jobs depend on streamers. She argues that these fakes disrespect real players risking their lives in the tower, while he cautiously tries to calm her down. He then pointedly asks why, with those beliefs, she herself is still stuck on the lower floors. She pauses, then flatly admits it is because climbing is boring. She points out that he also gave up climbing and tells him to go recruit worthwhile rookies instead of nagging her, while he sheepishly says he lacks talent. He privately reflects that she originally started climbing just to meet Narukami Subaru, and without that goal she lost her drive, when something surprising on her screen cuts him off. Noticing, he exclaims that an incredible kid has appeared, prompting her to ask if he has found yet another oddball. She instead says it is a new Narukami Subaru cosplayer, as the stream shows the masked protagonist walking alone through a dungeon with a single viewer. Her coworker is incredulous that this is what she calls rookie scouting and questions why she is watching a zero-view Floor 2 stream. She confesses that whenever someone wears that mask she cannot help but hope it is the real Narukami Subaru. The system deducts 1,000 credits from the coworker for more censored swearing, and he apologizes. Meanwhile, the Floor 2 trial begins, tasking challengers to clear the Dungeon of Beginnings while earning achievement points from killing monsters. The protagonist enters the trial's cave, acknowledging that this floor is tedious. Despite that, he feels added pressure knowing there are viewers watching him. His tiny chat asks what floor he is on. The stream currently has only 2 viewers. They ask if this is his first run, and he answers that yes, it is. The viewer questions if he should really be streaming a blind run without knowing the route. A one-eyed bat suddenly swoops at him. He calmly grabs the bat mid-air. He smashes it to the ground and finishes it off with his sword. A notification awards him 1 achievement point for killing the bat, and he curtly asks chat if there is a problem with how he fights. The interface reiterates the floor and dungeon details as his first attempt continues. Another overlay repeats the objective and the AP system as he advances deeper into the cave. Chat praises his reflexes and notes that streaming from floor 2 is unusual. Another viewer warns that most streamers quit if views do not grow and advises him to wait for a party. The protagonist politely declines the suggestion, saying he appreciates the advice but will not follow it. He tells them he prefers going solo while chat reacts in disbelief and amusement. He notes that simply using the Narukami Subaru name is already pulling in viewers as he strides onward. He slices through a lunging mud mermaid-like monster. He tightly grips his demon sword, ready for more. He vows to push as far as he can in this attempt. System messages show he has already killed a mud mermaid and gained 2 AP. While chat discusses what they saw, more bats swarm him from the front. He unleashes a sweeping strike that cuts down many of them at once. Blood flies as he continues carving through the flock with relentless ferocity. Viewers react in confusion and awe, sensing something has awakened in him as the live viewer count climbs to 10. Notifications tally more kills of bats and mud mermaids, and the AP gained as he explains that by listening carefully he can tell where enemies are and how many approach. He casually says that if you understand that much, it should be easy, while chat insists no normal person could do what he is doing. Internally, he decides he cannot stop yet and must stockpile as many achievement points as possible before exiting. Determined, he marches forward through the dungeon with his sword ready. Chat questions whether he has simply been walking straight this whole time, and warns that charging ahead blindly will get him killed. His foot skids as he abruptly halts. He looks up, realizing why the Chad is so worried. Above him the cave roof is packed with countless one-eyed bats, all poised to drop. A close-up shows one bat's enormous red eye charging with power. The cloud of bats prepares to attack as viewers jokingly bid him farewell, assuming he is doomed. A mission appears from a viewer named My Dead Stream, promising 100 credits if he kills every bat present. Chat laughs about the bait mission, but the protagonist reads it with interest. He thanks My Dead Stream for the mission and the promised 100 credits. Back at Azure Sky, his blue-haired coworker slams his fist in frustration at whatever stream he is watching. Screaming at the original Subaru's old career, he laments that Subaru retired after doing well up to floor 6. He quickly apologizes for yelling while the woman continues to watch silently. She stares at her screen in growing disbelief. Her coworker asks if she is okay and what she is watching, surprised by her uncharacteristic quietness. She mutters that what she is seeing cannot be real, while he nervously insists he did not gamble that much money and can repay her. She clarifies that is not what she meant, intently focused on the screen. She breathes Narukami Subaru's name and admits she is still watching that masked guy's stream. Her coworker, stunned, whispers that it cannot be. The stream now shows the protagonist annihilating massive swarms of bats alone, while spectators in chat marvel at his skill and question if he is really a floor 2 newbie. A flashback overlays his deadly movements with training from his silver-haired mentor, while another viewer gushes that Subaru is amazing. In the memory, the mentor praises his ability to adjust sword angles mid-swing while keeping breathing and gaze steady. From a wider view, the mentor asks if he is always compensating in advance for enemies' movements as he cuts them down in one hit. Subaru thinks it over, then honestly admits that he is not really doing anything special. The mentor calls him infuriatingly talented for saying that. Their chibi forms argue about whether being unable to do that is actually the unusual thing. Back in the dungeon, Subaru recalls that even his mentor did not fully understand his instincts and had instead taught him about eye contact and clarity in communication. He explains on stream that one-eyed bats always charge headfirst, so more of them just means a bigger shared opening. Demonstrating, he cuts through them in a single sweeping motion. Viewers protest that his explanation clarifies nothing, while one of them insists something inside Subaru has awakened. Subaru admits that describing his technique is difficult even though it feels simple to him. A viewer reminds him to claim his mission reward. Subaru pauses in thought, staring at his tablet. He stands awkwardly in the blood-soaked cave while chat wonders if the stream is lagging. He admits he does not know how to claim the mission credits, causing chat to laugh at his lack of streaming savvy. Following Love Money's instructions, he taps the claim button and receives confirmation that My Dead Stream has gifted him 100 credits, which he thanks them for. With his credits and AP total displayed, he announces to his 20 viewers that he will make one final push to the exit. Back at the office building under the night sky, a scream of amazement echoes out. The woman declares the stream insane, the only word she feels fits, while her coworker mutters that she is the crazy one. She challenges him, asking if he has ever seen a stream like this before, while he cannot understand why she is so worked up over a mere floor 2 run. She shouts that of course she would freak out at such skill, and he hurriedly apologizes. Swooning, she recalls that Narukami Subaru is from Earth like her, convinced their shared origin must be destiny. She then wildly theorizes that the masked streamer might be Narukami Subaru reincarnated, while her coworker sighs that she always loses her mind whenever Subaru is involved. Wika swoons dramatically, saying she feels dizzy and imagining Kaiharu when she closes her eyes. Kaiharu yells for her not to do it, accusing her of planning to scout the masked player, while she demands to know why not. She defiantly admits she wants to scout him, while Kaiharu argues the guy is talented but an unknown newbie with a dead stream, which she says she already understands. Kaiharu insists she does not understand and warns the department head will yell at her again, while she protests that he was just gambling and wonders why he is suddenly so serious. Ignoring him, Wika tells him to watch her and activates the video on her device. On her screen, the masked protagonist appears inside a dungeon. The protagonist walks toward a massive doorway with a blade in hand as dust and debris swirl. Reaching a terminal at the dungeon's end, he notes that he has arrived at the final room. The heavy doors begin to rumble and open. As the doors part, he prepares himself and wonders what is inside. He sees a huge, beastly figure identified as Greg. The creature rises, revealed as a terrifying wolf warrior, while chat messages recall how hard it is to get past him. A system prompt tells the protagonist he must earn the wolf warrior's acknowledgement and pass through a door to continue the trial. He reflects that wolf warriors are not mere hunters but gatekeepers who judge whether a player who cleared the dungeon of beginnings can advance. Another mission window offers him 3,000 credits if he defeats the wolf warrior, grabbing his attention. Shocked by the bounty of 3,000, he repeats the amount in disbelief. As his live view count hovers around 20, chatters doubt the client will pay, remark that the wolf warrior is not meant to be killed, and think the protagonist is wasting credits. Greg shifts and begins to move. The wolf warrior flexes his scarred body and limbs as he rises to full height. A status window names him Wolf Warrior Greg, Floor 2 Gatekeeper, as he fully unleashes his power. Greg looks down at the protagonist and remarks he has a customer. Puzzled that there is only one challenger, Greg comments on the lone human before him. Greg asks if it is really just the protagonist there, and the protagonist dryly answers by asking if he sees anyone else. Sniffing him up close, Greg calls the masked human amusing and says he smells like a great warrior, while chatters share what scents Greg claimed they had. The protagonist thinks about how wolf warriors can distinguish unique scents. He recalls that they sense a person's true essence, not body odor, and Greg declares that the protagonist already has the qualifications to pass. Greg ends the official trial, telling the protagonist he may proceed onward, while viewers marvel at this unexpected non-combat result. The protagonist notes that this never happened in his previous life but decides to continue since coming here and meeting Greg was his main purpose anyway. Greg is surprised to learn that the protagonist's goal is Greg himself, not the door behind him. The protagonist calmly states that someone has commissioned him to kill Greg. Greg laughs in admiration, saying such boldness suits someone with the soul of a great warrior. Time passes, indicated by a peaceful plant scene. Wika and Kaihara stand before their department head's desk to report about the streamer. The chief types on his keyboard and prompts them to continue. Introducing himself as Azure Sky Entertainment Department Head John Tail, he asks how many viewers the streamer currently has. Kaihara nervously answers that the stream has about 20 viewers, only to be immediately corrected. Wika brightly notes that the streamer has now exceeded 30 viewers, while Kaihara grumbles internally that it is not a big improvement. John wonders if they are playing a prank on him by bringing such a small streamer. He scolds Kaihara for gambling on company time and complains that he asked for a worthwhile prospect but was given someone with only 20 viewers. Wika insists that it is actually 30 viewers, but John snaps that the exact number does not matter. John suggests that talented Wika herself should start streaming, but she cuts him off. Wika reports that after another look, the streamer's audience has already grown past 40, while Kaihara frantically tries to calm the fuming chief. Back in the dungeon, the protagonist calmly faces Greg, preparing for the fight. Greg roars and lunges, claws extended, initiating the battle. The protagonist grips his demonic sword and tells himself to clear his mind. He activates the unnamed demon blade, which consumes his stamina to dramatically boost all his stats, while he reminds himself to stay relaxed. A system notice states that Wedge of Greed LV2 is suppressing the blade's side effects, and he thinks that even though this is his first time using it, he will be fine. Greg charges with ferocious speed, while the protagonist resolves simply to do what he always does. Their first clash sends sparks flying as sword and claws collide. Greg follows up with a sweeping strike as the battle intensifies. The two rush at each other again, unleashing powerful blows that fill the room with shockwaves. The protagonist's feet dig into the ground as he dashes, showing his heightened agility. Trading fierce attacks, he realizes how strong Greg is. He concludes that brute strength alone cannot beat Greg, but hints that he has another plan. Greg acknowledges that the protagonist truly is a warrior. Greg counters with a massive blue energy attack that the protagonist narrowly evades. Greg boasts that the protagonist is still no match for him as he presses the assault. The protagonist tightens his grip on the demon blade, preparing a decisive counter. Under heavy pressure and forced into defense, he still impresses viewers, who note how strong he is. Chatters speculate he might clear it after a few tries and criticize whoever gave him the mission, while the protagonist continues advancing on Greg. Exhausted, he thinks that sometimes strategy beats strength, and Greg praises how well he has entertained him. Greg leaps, declaring that the fight will end now, bearing down on the cornered protagonist. Greg slams into the ground, but something unexpected happens to turn the tide. The protagonist emerges from the impact site with glowing red eyes, declaring that ending things is actually his line. Startled, Greg hears the protagonist mock his predictable attack patterns. The protagonist slashes Greg brutally, saying he could dodge even with his eyes closed. Greg screams as a powerful red strike sends him reeling and bleeding. The protagonist follows through with a huge overhead blow charged with demonic energy. His blade carves a long crimson gash up Greg's body, overwhelming the wolf warrior. With red eyes blazing, he continues his relentless assault. Greg, mortally wounded, admits in his final moments that the protagonist is a remarkable warrior. A system window announces that the protagonist has defeated a wolf warrior. Another window reports that he has leveled up twice, with boosts to strength, speed, concentration, and mana. He also earns 500 achievement points, and Chad is stunned that he actually killed Greg. Bloodied but smiling, he tells his viewers that he defeated Greg, while Chad marvels and the viewer count climbs to 56. Mission notices confirm completion, pay him 3,000 credits from Safe Wallet, report his total credits and AP, and open the doors to the next area, which he walks toward. As he steps through, another system effect surrounds him, surprising both him and the chat. He is presented with multiple elemental trials such as wind, metal, nature, thunder, light, dark, and others. Viewers react in disbelief that he has 13 trial choices, remarking that most players get far fewer and that the options scale with talent. A prompt specifically asks if he wants to choose the Thunder trial, and chat urges him to pick it. He agrees without hesitation and selects Thunder, locking in that trial. Light engulfs him as he is transported, beginning the Thunder trial. In Azure Sky's office, his fight with Greg plays live on a large screen while the staff watches. Wika, John, and Kaiharu erupt in excitement, cheering that he did it. Wika exclaims that he already has 60 viewers and unusually many missions, insisting this growth is extraordinary. John admits the streamer is incredible, emphasizing that no wolf warrior had ever been defeated before. Still cautious, John thinks that despite his feats the streamer is only a rookie on floor 2 and scouting him immediately would be risky. Wika proposes a bet to the chief as she and Kaiharu keep celebrating in the background. She suggests that if the streamer Subaru fails to master Thunder, her and Kaiharu's salaries stay fixed for 5 years. But if he succeeds they sign him on the spot. Kaiharu panics about being included, begging the chief not to agree and claiming he does not even know her. The chief doubts anyone besides the original Narukami Subaru can master Thunder, and questions the bet's likelihood. Wika insists they will not know unless they try. Amused, John accepts the wager, while Kaiharu is muffled protesting in the background. Meanwhile, the protagonist materializes in a cracked, open field, and the Thunder trial officially commences as blue energy envelopes him. He starts to ask where he is but is suddenly warned to watch out. A local fighter tackles him out of harm's way. A massive thunderous impact strikes where he just stood, shocking them both. They look up to see a towering Titan fragment, and the rescuer shouts at the protagonist. The fighter yells at him to stop spacing out and asks if he is trying to die. A mission window orders the protagonist to defeat the Titan fragment, and he wonders why that monster is already here. As the Titan roars and raises its arms to strike, Chat questions why a Titan has appeared in what should be a Thunder trial. The protagonist recognizes it as a boss normally fought in the second half of the trial, not at the start. He suspects that defeating Greg earlier may have altered the sequence and strengthened the trial. The Titan smashes the ground again, devastating the area. The protagonist rushes into attack despite the chaos. He notes that although the Titan fragment is huge, it is still weaker than Greg, and he is relieved to know this ahead of time, while the rescuer urges him to flee. He decides to finish the Titan quickly by reactivating the unnamed demon blade to boost his stats again before more complications arise. As his weapon powers up, a system message confirms that Wedge of Greed LV2 is again resisting the blade's side effects while he charges the Titan. He dodges a massive blow that narrowly misses his feet. The Titan's next strike explodes the ground, but the protagonist uses the impact to maneuver. He plants a foot on the Titan's body to gain height. Surrounded by red aura, he rockets upward toward the giant's head. The rescuer stares in disbelief as the protagonist leaps high above the Titan. Landing on the Titan's shoulder, he prepares his killing thrust. The demon blade rips into the Titan's neck, spilling blood. The protagonist perches atop the Titan's head and drives his weapon deeper, mortally wounding it. He tells the Titan to shut up as he finishes the kill. He orders it to stay silent forever while yanking the blade through its throat. The Titan gurgles and collapses as blood pours from its neck and the protagonist rides it down. The Titan's eyes go blank, signaling its defeat. System windows announce that the Titan fragment has been defeated and Stage 4 cleared, astonishing the chat. Another notification says he has leveled up 3 times, gaining strength, speed, stamina, mana, and 4000 AP, while he pants from the effort. Rewards appear stating he has obtained the item Titan's Heart and the item Thunder, and viewers marvel that he got credit for all 4 stages simply by killing Greg. The rescued fighter runs up calling him sir, while chat jokes about how quickly his manner of address changed and how startling the sudden appearance in Stage 4 must have been. The man nervously asks why the protagonist is there, and the protagonist replies that the reason should be obvious. He calmly declares that he came to defeat the Titan, a line that impresses the viewers with its intimidating aura. The scene shifts to a peaceful medieval village by a river, suggesting the setting of the Titan incidents. A small house and villagers are shown, grounding the story in the village community. Inside a simple room in that village, the protagonist sits on a bed checking his device. Chat asks him to show the items he gained, assuming they are at least magical and rare. He says he is curious too and opens the item display so everyone can inspect the rewards. A detailed window describes the Ring Titan's heart, and he notes that accessory items are valuable and that he likes its stamina bonus. Another window explains that Thunder is rare defensive armor with strong stats and limited daily uses, matching his desire for good armor. While viewers praise the gear and its long-term value, a previous mission message from Narukami Subaru promising 5,000 credits for obtaining Thunder is recalled, confirming he has now met that condition. As he thanks Narukami Subaru for the mission, more patrons send overlapping missions offering additional credits for acquiring Thunder. Grateful, he thanks all the viewers and promises he will definitely showcase the Thunder item. He reflects that he did not realize so many people were rooting for him to gain Thunder and starts to think that maybe something more is possible. Wika's narration concludes that Narukami Subaru is far more extraordinary than she had imagined. Back in his rented room, a knock sounds at the door. The protagonist invites the visitor in as chat comments on the timing. The rescuer from earlier enters with a blonde knight in full armor. The rescuer apologizes for the wait and introduces the blonde man as Lord Peleus, the village's chief of knights, who politely greets the protagonist. Outside, Peleus explains that Titan attacks have been frequent and that the knights stay armored around the clock. Another knight adds that for safety the villagers are asked to limit outings, explaining why a stranger's arrival now seems suspicious. The rescuer continues that meeting an outsider during such a crisis naturally struck them as a coincidence. Pelias says he heard the protagonist protected the village in his absence and formally offers thanks on behalf of the villagers. The protagonist modestly replies that he only did what was necessary, internally recognizing Pelias by name. Pelias is described in narration as a brave knight representing the village who dares to fight titans, and he says they were lucky to uncover the titans' leader. Determined, Pelias states that they plan to settle things with that leader no matter the cost. He and the rescuer bow deeply, humbly asking the protagonist to help them save their village. The protagonist remains silent for a moment, while viewers comment about Pelias's fate, leaving his answer hanging. The masked protagonist recalls that, if his memory is right, the knight named Pelias is fated to die. He remembers that Pelias is supposed to die in the very next stage. In the past, Pelias is told to raise his head as someone offers him a hand. The masked man promises Pelias he will help and proposes they work together. Pelias gratefully accepts the partnership as Stage 5, Survival, begins. The trainees march toward the mountains, with Pelias leading and the masked protagonist among them. While walking, the protagonist checks his device, monitoring his stream. He notes that increasing viewer numbers make the constant flow of comments hard to follow or respond to. Pelias orders the group to stop after noticing something ahead. A scarred soldier points out a gigantic figure lying in the forest, saying that is their target. They are informed that the massive being is the leader of the Titans. Pelias plans the battle, offering to distract the leader so the masked man can strike from behind. The masked man stops Pelias with a hand on his shoulder, asking him to wait. Pelias turns, confused, just as the Titan leader begins to stir awake. The Titan stands, its footsteps shaking the ground. Seeing the Titans rise, Pelias and the soldiers panic and brace for combat. The masked man mutters that Pelias will not face this battle alone. A Titan's armor cracks as something impacts it. One Titan's eye is pierced, revealing a vulnerable core. Multiple Titans suddenly charge forward from around the leader's body. Dozens more Titans rush the trainees, surrounding them. Pelias is shocked and terrified by how the situation has escalated. A towering Titan grabs a trainee and toys with him, while others scream and beg it to stop. Other trainees desperately attack and cry for help as Titans bear down on them. A survivor watches in horror, seeing a Titan covered in blood reflected in his eye. The Titans grin with bloodied mouths, reveling in the slaughter. Pelias orders a retreat toward the foot of the mountain. The soldiers shout for each other to hurry as they begin to flee. The Titans roar madly and pursue the retreating humans. One trainee is crushed and held in a Titan's bloody grip. His comrades scream for the Titan to stop as they try to pull each other away. A boy cries out for his fallen brother while Titans close in on their group. Pelias, shielding others, commands every man to leave the battlefield under his order. He urges them to think of their village and families, promising their fight will continue someday if they survive now. He tells a scout named Falcon to guide the survivors in the retreat. As everyone runs, Pelias glances back toward the masked man, torn about leaving him. The protagonist tells Pelias he must withdraw as well so they can regroup and challenge the Titans later. The masked man, engulfed in dark power, retorts that line is his and prepares to fight alone. He manifests a massive red blade and asks Pelias why he is still standing there instead of fleeing. He explains he cannot fight freely with Pelias nearby and coldly suggests they would only die together if Pelias stayed. Pelias protests that abandoning an ally is against his principles, but the masked man insists he go. Relenting, Pelias says he will gather the soldiers and begs the protagonist to hold out until then. The masked man thanks him. As he retreats with the others, Pelias shouts his gratitude and urges the masked man to stay safe. Titans roar and charge once more, shaking the ground. The protagonist races straight at the advancing Titans, weapon ready. He leaps into an attack, declaring that the Titans are now fighting him. He slashes through a Titan's leg in a blur of blood. He continues carving through Titan limbs as he darts between them. The Titans are stunned by his speed and ferocity. System messages confirm he has already defeated 2 Titan traces and earned 20 achievement points. While attacking, he resolves that, even if this is only a trial, he refuses to leave anyone behind. Pelias runs as fast as he can away from the battlefield to rally the scattered troops. He slows and looks back, clearly worried about the fight he left behind. Breathing heavily, Pelias struggles with his guilt and concern. He clenches his teeth, torn between duty to his men and abandoning the outsider. Meanwhile, the masked man stands alone before a horde of Titans as chat comments speculate that his stand is suicidal yet admire him. He assesses that with his current skills he might actually manage to save everyone, including Pelias, who was supposed to die here. More Titans charge him, preparing heavy blows. He cuts down another Titan, gaining more achievement points. Yet another Titan falls to his blade, and the system reports additional points. The interface explains that his unnamed demon blade is consuming his stamina while greatly boosting all stats, and he notes that picking them off individually is manageable. He worries instead about how long he can safely maintain the demon blade's power in this situation. He decides he must keep his vision clear and locate the boss among the Titans. He unleashes a massive red-black slash that tears through a Titan. The attack explodes outward, annihilating more Titans around him. He dives into the Titan pack, pressing his assault from above. The surrounding Titans roar and reach helplessly for him while he stays just out of their grasp. He smashes a Titan in the face with a powerful kick. That spinning kick sends shockwaves that batter and stagger multiple Titans at once. Viewers marvel at his aerial maneuvering and note that a single misstep would mean death. A system message shows his Wedge of Greed passive skill mitigating the Demon Blade's penalties and restoring stamina and mana. He feels his exhaustion easing. He recognizes he must defeat the Titan boss before hitting his physical limit. He finally spots the bearded Titan leader charging at the head of more traces. The leader grins cruelly, clearly delighted to see this resilient human. The Titan boss swings a massive club-like weapon at him as he approaches. The protagonist thinks he must kill the boss in a single decisive strike or die. The Titan leader raises his weapon for a devastating blow. The protagonist begs his plan to work as he prepares a last gamble. He thrusts out his hand, beginning to activate a new ability. The system confirms he has successfully cast the Thunderclap spell. Thunder explodes across the battlefield, lightning crashing everywhere. Titans clutch their heads in agony, stunned by the overwhelming sound and power. Even the Titan boss is staggered and writhes in pain from the thunder assault. He roars in rage, cursing the human who dared hurt him. The masked man follows up, expending even more stamina as he drives his demonic blade toward the reeling boss. He channels all remaining strength into a single red strike. That strike pierces the Titan leader's head, sending him crashing down. The protagonist, covered in blood, continues the motion, ensuring the killing blow lands. The boss's eyes widen and blood pours from his wounds as he realizes he has been fatally struck. The Titan leader's head is obliterated and his body collapses. The system announces that the Titan species has been defeated. Messages then confirm Stage 5 is cleared. He has performed an astounding feat, leveled up twice, and all his stats have increased. Viewers watch the live feed of him slaughtering the boss, incredulous that anyone could defeat these Titans. In the aftermath, commenters call him a troublemaker for beating monsters meant to be unbeatable, while he reflects that a typical manga hero would end the story here with a noble sacrifice. Dark thunderclouds begin gathering overhead. Nearby Titans groan and clutch their heads, reeling from the lingering effects of Thunderclap. The protagonist, still masked and bloodied, stands amid them holding his demonic blade. A notice warns that Wedge of Greed can no longer fully resist the demon blade's side effects as he staggers away, thinking to himself. He recalls that even if he clears this stage, it is only part of a longer ordeal. He realizes the Titans will endlessly respawn until he completes the true, underlying trial. He bitterly notes the irony that the same respawn mechanic he once abused in games is now tormenting him. Feeling his strength draining rapidly, he worries he may not last much longer. The remaining Titans regroup and start moving toward him again. Lightning starts crackling ominously between the black clouds and the ground. A huge golden lightning strike crashes down, scattering earth and energy. The protagonist braces himself as the electricity surges around and through him. The impact erupts in a blinding explosion at his position, shocking the surrounding Titans. Time jumps to a quiet forest bathed in gentle sunlight. The peaceful scene pans across the tranquil woods. A solitary cabin is revealed nestled among the trees. On the cabin's porch, a dark-haired woman relaxes in a rocking chair, watching something on a handheld device. The woman, absorbed in her screen, idly rocks as she views a video or stream. A white-haired man steps out from inside the cabin, noticing her. He asks what she is doing there, and she replies that she is enjoying the pleasant weather and fresh air. She adds that such peaceful leisure is a rare luxury for them now. He comments that the time has finally come after a long year, and she quietly agrees. He says it is about time they put an end to their situation. She remains silent at first, and he complains that she never takes his serious moods seriously. Curious, he leans over and asks what she is looking at on her device. She begins to explain. She shows him an image of the masked protagonist, and says the streamer goes by the name Narukami Subaru. Hearing the name Subaru, the white-haired man reacts strongly, but she clarifies it is not the Subaru they once knew. She explains that this is just a streamer name, and that the man has only recently started his second-floor trials. She then asks if he also noticed the resemblance to their lost comrade. She remarks that if their Subaru had survived, by now he and their friend Kyojo Itsuki would likely have escaped this tower. She insists Subaru is dead and urges the man to accept that reality. He cuts the conversation short, telling her to stop, and walks away as she calls after him. Frustrated, she demands to know how long he plans to keep living in Subaru's shadow. He counters by asking why she herself is so fixated, challenging her in return. Taking the device from her, he questions why she is watching a streamer who uses that name. She awkwardly claims she is only watching to kill time. Suddenly something she sees on the screen shocks her, and she exclaims in surprise. The man starts to scold her for still clinging to hope even now. Then he, too, looks closer at the stream and becomes stunned, realizing something about what he is seeing. Back in the trial, the protagonist's feet spark with yellow lightning as he moves. A massive new thunder attack erupts outward from him, creating a golden shockwave. The Titans around him are bathed in lightning as the energy surges through their bodies. A system notification appears stating that he has acquired the thunder skill. Another message shows he has gained 2,000 achievement points and asks if he wishes to continue to the next floor, while viewers explode with shocked comments. Chat messages jokingly explain that obtaining thunder simply requires killing the Titan boss, while the protagonist inwardly notes, such power cannot normally be learned in this stage. The thunder skill description appears, revealing it is a high-rank ability that consumes stamina and mana, and he is relieved the trial ended before he collapsed. Mission Clear notices his role in along with large credit donations from viewers, and he thanks everyone watching. Seeing his credit total, he remarks that streamers are expected to put on a thank you show, then prepares to resume the trial. Fresh titans roar and charge at him again as part of the continuing challenge. He tells his viewers they should show what he can really do, spending 20,000 credits to upgrade Wedge of Greed. The upgraded Wedge of Greed now better counters Thunder's backlash, and he considers using the lightning to cover his whole body. He instead chooses to limit Thunder's effect to his hand for now to conserve stamina. With lightning in his hand and sword ready, he faces the charging titans head-on. He tears through the new wave of titans with electrified strikes. He then wraps Thunder completely around his demon blade, creating an even deadlier weapon. Empowered by both the demon blade and Thunder, he vows to rampage again like in the old days. Subaru unleashes a devastating thunder-infused strike, tearing through his armored enemies. His violent attack sends the armored foes flying as red energy rips across the battlefield. The shockwave from Subaru's power wipes out the remaining enemies in a single overwhelming sweep. Breathing hard with his demonic sword still crackling, Subaru stands amid the aftermath of the slaughter. He curses inwardly, annoyed that he failed to conserve strength for his return. Surveying the field of fallen foes, he realizes he misjudged how much he needed to hold back. Still panting, Subaru grips his sword while bodies lie scattered around him. A squad of knights rushes forward, shaken and sweating as they witness the destruction he caused. Their blonde captain stares in disbelief, shocked by what he is seeing. Realizing Subaru saved them, the blonde knight sprints toward him, calling out respectfully. Subaru turns, readying his sword again as he senses the knight's approach. Behind his mask he exhales heavily, exhausted but alert. As the blonde knight runs, he mutters insults at Subaru yet keeps charging to meet him. Internally, the knight is stunned that Subaru actually came to their aid. In the real world, a cloaked woman drops her device onto a desk in nervous anticipation. Two men stand before the distraught woman, silently watching her reaction. The suited men whisper that they do not understand why she is so worked up about this. Holding her head, the woman groans anxiously that something is wrong. Blushing and panicking, she wonders aloud what she should do now. She spirals, worrying that her message to Subaru was too formal and lacked emojis, making it sound purely business. One of the men teases that her email was only business and asks if she has fallen for Subaru. She snaps back that she cannot help it, because she is first and foremost his devoted fan as well as his would-be manager. Fired up, she reminds them she already said this before, leaving the two men startled. She passionately declares that the legendary Thunder once exclusive to Narukami Subaru now belongs to this new Subaru, while her colleague sighs in relief about their pay. The director comments that such talent cannot be easily learned and that this man deserves close observation. Another staffer greets the director as the woman suddenly erupts with excitement. Ecstatic, she reports that Narukami Subaru has read their email. Her excitement collapses when she admits he merely left the message on read. The men watch as she metaphorically dies on her feet from emotional shock. Elsewhere, someone looks over a display of figures and weapons, deciding to begin preparations. In a neon-lit studio, the analyst streamer Hawkeyes sits at his setup and declares it is time to stream, specializing in breaking down players' combat ability. Narration explains that by leveraging his insight and streaming skills, Hawkeyes has carved out a dominant niche in analysis. His past streams include sharp breakdowns of many players, notably the rising tower climber Kurikawa Amon, dubbed a dark horse. He has also analyzed Blue Zone's ace Kyojo Atsuki, now the world's top player, examining the pressure and skill it takes to hold that rank. The narration then highlights the legendary Narukami Subaru, insisting that, historically, the Thunder has always belonged to him. Going live, Hawkeyes greets his viewers and announces that today's episode will thoroughly examine the current sensation, Narukami Subaru. When some viewers mock the hype, Hawkeyes tells them not to dismiss the newcomer so quickly. As Subaru's battle footage appears on screen, Hawkeyes and chat react in amazement at how crazy the newcomer's performance is. Watching the clip, Hawkeyes is stunned, whispering in disbelief. He comments that Subaru's concentration is insane and that mastering a newly learned skill so perfectly is almost inhuman. Hawkeyes explains that Subaru precisely controlled his skills, using only the necessary power with zero waste, astonishing the audience. He continues that Subaru combines fine control with flawless judgment, never misstepping once, and wonders aloud where such a monster came from. Concluding his review, Hawkeyes predicts that Subaru will become a major player, and says he will track him again in future segments. As chat asks for his trademark sign-off, he realizes he forgot to close the stream properly. He adds that in terms of pure control, this new Subaru might even surpass Narukami Subaru at his peak. Subaru jolts awake from the trial, shaken by the intensity of what he just experienced. System windows inform him that stage 6 is pending, his fatigue is fully recovered, and ask if he wants to suspend the trial. Narration outlines the suspension rules, while Subaru notes that although his fatigue stat is 0, his mind is still exhausted and he decides to rest. Picking up his device, he notices something that makes him exclaim in surprise. Ending his stream, he thanks the viewers and is shocked by how much his viewer count has risen from what was essentially sleep streaming. Addressing the audience, Subaru apologizes and announces that the next stream will be after taking a day off. The system broadcasts that the streamer Narukami Subaru has ended the stream. Subaru materializes back in the tower space as his foot touches down. He appears in the bright stage waiting area, silently collecting himself. Turning toward the gate ahead, he notices a new notification while looking at his device. Reading an email from Azure Sky Entertainment, Subaru sees they are offering support and asking him to review their previous message. He wonders skeptically if this is just spam mail. Then he recognizes the sender as Azure Sky Entertainment and is confused why such a company contacted him. The scene shifts to the exterior of a cozy cafe in the Tower City. Inside, Subaru sits alone with a drink, mulling over the message on his device. Exposition describes Azure Sky Entertainment as a leading MCN that aggressively supports live streamers, prompting Subaru to reflect on how much times have changed. He notes that the company is quite large and one of the industry's top networks. Reading online reactions, Subaru sees people quoting Hawkeye's claim that this new Narukami Subaru might surpass the original, debate breaking out in the comments. He realizes Hawkeye's also belongs to Azure Sky and recalls that the blunt analyst's comment section is always chaotic. Despite that, Subaru privately admits that Hawkeye's has an excellent eye for talent. Outside, a man in formal boots approaches the area. The man arrives at the cafe entrance, clearly looking for someone. Checking footage of Subaru on his device, the man rereads Hawkeye's appraisal that Subaru's control may exceed the original's peak. Scoffing, he complains that this newcomer is only on the second floor and dismisses the praise as ridiculous. Fuming, he vows that once he clears this floor he will personally tear out Hawkeye's eyeballs. Stepping forward in anger, he spits on the ground. Muttering that his morning has already been ruined, he pushes open the cafe door. Entering, he forces a strained laugh, his irritation barely concealed. Spotting Subaru inside, he grumbles that this must be his unlucky day since Subaru seems to be everywhere. Oblivious, Subaru quietly scrolls through his device beside his steaming mug. The angry man strides over and looms behind Subaru's seat. He bumps the table, causing Subaru's coffee to spill. Subaru jumps up, yelping that the drink is hot. Trying to defuse things, Subaru apologizes and claims the spill was his mistake. Recognizing him, the man calls out, surprised to find that the victim is Subaru. He remarks that they keep running into each other on this cramped second floor. Subaru wordlessly picks up his device, clearly uninterested in prolonging the encounter. The man mockingly offers to pay for Subaru's coffee since he is always broke, telling him to be grateful. His eye twitches in rage as his temper boils over again. He calls out to stop Subaru just as the latter heads for the door. Subaru glares back and reminds him he had already warned him before, questioning if something is wrong with his head. Enraged, the man grabs Subaru by the collar and insults him. He threatens to beat Subaru up like in the past, daring him to act smug again. Subaru calmly apologizes. Then he pries the man's hand off, saying he has no time for pointless fights, shocking the man with his strength. The man trembles, wondering when Subaru became this strong. Subaru turns away, saying he will consider the ruined coffee already compensated, and walks out. Left clutching his chest in indignation, the man calls after him in disbelief. Shouting for Subaru to wait, he bolts for the exit. The cafe door closes behind Subaru, cutting off the confrontation. Outside, the man sighs, reflecting that his tower climb had been going smoothly until Subaru started causing him trouble. He sees that whether it is Narukami Subaru or this new Subaru, they keep getting in his way. Convinced that everyone is mocking him, he storms off in frustration. Meanwhile, Subaru steps into the street and remembers Azure Sky's offer. He begins typing a reply on his device. Elsewhere, Wika relaxes in a bubble bath, playing with a rubber duck. As she soaks, her device lies nearby, waiting with unread messages. Her screen suddenly shows Subaru's response, suggesting they meet in person. The story shifts back into the tower's depths, where slain lizard creatures float in a dim, flooded dungeon. Subaru's hand grasps his sword as golden energy flares along the blade. He enters the exiled lizardman's hideout, now designated as a boss room. A system message notes that his Wedge of Greed skill is mitigating the demon's sword's side effects while Subaru thinks he is slowly adapting to this body. A spark ignites in the darkness, heralding the incoming boss. A massive flaming salamander bursts forth and charges at him. The system announces the salamander boss's appearance as it roars. Subaru recalls the previous collateral damage and resolves to precisely regulate his power this time. Preparing for the clash, he decides he must handle the thunder safely while facing the boss head-on. Thunder gathers around his legs, enhancing his movement. He rockets forward and leaps toward the onrushing salamander with incredible speed. A phantom image of his previous self overlaps as he swings, showing how far he has come. The salamander lunges with gaping jaws, intent on devouring him. Subaru dodges through the flames and drags his energized blade along the monster. Lightning then floods fully into the demon's sword, amplifying its power. Surrounded by fire and electricity, Subaru surges upward in a blazing charge. The system warns that Wedge of Greed's resistance has failed, and his fatigue is spiking as the clash peaks. With a final thunderous blow, Subaru cleaves through the salamander. The boss's flaming body collapses, confirming his victory. A system message declares that he has cleared the exiled lizardman's hideout dungeon. Additional windows inform him he has leveled up and that his basic stats have each increased. Later that night, Subaru exits the dungeon stairs into a moonlit forested area. He evaluates Wedge of Greed's stamina reduction effect, pleased it lets him fight harder despite the lingering fatigue. Checking the skill menu, he notes that leveling Wedge of Greed becomes exponentially more expensive each time. Tired, he wishes someone would just appear and hand him a good-paying job for once, when a voice suddenly asks if he is hunting. Subaru's eyes widen as he reacts to the unexpected approach. He sees the angry man from the cafe waiting in the forest ahead. The man walks toward him, incredulous that Subaru, of all people, is the one he keeps running into. Smirking in the shadows, the man prepares to confront Subaru again. He admits that despite knowing Subaru for ages, Subaru keeps surprising him. Subaru grumbles that the man is annoyingly persistent. The man insists he has thought things through but is at his limit, his anger against Subaru having piled up. The two step up face to face, ready for a decisive confrontation. With a crazed grin, the man suggests they settle everything between them once and for all. Subaru studies him intently, thinking to himself about this troublesome rival. The perspective shifts to the Tower City at night as daily life continues below. Hawkeye's arrives in the city, stepping through a doorway. Someone inside waves him over and calls out to him. The director waits at a table, ready to talk business. Hawkeyes greets him casually and sits, while the director asks about his streaming activity. Hawkeyes modestly replies that things are only so-so, with mostly regular viewers and little fluctuation. The director says that steady growth is healthier, since what you build slowly is harder to destroy. Hawkeyes agrees half-heartedly and asks why he was suddenly invited out for tea, joking about the director's keen eyes. The director brings up the rookie Hawkeyes analyzed yesterday, Narukami Subaru, and asks if he meant everything he said. Hawkeyes confirms that, in raw talent, Subaru might even surpass the original Subaru at his peak, though whether he will reach that level is uncertain. Hawkeye's eyes gleam sharply behind his bangs as he thinks about the newcomer. The director, satisfied with the assessment, reveals he is considering scouting Subaru into their agency and asks Hawkeye's opinion on that plan. A guy mocks his friend for acting like a talent scout while doubting the low-viewership streamer he picked. The other man admits the streamer is unpopular but says he is now convinced by his colleague's reasoning. He proposes that the famous streamer collaborate with Narukami Subaru while their company boosts Subaru's exposure. In the dungeon, an arrogant man tells the protagonist they are now alone together. The protagonist confirms they are. The man scolds him for recklessly entering a dungeon and says he should have stayed put like he was told. Looming close, he taunts that the protagonist thinks he can be the next Narukami Subaru and learn thunder like that streamer promised. Grabbing him, he curses Narukami Subaru and says the dead should stay buried. Remembering his past, he rages that everyone annoys him and curses them all. Back in the present, he asks the protagonist if he agrees. The protagonist thinks to himself how this era is full of Narukami Subaru imitators. He then calmly asks why this man hates him so intensely. The man answers it is because his name is Subaru, prompting the protagonist to wonder why that name is so despised when others like it. Shocked, the bully stammers in response. He angrily asks how the protagonist can say that knowing who his father is, while the protagonist questions why his dad matters and why he still blames everything on him. The man recalls that his father is Reinhardt, a powerful ranker on floor 9. Hearing the name, the protagonist recognizes Reinhardt as the legendary one-swordsman. In a flashback, an announcer excitedly reports unbelievable news during a battle. The announcer explains that newcomer Narukami Subaru from Earth has just defeated the Rune Continent's ranker Reinhardt. He emphasizes that Reinhardt was felled with a single slash. The broadcast notes the fight lasted under 30 seconds while a bloodied Reinhardt struggles to continue. Reinhardt's hand collapses uselessly to the ground. The swordsman lies defeated in a massive crater. Back in the present, the bully explodes with rage, warning the protagonist not to speak Reinhardt's name so casually. The protagonist concludes that the man sees him as an enemy because of his father, the one-swordsman. He asks whether the bully understands how much Hasoi suffered because of him. Enraged, the man ignites his fire powers and threatens him if he says another word. The protagonist refuses to be silenced. Flames roar around the calm protagonist as the bully powers up his arm. The bully's arm becomes a blazing weapon towering beside the protagonist. He declares he is done talking and intends to kill the protagonist. Still attacking, he rants about hating Subaru Narukami, resenting how others idolize him despite doing nothing. He continues that Narukami's guild status made even weak guild members arrogant before they all fell together. He says those people got what they deserved. Laughing, he imagines them rotting in hell paying for their deeds. Preparing a huge fireball, he adds that the protagonist was unlucky to share Narukami's name. He unleashes a massive fiery explosion where the protagonist stands. He exhales, assuming the blast finished his foe. Then he apologizes mockingly, calling the protagonist his buddy while pretending he lost control. Smirking, he muses about killing the masked streamer next. He repeats the word masked, intrigued by the idea. As the flames die down, he stares at a figure emerging from the inferno. The protagonist steps out, raising a mask and asking if this is the one he meant. Horrified, the bully realizes the masked streamer survived. Stunned, he asks how the protagonist is still alive after taking the blast head-on. The protagonist moves forward, remarking that the bully talks too much. He charges like a bolt of lightning, calling the bully a man-child. In an instant, he appears right in front of him and attacks. The bully's eyes bulge as the blow lands. The protagonist drags the screaming bully across the ground. The bully vomits blood from the beating. The masked protagonist declares that someone like him has no right to insult Narukami Subaru or his guild. Bleeding and confused, the bully gasps that none of this makes sense. The protagonist casually announces a pop quiz. While lowering his mask, he asks who the bully thinks is standing before him, hinting at the crybaby Hasoi Subaru and the masked streamer. Removing the mask completely, he offers the final option, that he is actually Blue Eyes Narukami Subaru himself. The battered bully refuses to believe the reveal and repeats it incredulously. He scoffs that thunder is unimpressive if even trash like the protagonist can learn it. Igniting his hand again, he mocks the idea that such a weakling could defeat him. The protagonist counters that if someone once too weak to hit him can now use thunder, that would also make him stronger than the legendary Narukami Subaru. The bully goes berserk, diving in for another flaming attack while shouting. The protagonist easily slices through the oncoming attack, leaving a glowing slash in the ground. The bully suddenly realizes he has been cut. The protagonist says he is completely wrong in his assumptions. Terrified, the bully asks what he means. The protagonist echoes that earlier question about how much Hasoi suffered because of him. He also recalls how the bully would not stop talking. He reiterates that a childish man like this has no right to badmouth his former guild. The bully denies what he is realizing. He finally stammers that the protagonist is actually Blue Eyes Guild Master. The protagonist cuts straight through him in a finishing strike. He coldly states that playtime is over. Blood spatters the ground as they stand facing each other. The protagonist turns away, saying the beating should be more than enough repayment. He adds that this will serve as payment for borrowing his current friend's body. Later in a restaurant, co-workers gossip about a masked man sitting alone and streaming, assuming he is a Narukami fanba. They whisper that he looks embarrassing, yet he appears to be streaming seriously. The protagonist, now masked again, resolves to keep Narukami Subaru's identity hidden since anonymity gives him an advantage. As he waits, a woman approaches and apologizes for keeping him waiting. Nervous and blushing, she introduces herself as Wika. She explains that she is the manager who contacted him. They shake hands while she gushes that it is an honor to finally meet Narukami Subaru. Privately, she marvels that he looks exactly like the original Narukami. She imagines that if the real Narukami had survived and worn a mask, he would look just like this man. Flustered when he notices her staring, she panics and denies anything is wrong. She remembers her boss's warning to appear reliable to clients, and despairs that she already flubbed her introduction. Overwhelmed, she clutches her head in embarrassment, while he silently watches. He asks if she was a fan of the late Narukami Subaru, and she enthusiastically confirms she was a die-hard supporter. He reassures her that he is not actually the original Narukami and likely younger than her, while she insists she is also his fan. She excitedly recounts how she watched him from his zero-viewer days, cheering through all his early trials, which inspired her to be here as his manager. As she continues listing his achievements, he thinks in surprise that she remembers his streams more vividly than he does. He admits he was sloppy back then, and finds it surreal anyone watched all of it. She agrees it feels like destiny, and says she begged her company to assign her as his manager. Regaining her composure, she switches to business mode and starts summarizing the detailed contract they prepared. She promises that their company will handle all branding work around the name Narukami Subaru, from commercials to merchandising. When he asks what he must do in return, she tells him to simply keep streaming as usual. She explains that he gets special treatment because he is the first streamer to learn Thunder, and because her company holds him in high regard. As she asks if the terms suit him, he instead asks whether all Azure Sky managers are as passionate as she is. Panicking, she insists everyone else is far more competent than her, and tries not to sound insecure. He observes internally that her aura feels stronger than a typical player's and wonders how someone so capable works only as a manager. He realizes that future opponents will be even stronger, and decides he must accelerate his growth. Wika frets that she looked unreliable and worries he will reject the contract, even considering forcing him to sign if necessary. He reaches out a hand, telling her he can already tell she is trustworthy. He formally says he looks forward to working with her. Nearly in tears, she shakily responds that she feels the same. Soon after, he goes live in full gear, his chat reacting excitedly to the sight of his mask. His viewer count instantly jumps to over 700. He notes in surprise that he started the stream with 700 viewers thanks to Wika's early promotion. A chibi image shows her happily posting his official streaming schedule online. On stream, he announces the start of Stage 6, titled Legend. Inside the stage, a rainy military camp is shown with knights standing watch. The perspective moves into a tent where figures are gathering. Inside, armored knights hold a strategy meeting around a table. Their blonde leader asks if their mysterious benefactor has awakened yet. Some knights doubt whether they can trust this outsider who supposedly soloed the Titan's boss. Others suggest maybe he was tricked, or only killed a weaker monster. The blonde knight angrily defends their savior, appalled by their doubts. Just then another knight announces that their benefactor has woken and brings in the masked protagonist. Concerned, the blonde knight asks if he feels well, while the protagonist insists he can walk on his own. Skeptical knights whisper that he does not look strong and complain that his mask is suspicious. The protagonist asks whether they truly doubt he killed the boss or simply refuse to accept it. In a remembered briefing with Wika, she explains a feature that changes his mic so only viewers hear him when he strikes a preset pose, useful in situations like this. Back in the tent, a knight calls him cocky while the chat encourages not to underestimate him. Their commander extends a hand, first thanking him. He introduces himself as Dale. The protagonist shakes his hand, saying they are meeting for the first time and that he was defending a village that was overwhelmed. Dale somberly confirms the village was crushed by a terrifying monster. He clarifies to the protagonist that there is someone even more dangerous than the Titan boss. Dale narrates that in ancient times true Titans fought gods. Those original titans were eventually sealed away and disappeared. The ones they usually face now are merely lingering thoughts given form. However, the titan that appeared after the boss resembled those legendary beings, a monster Dale thought could not exist anymore. The chat speculates nervously about the trial's difficulty while the knights panic. The protagonist coolly states that they simply need to kill that stronger titan. The knights react to his boldness, worrying he does not yet understand the danger. One knight calls out to his superior with urgency. He then shares an old legend that atop Millennium Mountain lies a hidden thunder shard. He says he believes in that legend. Turning to the protagonist, he claims only the masked outsider can find that shard. A flashback shows villagers fleeing as titans attack and the town burns. Gigantic titans rampage through the streets, slaughtering people. Their towering leader appears amid the flames, calling out for his son. The colossal titan begins crushing fleeing soldiers as they scream. The leader calmly advances, saying he will personally act. He brutally smashes one of the humans, blood spraying. Holding the mangled body, he vows to send his child's killer to the afterlife using human blood as an offering. The protagonist's eye reflects the sight of the titan as he locks onto him. Mounted on a horse above the city, he identifies the massive titan as his target, while the chat freaks out over its size. He notes that the titan is entirely focused on killing him, and viewers remark that the trial itself seems determined to murder him. Before departing, the blonde knight warns it will take about 3 days for the titans to reach their location and urges the protagonist to flee if he cannot find the thunder shard by then, since that is his only chance to survive. At Millennium Mountain, the masked climber reasons that thunder is the key to killing the titan and that this seems to be the purpose of the trial, while viewers casually discuss retries. Remembering his old self, he repeats his former catchphrase that no trial is impossible to clear. Riding through the storm, he cringes that his old lines slipped out as chat mocks his extreme confidence. Notifications show mission sponsors offering thousands of credits if he clears the mountain, and he notes with relief that no one noticed his slip while appreciating the payout. He tightens his grip on the reins. He rears the horse up and dismounts in the rain. His boots and the horse's hooves touch down on the rocky ground. Standing before the cliff, he thinks this is where the thunder shard is supposed to be. He and the horse gaze up at a colossal cracked rock wall blocking the way. Silently, he approaches and touches the rocky surface. He recalls Pelu's explaining that the thunder shard exists only in legend and might be a power, an item, or even a person. Pelus had admitted they only know the mountain's location and the legend, not how to actually obtain the shard. Pelus also told him that long ago a thunder wielder eradicated all the titans. Elsewhere, a woman nervously asks over her device how the mission went and waits in silence. Hearing that it succeeded, she exclaims with joy and is praised enthusiastically. Her superior laughs that she is finally becoming a decent person, and she smugly revels in the compliment. She wonders if that was really a compliment, and starts to brag before transitioning into recounting that she actually met Hawkeye's. She excitedly says there is something she wants to tell Sue as she clutches her phone. Throwing herself onto her bed, she declares her work done and eagerly prepares to watch his stream. Blushing, she lovingly gazes at her screen. Watching his live horseback ascent, she gushes that seeing him both on screen and in person is otaku bliss. On the stream, he repeats the line that no trial is impossible to clear. Hearing it, her eyes widen in shock. She bolts upright, startled. She wonders if he just used Subaru's catchphrase from over 20 years ago. Meanwhile, the sky above the mountain erupts with golden lightning striking the peak. Cloaked in golden bolts, he stands before the cliff while viewers debate whether he has gone crazy. He smashes his thunder-charged fist into the rock, saying he will test which is tougher. He swings another thunderous punch. The blow detonates against the cliff, blasting stone apart in a massive explosion. Debris rolls as the ground shakes around him. Amid sparks, he smiles and says he has found what he was looking for. His boots crunch over shattered stone as the quake subsides. Chat wonders what he is doing while he notes to himself that they cannot feel the overwhelming sensation of power he does through the stream. He senses a vast thunder energy strongly resonating with his own. He sees a huge stone door ahead and realizes that the source lies just beyond it. He strides toward the newly revealed entrance. Viewers comment on the enormous titan-like door and joke about how he might open it. He reaches out to touch the carved stone. Lightning jumps between his hand and the door, and he notes that the hint is obvious. System messages confirm he casts the thunder skill and that his artifact Wedge of Greed mitigates its backlash. Believing the true trial lies behind the door, he gathers thunder around himself while viewers ask if he is really going to blow it up. He drives a thunder-wrapped fist forward. Responding to the energy's call, he hurls himself into the attack. He proclaims he must answer that call and unleashes an immense thunder blast at the door. The stone doorway fractures and explodes in a blinding flare of golden lightning. From outside, he watches the door disintegrate into a storm of crackling light. The cliffs shake and a deep fissure opens as the entrance collapses. He steps through the glowing rift while Chat urges him onward. Emerging inside, he silently surveys the new area. His steps echo across the threshold into the darkness. He walks down the corridor, leaving the shattered entrance and rain behind. A system notice states he has entered the pathway of thunder and cannot leave until he clears this stage. Back at camp in the storm, armored soldiers stand guard outside their tents. Inside, the knights gather around the table, drinking and planning. One veteran asks Pelus if he really believes the outsider will obtain the thunder shard. Pelus confidently answers that he is certain. The veteran presses him on why he trusts this outsider so much, and Pelu says the man has already proven his skills and given them no reason to doubt him. The older knight complains that the shard is meaningless if they all die here. A shaken younger knight protests that none of them understand the terror they face. Trembling, he says no one knows how strong the Titans truly are, recounting his first-hand experience in a devastated village. Pelus kneels beside him, insisting that does not mean they should give up. He urges the soldier to have faith in the young hero who has helped them selflessly. The traumatized knight snaps that it is easy for Pelus to say such things. Pelus and the others stare grimly at his outburst. A sudden impact rattles the table and spills drinks, signaling danger. A guard rushes in yelling that the Titans are coming. The knights react in alarm and brace themselves. Deep in the mountain, ice walls glitter in the newly revealed inner area. The masked climber solemnly studies his surroundings. Walking through the icy passage, he wonders what exactly this trial expects him to do. He and the viewers see a long empty ice tunnel ahead, and chat comments that there seems to be absolutely nothing there. A viewer suggests thunder is merely too fast to see, prompting him to reason that before discharging it is just dispersed electric charge in the air. He concludes that this is why no one can see it, and deduces that the trial involves something invisible to the naked eye. He reflects that the trial is literally named the Pathway of Thunder. Feeling the powerful thunder presence calling him from deeper inside, he prepares himself. His eyes sharpen as understanding dawns. He kneels, picks up a stone, and thinks he has figured out the nature of the trial. He throws the stone forward into the tunnel. As it flies, it reacts violently with unseen lightning, which grows more intense the further it travels. The stone is shattered midair by swirling electric currents. A thunderous detonation erupts ahead, astonishing the viewers who cannot fathom the trial's mechanics. He confirms his hypothesis but complains that even if he is right, the setup forces him to push deeper regardless. He concludes the Pathway of Thunder is essentially a grueling endurance test. Panting and crackling with electricity, he remarks that failure probably means death, while a viewer lightly sends him credits and asks what he is afraid of. More missions and credits pour in from the audience, some urging him to stop lest he lose his new thunder skill, others incentivizing him to keep going. He politely thanks everyone for the missions. Elsewhere, a pot of stew boils over a hearth. In a cozy room, a long-haired man relaxes in a chair, watching something on his device. He frowns thoughtfully at what he is seeing. Startled, he nearly jumps out of his seat when someone suddenly appears. A woman walks in, causing him to hastily hide his device as she questions him. She teasingly asks why he is hiding the screen and accuses him of watching adult videos. Flustered, he denies it and claims his eyes are just tired, while she skeptically hums. She jokes that pervy people grow hair faster and he protests, insisting it is not like that. She says she stopped watching the stream because he told her not to and is now bored, prompting him to nervously ask why she is here. She retorts that his reaction is weird and wonders if he is saying she cannot lounge on the sofa, while he awkwardly backpedals. He explodes in exasperation, asking why she twists his words. Covering her ears from his shouting, she tells him to sit on the couch all he wants and not worry about her. He nervously mutes his device. She notes that he usually ignores her advice yet suddenly listens this time and calls him a weirdo, while he stays silent. Annoyed, she gets up to leave, and he worriously asks where she is going. From the stairs she tells him he can stay longer, eat bread, and relax if he wants. She slams her bedroom door, leaving him in uneasy silence. Sighing with relief, he admits she almost caught him. Looking at the live feed of the climber entering the corridor, he thinks that if she knew he was watching she would cause a scene, and he dreads the fallout. He reflects that even if their roles were reversed, Subaru would never forget them. Watching the stream, he notes how the masked climber's personality and speech resemble Subaru's. As he hears the climber thank viewers for missions, he muses that the man's obsession with earning credits is the one thing unlike Subaru. He quietly wonders what is really happening. When someone puts a hand on his shoulder and confronts him, he is speechless, then is asked if he really thought his secret viewing would go unnoticed. The woman ominously tells him he is a century too early to be hiding things from her. Back in the pathway, a mission prompt orders the climber to forge the path of thunder. He steels himself, electricity coursing over his body. His thunder-wrapped steps pound across the ice. Lightning erupts around him as a progress meter shows only 2.3% completion. He studies the arcs on his arm as thunder continues burning through him. The feeling is familiar to him, as he has wielded thunder countless times. His eye glints intensely while power crackles nearby. The system shows his progress has increased slightly to 3.2%. Gasping for breath, he admits he still has a long way to go. Nonetheless, he presses on, feet sparking as he moves. He consoles himself that at least the trial clearly shows where the finish line is, even as viewers urge him to run and speedrun it. He warns chat he will not be able to read them from here, and they encourage him and wish him safety. He considers reaching the goal given, but he also resolves to aim even higher if possible. Another streamer silently watches a dual-screen display of the climber and his thunder-covered form. Leaning in his chair, the streamer broods over what he sees. He recalls being told that he and Narukami Subaru should collaborate, and wonders when his boss last joined in content creation personally. The boss says he has long been honest that a streamer can only do half the work of making a channel blow up. He explains that success also depends on who gets boosted, and what players are currently in the spotlight. The younger man agrees, acknowledging the role of timing and trends. The boss points out that Subaru's streams feel more like a veteran player's vlog than ordinary fan chat. He suggests that although Subaru is a rookie, the other streamer should simply do his usual spectator-style broadcast alongside him. The boss insists this collaboration might be the streamer's big chance, and urges him to ride Subaru's momentum. He tells him to become a star that rises together with that comet. Inspired, the streamer's eyes flare with determination. He confesses that he started streaming because he doubted he could climb the tower, but he actually wanted that challenge more than anyone. Another close-up I shot reflects his renewed ambition. He fantasizes about truly being a star in the vast cosmic sky. Reaching out toward that imagined sky, he wonders if he can really become like those stars. Jerked back to reality, he startles in his chair with a groan. He looks at his blank work screen and questions what he is doing in the middle of his tasks. Suddenly seeing what Subaru is attempting, he panics and yells that the climber must have gone insane. The live feed cuts to static as the strain of the thunder trial overwhelms the connection. Within the pathway, the climber staggers forward under a continuous barrage of lightning. One bolt slams into his head, searing near his eye. Bloodied and scorched, he forces himself onward while thunder rages around him. Gritting through the pain in his mangled hand, he groans but refuses to stop. Despite the damage, he plants his foot and keeps charging deeper into the pathway of thunder. The protagonist channels immense thunder energy, slamming down in a lightning-infused impact. Badly wounded and gasping, he struggles but keeps the thunder coursing through him. He reflects that the stronger the lightning, the deeper it penetrates his body. Judging the current intensity sufficient, he lets the thunder flood his body. He senses the lightning begin to circulate through every thin pulse, starting with his main rin and dew meridians. A system display shows thin pulse penetration at 20.7% as thunder snakes across his back. Notifications report thin pulse penetration in progress, thunder taking root in his body, and his mana rising. Remembering advice to seize this power no matter what, he fiercely grips and accepts the thunder. An explanation details how the rin and dew meridians are central energy paths and the thin pulses are tiny channels, so penetrating them means energy reaches every part of the body. Narration clarifies that his internal energy has now spread to every corner of his body. He notes he is using this process to clear impurities clogging his thin pulses, effectively taking a shortcut despite the status of being electrocuted. He thinks that normally one would use personal mana for this cleansing, even as blood drips from his side. He admits he is borrowing thunder to ease the process, but the resulting pain is brutally intense. Still charged with lightning, he sprints forward, leaving scorched, bloody footprints behind. His electrified steps splash through pooled blood, emphasizing the physical toll. Elsewhere, a woman sits on her bed, silently watching his trial on a handheld screen. She sees his battered, lightning-wreathed figure on the device and reacts in concern. Recognizing the technique, she realizes he is attempting thin pulse penetration during this battle. She is shocked that he is doing this while moving and by using an external force instead of his own mana or internal energy. She judges that the pain he must be enduring is unimaginable, noting most people would lose consciousness instantly. She reflects that even if trial pain causes no lasting damage, it feels indistinguishable from real pain. Distressed, she begins to question why he would subject himself to such torment. Tearfully, she wonders why he is pushing himself so far. The progress display climbs past 50%, with more notifications of thunder rooting in him and mana increases. Stumbling under the burden, he blames himself for everything that has happened. He thinks he effectively killed his comrades and recalls a voice that always told him something. In a memory, his former self tells the party there is no trial that cannot be cleared. He remembers that mentor calmly urging them to relax. Another memory shows his confident declaration that he always ends up winning, surrounded by his teammates. Back in the present, he thinks that if only things had gone differently. He regrets saying reckless things and forcing his friends too hard. He concludes in anguish that none of them would have died if not for his arrogance. The smiling enemy who killed them mocks him, saying they truly would have all died. That enemy sneers that this is what happens when someone gets overconfident. Surrounded by thunder, he starts to rise again, consumed by remorse. He repeats to himself that everything that happened is his fault as lightning erupts behind him. Exhausted, he collapses inside the ice tunnel carved by his earlier strike. Despite lying in a pool of blood, he drags himself forward, still crackling with electricity. His consciousness drifts into a peaceful grassy field under a clear sky. Looking around that field, he wonders where he is. He spots his old party members gathered cheerfully around a campfire under a tree. Alarmed and emotional, he stares at them, realizing what he is seeing. He chokes out an address to them, overwhelmed. Recognizing each comrade by name, he realizes this vision includes everyone who died. Grass rustles around his feet as he steps toward them. He convinces himself this must all have been a bad dream as he rushes forward. Two of the comrades turn, noticing his approach. With tears in his eyes, he asks them to confirm that what he is seeing is real. Smiling, he tells them he just had a terrible nightmare and invites them to ask about it. The vision twists as those friends angrily accuse him of dragging them to their deaths, saying they never wanted to die. Horrified, he calls out to Shuhei and Toshiya. Another friend accuses him of always talking big as the sky turns blood red. Reina appears mortally wounded, demanding to know why he failed to protect her. He calls out to Chino, stricken with guilt. The dream transforms into a blood-red inferno where all of them surround him, shouting. He stammers in terror, trying to respond. Their anguished cries echo that they want to live, breathe and not be swallowed by darkness, begging him to save them. He screams after them not to go as he is engulfed in red shadow. Desperate, he begs his friends to wait and not leave him behind. Collapsing, he crawls forward, pleading. He continues to beg, dragged toward the darkness. A blinding flash shatters the nightmare as something intervenes. He jolts awake on the icy ground, realizing the hallucination from thin pulse penetration nearly drove him insane. The interface shows penetration progress at nearly 98% with more mana gained, and he curses the cruelty of this trial. Now fully wreathed in thunder, he thanks the trial for reminding him why he is still alive. He recalls the one-eyed man whose thunder ability he inherited or emulates, now standing resolutely. Back in the village, townsfolk and knights gather, staring fearfully upward as the true boss appears. The villagers clutch weapons and their families, panic spreading through the crowd. A towering titan-like monster manifests above them, dwarfing everyone. The grotesque giant grins menacingly, terrifying all who see it. Knights exclaim that this must be the real boss and note that the masked hero has vanished again. One confident knight insists their benefactor will surely return victorious. Another officer scolds doubters, reminding them they are already relying on an outsider and should not question him further. He angrily demands whether they have any shame calling themselves knights while doubting their savior. A senior knight puts a reassuring hand on his shoulder and agrees with his rebuke. That commander reminds everyone that their first duty is to protect the village rather than point fingers. He draws his sword, its blade glowing with power. Infusing his weapon with energy, he declares that knights are meant to protect, not be protected. He rallies the knights, vowing they will die as true knights if necessary, and charges forward. Inspired, the knight order charges the titan together. Meanwhile, the system shows Subaru's trial progress has reached 99%. Subaru gathers even denser thunder around himself, preparing to finish. The lightning condenses into a radiant sphere of power. He concludes that this mysterious orb must be his trial's goal based on the progress display. An alert warns his fatigue is near maximum as he focuses on the orb. Even as his mask cracks, he continues forward through the lightning. He tells himself he needs only one more step while the system screams that his fatigue is critically dangerous. His electrified foot slams down, committing to that final step. Elsewhere, the knight's armored steps echo as they rush in to confront the titan. The commander accelerates with blue energy swirling around him. He raises his glowing sword for a decisive blow. He unleashes a massive arc of energy that tears into the giant. Blood erupts from the titan as the attack connects. The titan howls in agony from the grievous wound. The monstrous body reels backward as the knights continue their assault. Another knight leaps in, sword glowing, to strike at the creature. That knight shouts for others to leave the rest to him as he attacks. His armored foot drives off the ground, propelling him forward. He slams his blade into the titan's head, staggering it. In a follow-up, he cleaves through more of the titan with a brilliant slash. Gripping his sword, he readies yet another finishing blow. A massive wave of energy slices the titan, splitting its upper body. The titan growls, badly damaged but not yet dead. Its head explodes in a bloody spray as it finally begins to fall. The giant crashes down, rubble flying as the knight lands safely. Other knights cheer that they have finally brought the monster down. As they stab the fallen titan to be sure, they credit Lord Dale for leading them. Believing the most dangerous enemy dead, one knight relaxes, but Dale says otherwise. The veteran clarifies that this titan was not the true threat he meant earlier. Some knights boast that the fight was easy and praise Dale and Peleus. Another remarks that all that remains is cleaning up the remaining titans. Suddenly a larger threat appears overhead, slamming down and devastating the area. Dale and another knight look up in alarm, realizing this new enemy is the one he warned about. Dale exclaims that this creature is on an entirely different level. Subaru's progress hits 99.99% as his hand touches the thunder orb. He completes the process, vowing to apologize to his fallen comrades in hell as the progress hits 100%. With renewed resolve, he promises Kyojo he will return with the titan's head as a trophy. He sprints toward the glowing exit or battlefield, radiating thunder. His aura erupts in a colossal column of lightning that lights up the ice field. He draws his sword through the storm, preparing for the decisive clash and thinking the fight is finally ending. Exhausted and bloodied, he believes the ordeal is over. Something catches his attention, his eye sharpening again as he senses more to do. System messages confirm thin pulse penetration is complete and his mana, speed, and all stats have significantly increased. He acknowledges that if he takes another major hit he is done for. Half joking, he thinks that next time the system should at least warn him before such a finishing blast. He collapses spread-eagled on shattered ice as the system states he has cleared stage 6, legend difficulty. In the real world, a man in an office watches the stream thoughtfully. Seeing Subaru unconscious on screen amid wild viewer reactions, the man muses about how reckless he is. He concludes Subaru is not suited to being a conventional streamer. His device rings with a call from another streamer or associate. Answering, he mentions he was watching Narukami Subaru's stream just now. The other person excitedly insists Subaru is going to be a star and urges him to explain clearly. Lounging in his neon-lit room, the second man enthuses that Subaru will shine both as a player and as a streamer. He explains that viewers are drawn to a stream that shows a Narukami Subaru who feels like the original, real Subaru. He adds that the real Narukami Subaru was fundamentally a player, not a broadcaster. The office man summarizes that they can broadcast the birth of Narukami Subaru the player to the world. His colleague finishes the thought, emphasizing they can show this evolution in real time. Back in the trial, Subaru's battered hand grips the icy ground as he begins to rise again. Slowly standing, still gasping, he notices chat messages commenting that he got up faster and is still alive. He stares ahead, breathing hard but determined. Checking his interface, he curses how high his fatigue still is. He sees his fatigue has dropped slightly thanks to his new stats and considers the Thunderstrike a win. Mission complete prompts appear, awarding him large amounts of credits from various sponsors. He notes with satisfaction that he has accumulated over 20,000 credits. Examining the Wedge of Greed skill, he thinks its level is still too low and wonders if defeating the Titan will raise it. He realizes the Thunder Orb he obtained is the key to defeating that Titan. System text reveals the orb is a legendary weapon called Thunder Spear, a one-use, unsellable Thunderforged spear. He questions why such a rare item would appear this early and notes that it does not even look like a spear. He opens his inventory or skill screen, preparing to manipulate the item. Addressing his viewers, he explains that under certain conditions high-ranking items can change form, hinting at his deeper knowledge as he prepares for the next fight. Subaru enters the arena vowing to kill the boss as his viewers cheer him on. A blonde knight screams in terror as lightning crackles around him. The knights confront a massive one-eyed titan, reeling in fear. The long-haired titan roars and powers up. The Titan King stomps into the city, radiating energy. A system window identifies the monster as Titan King Grog, thunder-imbued. One knight panics as another recklessly charges the titan, shouting at him to stop. A terrified knight insists he warned everyone and claims the others know nothing. Cornered under the titan's hand, the cowardly knight nervously claims he is different from the others. He grovels on the ground, begging the titan for mercy. Subaru appears above him, questioning the titan being called a god. Subaru glares at the titan and angrily rejects being compared to such a vile being. A veteran knight hauls the coward up, yelling at him to stand and fight. The veteran orders Peleus to escort the villagers away as fast as possible. He continues giving evacuation orders despite the looming danger. Peleus, distraught, screams Dale's name. Peleus witnesses Dale's body violently crushed and dragged across the street. Panting and shaken, Peleus thinks they have no way to win this battle. He realizes even their escape route is compromised. He sees more titans blocking the paths while villagers panic and scatter. Peleus freezes, silently processing the hopeless situation. He clenches his teeth, struggling with his fear. Desperate, Peleus shouts that he knows who killed the Titan King's son. Subaru's voice continues, asking who killed the Titan's son as Grog turns toward him. Grog looms over Subaru, fixating on the mention of his son. Peleus prepares his special spear, thinking of Subaru's plan. Subaru indicates a direction with the spear, drawing the Titan's attention. Peleus yells that the son's killer went that way and is charging power to kill Grog. He prays inwardly for the lie to work and for Grog to move away. Grog glances toward the distant mountain where lightning gathers. The Titan coldly states Subaru is lying and that his words contain falsehoods. Grog accuses Peleus of randomly pointing his sword since the real killer is not present. Grog begins to threaten Peleus, but a massive thunderous eruption distracts him. Shocked, Grog reacts to the blinding explosion of light. Peleus stares at the spectacle, stunned. A colossal lightning storm engulfs the mountain, silhouettes writhing inside. Peleus wonders if the figure amid the storm is Subaru. A system announces Stage 7, Lightning, as Subaru observes the enlarged Titan from a cliff and assumes this is the final phase while viewers comment. Subaru worries that if something stronger appears this would surpass a floor 2 trial, while chat urges him either to flee or somehow fight the colossal Titan. Subaru calmly says it is fine. He decides not to overthink it, believing he only needs to land one hit, and begins selecting weapons. Forming a ball of electricity, he judges that Grog cannot match him now and that he must strike before the Titan attacks. Subaru raises his arm as the system proclaims Thunder Spear initiation. Lightning spears down from the heavens as Thunder Spear activation begins. Thunder clouds explode with blinding energy. The lightning swirls into a massive vortex of golden power. Subaru channels the storm into himself, the system showing Thunder Spear charging at just over 10%. The system warns his fatigue is already extremely high as electricity surges through his hand. Despite the strain, Subaru continues charging while sprinting, reaching 1/3 completion. He compresses the lightning into a black and gold spear in his grasp. A system notes that his Wedge of Greed item tries but mostly fails to resist Thunder Spear's backlash, and Subaru complains internally that its level is too low for such a legendary skill. His fatigue climbs further as the charge hits half capacity, yet he resolves to endure with his battered body. Viewers joke about his constant suffering with thunder as Subaru's face shows grim determination. The Titan finally notices the enormous lightning display and Subaru asks if he has been seen, while chat teases that anyone could. Subaru admits it is only natural he would be noticed after such a show, as the Thunder Spear charge nears 80%. Grog senses thunder energy and turns toward Subaru and Peleus. Grog realizes the son's killer must be elsewhere and prepares to move. He suddenly fixes on Subaru as the real target. Peleus yells in frustration as Grog abandons him and rushes toward Subaru instead. Peleus watches in shock as Grog and lesser titans barrel past, heading toward the villagers. Peleus sees the titans stampeding directly into the fleeing villagers and cries out for them. Grog looks up at the distant mountain lightning and sorrowfully calls out to his dead son Pydal. Grieving, Grog imagines his son's suffering. He vows to take his son's pain upon himself. He stomps the ground, gathering rage and power. Grog charges like a beast, fist drawn back for vengeance. With eyes blazing red, he declares he will return all that pain to the one responsible. He continues his furious charge, screaming. Subaru's Thunder Spear continues charging to nearly 90% as Grog rushes him. Grog races up the crumbling mountain toward the lightning focus. Subaru evaluates the odds of landing the throw as a coin flip, accepting that either it hits or he dies. While commenters doubt anyone could aim at such speed, he recalls advice not to take his eyes off the target. A memory resurfaces of his spear mentor warning never to look away from his target. The mentor then emphasizes maintaining focus once the throw begins. The mentor instructs Subaru to forget about straight lines or arcs and to stop overthinking predictions. The mentor tells him to ignore the spear's weight and form. He explains Subaru is different from normal spearmen because of his unique nature. The mentor names him Narukami Subaru, acknowledging his special talent. Back in the present, Thunder Spear charge reaches over 95% as Subaru strains to hold it. Subaru internally asks what he should actually do now. The mentor's memory answers that this is no normal spear throw. The remembered voice concludes that instead of throwing, Subaru should blast the spear. Subaru and Grog close in on each other on the shattered mountainside. As Chat urges him to throw before he dies, Grog lunges forward. Subaru forces himself to hold the charge just a bit longer. Grog is rocked by a thunderous explosion behind him and groans. He slams into the ground under the immense force. Eyes blazing, Grog leaps forward for a final assault. From above, Grog dives straight toward the glowing spear that Subaru is preparing. Lightning detonates outward as the energies clash. The Thunder Spear finally fully charges, the system confirming 100% and completion. Subaru braces with the crackling spear, ready to act. Aware he has only one opportunity, he commits everything to this single strike. Subaru rushes Grog, vowing to end the fight in one blow as their attacks collide. He unleashes the Thunder Spear. The explosion engulfs Subaru and Grog, lightning wrapping around the Titan. Subaru stands amid fading sparks, watching the result. Grog's forehead is pierced and crackling with thunder. The Titan's body convulses and begins disintegrating under the electric onslaught. The battlefield erupts in a gigantic blast visible from afar. As he dies, Grog weakly cries out. In his final moments, he calls his son's name while being consumed by light. Subaru's foot lands back on solid ground as the power dissipates. Exhausted but alive, he walks forward while Chat explodes in praise. A system announces that he has defeated Thunder-imbued Titan King Grog and cleared Stage 7, Thunder. More windows show he levels up 3 times and gains significant strength and stamina. Additional messages report boosts to concentration and mana, a reward of 5,000 AP, and acquisition of an item called the Thunder's Heart. Subaru examines the glowing crystal, wondering if this is the Thunder's Heart. The heart flares brightly in his hands. The light engulfs him, and he cries out. Opening his eyes again, he is confused about what just happened. He finds himself standing in a surreal purple space of shallow water and sky and questions where he is. A towering, shadowy figure appears behind him, startling him. Subaru panics, unable to speak, and wonders what is happening. He realizes his body is paralyzed and will not move. System messages state that numerous unknown entities are staring at him from the darkness. More messages repeat that these mysterious beings are observing him intensely. Subaru, shaken, wonders if they are trying to communicate something to him. He squeezes the Thunder's Heart tightly in his fist. Bright light and rainbow-colored skies burst outward as the vision ends. Subaru awakens back on the cliff edge above the clouds. A system declares the start of the main scenario Thunder and instructs him to investigate the village with the Thunder's Heart, while viewers mock him for fainting again. Sitting up under a rainbow sky, Subaru realizes the strange vision was not just a cutscene. He apologizes to his audience for briefly blacking out as Chat jokes about his constant fainting. Remembering, he says he still needs to claim his streaming credits. Various mission completion notifications pour in, revealing he has earned over 40,000 credits in total. Tired, Subaru tells viewers he will save showing off the Thunder's Heart for another stream, despite their protests. A notice appears that Narukami Subaru has ended the live stream. Later, in a cafe, staff congratulate him on his performance in the trial. Subaru awkwardly asks if the way the stream went was acceptable, and the manager assures him it was. She happily informs him that his peak viewership exceeded 3,000, which surprises him. Embarrassed, Subaru says he was too focused on the trial to notice, while the manager secretly marvels that his mask can come off. She explains that such numbers are amazing for a beginner, and that even his sudden stream ending helped build hype. Subaru likens it to leaving viewers eager for the next drama episode, and she suspects he planned the cliffhanger deliberately. He claims he intends to reveal rewards together with viewers next time so his reactions remain genuine, which impresses her. She thinks to herself that he understands streaming more than they feared and that the boss's worries were unfounded. She then says she has a special present for him today, prompting his curiosity. Leaning closer, she hints the gift is something unusual. Smiling confidently, she says it is something he will be unable to refuse. She tells him to look up another popular streamer known as Hawkeyes. Subaru agrees and opens a device to search. On his screen, Hawkeyes begins a broadcast, announcing today's topic and theme. Hawkeyes addresses his own viewers. teasing that Narukami might not be the original and promising to explain after they watch something together. Time passes as Subaru quietly watches from the cafe. Hawk Eyes explains to his audience that during Subaru's pain endurance trial he was essentially undertaking a second personal challenge at the same time. Hearing this breakdown, the manager blushes and falls silent, impressed. Hawk Eyes apologizes for rambling and prepares to summarize his point succinctly. He concludes that Subaru is so similar to him that he might as well be Narukami Subaru. Hawk Eyes then declares that nothing more needs to be said. Subaru wonders aloud if the manager shares that opinion as they continue watching the commentary. Wika excitedly asks Narukami if she can pose a strange question, and he tells her to go ahead. Blushing, Wika says it might be odd or rude for a manager to ask what she is about to. She nervously steels herself, swallowing as she prepares to speak. She finally asks Narukami why he streams. She presses further, wondering if he does it for reasons other than money. Narukami pauses, arms crossed, thinking over his reply. Wika watches him anxiously, waiting for his answer. He bluntly states that he really does stream purely for money and nothing else. Wika is taken aback and flustered by his direct answer. Regaining composure, she apologizes for asking something weird and acknowledges that money is important, while he reassures her it is fine. She hurriedly changes the topic, suggesting they talk about the present he just received. Wika explains that the streamer Hawk Eyes they watched belongs to Azure Sky, has been under contract for 6 years, and is a reliable commentator with a loyal audience. She enthusiastically adds that in Hawk Eyes' last and future streams using Narukami's content, all revenue will be shared with Narukami. When Narukami asks who the revenue is split with, she clarifies it will be shared with him because the content is based on his gameplay, including all income sources. Surprised, Narukami confirms this arrangement, while Wika says the agency has brought her nothing but good news since she joined. Wika bashfully checks that this really is like a bonus for him, and he agrees it is essentially a surprise reward. She then nervously proposes that Narukami do a small collaboration stream with Hawk Eyes as a gesture of thanks. Later, Narukami returns alone to his room as evening light streams in. Removing his mask, he thinks he might not have needed to wear it when meeting Wika. He regrets playing up the persona of doing everything only for money as strongly as he did. Looking at his unmasked reflection, he reflects that the more new connections he makes, he realizes the less certain he is about what parts of himself he should be hiding. He refocuses, noting via system message that he has just spent 40,000 credits leveling his Wedge of Greed skill to level 3. The system details Wedge of Greed as a C-rank skill at level 4 that reduces item and skill side effects but now requires 80,000 credits to enhance further, which he compares against his remaining funds. Seeing that he only has 120 credits left, he admits to himself that money truly is his top priority. Lying in bed, he consoles himself that a collaboration with Hawk Eyes in 2 days should bring in a decent sum. Activating a menu with his hand, he addresses his viewers. Holding a crystalline feathered artifact, he warns his audience that they might hear news about him before he can explain it. Elsewhere, Wika lies in bed clutching a pillow, overwhelmed by her thoughts of him. Hugging the pillow tighter, she wordlessly broods, face flushed. In her imagination, Narukami repeats that he streams purely for the money, appearing to her in a romanticized aura. She slams her fist into the pillow, demanding reassurance that his motivations are really that simple. Still fantasizing, she imagines him warning that behind his cool mask lies a dangerous secret that could hurt her if she pries. Determined yet flustered, she vows aloud not to ask about his secret even though she is extremely curious. Her fantasy continues with Narukami sweetly saying that since meeting her, his life has been going great. She squeals in delight in her mind, shouting that she feels the same. In reality, she pummels the pillow until feathers burst out, venting her overflowing feelings. Panting amid the feathers, she rapturously labels Narukami Subaru a mysterious man with an unknown secret who is even more charming in person. The scene shifts to the nighttime Gothic city of Noxbella on floor 7. The camera focuses on one lit window of the grand cathedral-like structure there. Inside a lavish room-turned-gym, a muscular man works out while a large screen plays Hawkeye's stream. On screen, Hawkeye says he will get straight to the point and sum his thoughts up briefly. The exercising man tightens his grip on the bar, clearly irritated. He mutters that he dislikes Hawkeye's. Doing pull UPS, he complains that the streamer's way of talking annoys him and wonders who Hawkeye's even is. A suited man explains that Hawkeye's is a streamer averaging 8,000 viewers. The muscular man, introduced as Kuriko Amon of Blue Zone, remarks that he used to dabble in streaming himself. The suited man tells Amon to ignore Hawkeye's and instead focus on Narukami Subaru, whom Hawkeye's mentioned on stream. Seeing footage of Narukami's thunder attacks on a Titan, Amon begrudgingly admits the performance looks impressive. He recalls advice from Spear Master Seiko Shuhai that success with throwing spears is all about keeping your eyes fixed on the target. The aide is surprised Amon remembers such minor lines, and Amon says he tried to absorb every habit and detail from top-ranked players. He notes that players like those were at the true top of the game. Amon adds that people forget all members of the former Blue Eyes Guild, not just Narukami Subaru, were at the pinnacle. He says the way the entire guild supposedly died does not make sense to him. On screen, Hawkeyes confidently declares that Narukami Subaru might as well be that legendary player, needing no further proof. Amon grumbles that Hawkeyes acts arrogant, and casually name-drops Subaru like they are close, criticizing streamers for sacrificing pride for content. Annoyed, he turns off the TV. He complains that the whole thing just irritated him, while the aide says showing it was the guildmaster's idea, not his. Hearing that guildmaster Kyojo ordered it shown, Amon is taken aback. The aide points out that lightning was Blue Eyes' symbol, and that Blue Eyes was the predecessor guild of Blue Zone. He continues that their intel says this streamer they are watching cares obsessively about money. The attendant pulls back a cloth cover to reveal something intended to appeal to that greed. Amon's eye widens in shock as he sees what is under the cloth. The revealed trove of gold bars comes with orders. The budget has been secured and they are to recruit the streamer no matter what. Amon exclaims in disbelief. He wonders if Narukami is truly that much of a money-driven person. Back in the tower, a system message announces the start of the Floor 2 trial in a ruined village under attack. A knight leader quickly organizes the defense, ordering that the injured be gathered, the critical treated first, and medicine distributed afterward. The blonde knight Peleus looks worried yet determined amid the chaos. Noticing movement, Peleus brightens in recognition. Narukami walks into the village awake again, and Peleus rushes to him, overjoyed that he has finally regained consciousness. Peleus asks how Narukami feels, explaining that he collapsed outside the village and they had been very worried. Narukami says he is still somewhat dizzy, and Peleus notes it makes sense since only a day has passed. Narukami asks to talk later at the inn because he has questions, and Peleus happily agrees to answer anything. As Peleus leaves to continue helping, he tells Narukami he will see him again soon. Watching him go, Narukami quietly remarks to chat that Peleus is extremely earnest while viewers tease him about the obvious bromance. Later, Narukami sits on his bed, lost in thought. He decides to check the rewards from the Titan fight and opens his inventory interface. He discovers a unique item called the Thunder's Heart that boosts thunder resistance and thunder attack power while improving fire resistance. Disbelieving, he reacts on stream as chat asks whether he is disappointed or excited. Examining it, he notes that its attributes are perfect for thunder-focused fighters. He concludes the item is insanely powerful. A knock at his door prompts him to invite the visitor in. The door opens to reveal a basket of fruit being carried inside. Narukami and his chat are puzzled by the sudden fruit basket. Smiling, Peleus steps in carrying the basket and asks if Narukami rested well, while chat jokes about a lover's visit. They sit at a table with the fruit between them, ready to talk. Narukami confirms aloud that the local legend he heard about thunder was true. Peleus says he saw the same light during the battle and credits Narukami's power with saving the village. Narukami produces the gem, explaining it came out of the Titan's body. He tells Peleus it is called the Thunder's Heart, shocking the knight. Narukami asks if Peleus knows what it is as thunder crackles around the gem. Peleus admits he personally has no clear knowledge. Narukami realizes Peleus is only pretending ignorance, and that chat recognizes this trope as well. Peleus apologizes, saying he has only heard of the Thunder's Heart in ancient legends, and is unsure how real they are, so Narukami asks him to share whatever he knows. Peleus says he knows of two legends concerning it. The first legend claims thunder was once used to exterminate the Titans. Peleus notes this mirrors how Narukami slew the Titans with thunder, and begins to explain the second story. The second legend describes a war between gods and Titans over control of thunder. Narukami, startled, confirms Peleus means actual fighting, and Peleus answers yes. Peleus calls it a legend among legends in which gods and Titans fought over thunder, and the Titans were ultimately defeated. From that, Narukami reasons that the Thunder's Heart gem was likely crafted by someone rather than a natural object. He wonders who could have created it, and Peleus says the legends do not say, but the purpose seems clear. Peleus believes the gem exists to allow humans to wield thunder, which they needed as a weapon. He states that humans needed thunder specifically to face beings like gods and Titans. A vision shows gods and Titans as entities so powerful that humans cannot compare. Another vision shows humans holding glowing stones of thunder, as if receiving that power. It concludes that the Thunder's Heart was created so humans could fight and defeat such beings. A system message informs Narukami he has now viewed all chapters of the story, The Forgotten Human, and cleared the Thunder Trial. Additional messages say his thunder skill will now scale with AP. He gains 17,050 AP, and his thunder ability rises to level 3. Immediately after, a new message announces he is being transferred to floor 3. As Narukami's body begins to glow and fade, Peleus panics, shouting and asking what is happening. Peleus is left alone in the room, stunned, as Narukami vanishes in a pillar of light. Narukami arrives in the large city of Ordinal on floor 3. A similar beam materializes him in a plaza fountain as bystanders look on. Fully formed, Narukami stands in the plaza bathed in light, while viewers celebrate that he has finally reached the 3rd floor. Two locals notice him, dismissing him as just another Narukami Subaru cosplayer, and wishing the fad would end. A donation pops up congratulating him on reaching floor 3 and asking how he feels. Narukami tells his audience this place is what he has been aiming for. In a flashback, another player with gray hair responds to someone calling him and prepares to answer. The narration introduces this girl as Reina, who initially acted distant toward Narukami. A flustered Reina tells him she got separated from her party. She animatedly asks the gray-haired man if he has seen someone of a certain height matching her companion. He considers her description and notes the person she is looking for is probably taller than he is. He then says he actually has seen that person. Pointing, he tells her the person went in that direction, and she thanks him profusely. Reina dashes off in the indicated direction. She abruptly stops, realizing she may not know which way he meant. Confused, she spins around pointing both ways while the man silently watches. He suggests they go together since he is headed that way anyway. Reina, delighted, exclaims in surprise that he would accompany her. He casually says he has nothing else to do, and narration notes, he only guided her that day and nothing more. As she thanks him and introduces herself as Kyoka Reina while asking his name, he responds that he is Narukami Subaru. The memory closes with the question of whether everyone would still be alive now if events back then had gone differently. Back in the present, another donation from Narukami Subaru Love urges Narukami to share how he feels. Narukami's eye narrows in response, revealing his mixed emotions. He tells his viewers he feels as though he has lost something important. He grips his device tightly, preparing to end the stream. He signs off by announcing that his next stream will be a collaboration with Hawkeyes, then terminates the broadcast. Later, in a bright restaurant, various patrons dine as Narukami meets someone there. Narukami apologizes for keeping the suited man waiting as he sits with a cup of coffee. The man says Wika is on her way and explains that traveling between floors takes time unlike instant trial transfers. Introducing himself as John Tail from Azure Sky Entertainment, he sits with Narukami, who recognizes him as the boss Wika mentioned. When John reacts to Narukami's offhand remark, Narukami politely says his manager already told him about John and that it is a pleasure to meet him. John admits he normally leaves such matters to Wika but wanted to personally meet the player she praises so highly, which she has only ever done for 2 people. Narukami asks about these 2, and John says the first is obvious. John names the first as Blue Eye's legendary Narukami Subaru, causing Narukami to stiffen. John says he was surprised that such a harsh critic as Wika took interest in another player who shares that famous name. Narukami awkwardly laughs it off, then says he has a strange question he wants to ask. Before he can, John leans forward and asks directly if Narukami is interested in the guild Blue Eyes. Subaru's eye widens as he realizes something shocking. The older man notes Subaru clearly cares about certain people, while Subaru uneasily asks why he is bringing that up. The man says that concern is one reason he arranged this meeting. He hands Subaru a tablet, telling him to check the championship prize for a tournament on floor 3 in 5 days. Seeing the prize, Subaru internally reacts in disbelief. Power surges around Subaru's clenched fist as he recognizes what the item is. Elsewhere, a notification shows that Narukami Subaru's live stream has just ended. A black-haired woman watching the stream comments that it is over. She wonders aloud if Subaru has also finished his business and decides to go check. She walks through the forest. Her steps cross from grass onto a snowy, icy patch. She continues down the snow-covered path through the trees. She arrives at a clearing and asks a silver-haired man if he is done. He replies that he finished a while ago. When she asks what he was doing, he answers that he was thinking. The scene shows a frozen enemy, indicating the aftermath of his battle. Surrounded by frozen enemies, he debates whether to kill them or let them crawl away alive. The woman argues to just kill them since they already know who sent these attackers. But he says they are not fully certain, and that is why he is thinking. He reasons that if the attackers truly worked for Kyojo, Kyojo would not have sent such weak underlings. She counters that letting them live is dangerous in itself. She notes that if these men guide others back, their hideout will be exposed. She unleashes her magic, ice spikes erupting around. She suspends blades of ice in the air, ready to slaughter the frozen enemies. She subtly moves her fingers, controlling the hovering blades. She shifts her hand, preparing to launch one of the blades. She stands poised amid the weapons, about to attack. The man panics and calls out for her to stop. He yells for her to stop as the blades hurtle toward the immobilized enemies. The frozen enemies are shattered by the barrage. Their bodies break apart further under the onslaught. The remaining enemies are pierced through and annihilated. The man shouts at her, demanding to know what she thinks she is doing as they stand amid the shattered ice. She retorts that whether or not Kyojo sent them, letting any of them walk away would reveal that they are still alive. She scolds him that his indecisiveness will get them killed and tells him to harden his heart, and he apologizes. He silently takes out his tablet. He tells her to look at the tablet. Seeing what is on it, she shouts in shock. Her eyes glow red with fury as she curses the person responsible. He asks if the information angers her, and she confirms that it obviously does. She points out that the shoes shown belong to Toshiya. He explains that the shoes are bait, a trap meant to lure them out. She concludes that Kyojo has realized they might still be alive somewhere. She says that even if it is a trap, they cannot ignore it because they have to reclaim what is theirs, and he understands her point. He admits he is bad at stealth but says she has always been good at that, implying she should infiltrate. She answers that she was already planning to do it even without being asked. He stops her from rushing off. He clarifies that he does not want her to charge in recklessly. He proposes they steal the item at the moment the tournament winner is announced, calling it the safest approach. Back to the cafe, the older man explains that the prize is Blue Eye's relic item Teleria, donated by Blue Zone for this tournament. He asks Subaru if he is interested, and Subaru replies yes. Subaru, filled with red-tinged rage, says he is very interested. The man is pleased and admits the entire project hinged on Subaru's willingness. When Subaru asks about this project, the man explains they planned a storyline about Narukami Subaru hunting Blue Eye's relics to make a compelling attraction. Enraged, Subaru thinks how dare they. He rages internally that they are using Toshiya's relic as a mere circus prop, his fist crackling with power. The man, sensing something is off, nervously asks if something is wrong and offers to reconsider. Subaru, suppressing his anger, states that he will participate. The man is delighted that Subaru accepted. Subaru then ends the meeting and excuses himself, while the man politely says they look forward to working with him. As Subaru leaves, the man cheerfully calls that they will be cheering for him from behind the screen. Subaru vows internally that he will never hand Toshiya's relic over, not even over his dead body. Later in his room, Subaru lies on the bed, mulling over the coming days. He wonders what kind of events the tournament will include. He hopes the events are individual rather than team-based. He concedes that he cannot afford to be picky about the format now. A female voice at his door introduces herself as Wika, catching his attention. He sits up to respond. He gets out of bed and moves toward the door, his mask resting on the table. His eye narrows thoughtfully. He opens the door to find Wika dressed up and holding a bag. She nervously tries to speak. Subaru quickly dons his mask and invites her in, which surprises her since she notes he even wears it inside his room. Flustered, she repeats his invitation and asks if he truly wants her to come inside. Subaru says they can also talk in the hallway if she prefers, and she hurriedly insists on coming in. She steps into the room, apologizing politely for intruding. They sit awkwardly opposite each other in the sparsely furnished room. Wika steals a nervous glance at him. She thinks his room is surprisingly plain. She sits clutching her bag while Subaru waits quietly. Subaru studies her with his mask on and confirms in his thoughts that her mana reserves seem limitless. He concludes there is no way a woman with this kind of power is just a simple manager. Embarrassed by his stare, she asks if something is wrong and whether she has something on her face. Subaru instead prompts her to talk about the tournament information she promised. Realizing she has not yet given it, she apologizes and rummages in her bag. She explains that the tournament will take the form of a battle royale. She details that everyone will fight over one prize in a simple winner-takes-all format. Subaru is shown recalling a brutal past battle royale filled with bloodshed. He confirms that means it is a solo match, and she replies that yes, with only one prize it has to be. She continues that the battlefield is a simulated trial field, that only floor 3 players can enter, and that there is an entry fee with no cap on participants. She offers to send him data and footage from previous battle royale events so he can understand the format. Subaru looks at the files she sent and realizes they are all highlight videos about Narukami Subaru himself. He thanks her, saying the material will help, and she insists she is only doing her job. Wika then nervously asks whether the chief also told him something else. She reveals that Blue Zone contacted their office wanting to meet with him directly. Subaru envisions Kyojo Itsuki of Blue Zone in his mind. Anger flares as Subaru repeats Kyojo Itsuki's name, stunned that the message came from Blue Zone. Wika explains that since they had no way to reach Subaru himself, Blue Zone emailed the office saying they wish to meet him in person, and Subaru thinks Kyojo is already making his move. She assumes Blue Zone wants to negotiate better terms and advises Subaru to ignore their offer. When Subaru agrees to ignore them, she is shocked that he would brush off such a big guild. Subaru states firmly that he will not join Blue Zone or any other guild. Wika bursts into loud relief and joy, thrilled by his answer. She says she was torn about whether to tell him about the offer but is glad she did. Cheerfully humming, she tells him to take his time preparing until the collaboration stream with Hawk Eyes begins. After she leaves, Subaru notes to himself that she is celebrating as if she personally won something. Removing his mask, he muses that for an ordinary employee, she is impressively dedicated to her work. He concludes she is definitely not just an average person. While outside she quietly cheers to herself. Time passes, and at a huge arena the staff prepare the venue. The chief and Hawk Eyes stand at the center, going over the plan. The chief reviews that today's project compares the talents of the original Narukami Subaru and the new Narukami Subaru. He asks Hawk if the idea is cool, warning that a loss would hurt Hawk too, and Hawk praises the bold concept. Hawk confidently says to bring it on, claiming that whatever the results they will accept them because that is how they gain viewers' trust. With a close-up of his eye, Hawk boasts that he has never lost a battle. The chief reminds him that everything ultimately depends on how Narukami performs, and Hawk sheepishly agrees. Someone calls out to the chief as Subaru and Wika arrive at the arena. Wika greets them and Subaru, and the chief welcomes them back. Hawk thinks to himself that this collab is his chance to finally become a shining star. Subaru, on entering the arena, thinks about how huge the rented place is. Hawk walks up and introduces himself as Hawk's Eyes, a friendly streamer. Subaru introduces himself as Narukami Subaru, and Hawk excitedly gushes like a fan about meeting the trending star while downplaying his own status. The chief cuts in, saying to save the bonding for the live broadcast as Hawk starts the live stream. Hawk greets his viewers live and thanks them for tuning in. As viewership skyrockets into the thousands, Hawk notes how the collab announcement has blown up and is amazed by the starting numbers. On stream, Hawk tells viewers that today is the big moment everyone has been waiting for as he presents Subaru. Subaru's boots, now upgraded, are shown as he steps into frame. Hawk dramatically introduces Narukami Subaru to the stream audience, and Subaru gives a polite greeting. Hawk tells viewers he has never seen Subaru's real face and teases Subaru about hiding something, prompting chat speculation. Subaru laughs it off, insisting it is not like that and bragging a little that he is actually pretty good looking. As donations flood in and chat hypes up, Hawk thinks his stream has never been this explosive, while Subaru quietly vows that he will not lose, even in looks. Hawk reflects that Subaru not only fights well but also knows how to play to the crowd. The Chief and Wika watch anxiously as the banter continues. Hawk tells chat to stop teasing his important guests and announces they are moving on to the main event. A huge display lights up, announcing the commencement of the trial. Spotlights blaze on overhead. The camera focuses on rows of combat robots being deployed. Hawk explains that he chose this particular trial and will now explain why. He says there are reasons for his choice as the armed robots activate. First, he notes that the scenario is perfect for measuring combat control, as the robots surround the arena with weapons ready. Second, he begins to say, grinning. He explains that today he can prove his claim that he deserves to be ranked among the top players listed on the screen. As donations question whether Subaru can beat the existing record, Subaru says he would not have agreed if he did not believe he could. The robots line up, ready to fight. Their eyes glow red as they switch to attack mode. Subaru surges forward into the crowd of robots, unleashing a powerful assault. Viewers comment on his intense confidence, and wonder if he can really break the record in one attempt as the robots brace themselves. More viewers express excitement as the scoreboard showing Narukami Subaru's record looms above him. A viewer offers a challenge mission. If Subaru kills more than 43 robots in one run, he will earn a large credit reward, but must show his face if he fails. Subaru thinks it is far too early to risk revealing his face. Despite that, he thanks everyone for the donations and promises to show his face if he fails the mission. Chat points out it is unfair that only Subaru bears the penalty while the reward is shared, making Hawk reconsider. Hawk announces that for this mission, all credits will go solely to Narukami. Holding a timer, Hawk grins and declares that it is time to begin the challenge. Hawk Eyes announces the start, and presses a button on his device. The arena screen sets a 3-minute timer and 0 kills. Subaru strides into a swarm of armed training dummies as they rush him. Subaru triggers his thunder ability, electricity surging around him. Empowered by thunder, he rockets toward the robots, tearing through them. He slams an electrified palm into a robot's head. The impact destroys a dummy, and the counter updates to 1 kill. Viewers spam chat in disbelief as Hawk Eyes gushes about watching Thunder live. Subaru draws his ominous demon blade. Supercharged with lightning, he blitzes through more dummies as the timer drops to 2 minutes 39 seconds. Chat comments on his insane speed and potential for a huge kill count as stronger dummies deploy. Surrounded again, Subaru carves apart another wave with his blade. With 2 minutes 3 seconds left, he keeps shattering dummies in close combat. As he fights airily, Chat jokes that he is recreating an iconic scene and praise his airborne style. Subaru flips overhead, preparing another sword strike on incoming dummies. He adjusts his grip, readying a powerful swing. Thunder flares around the demon blade as he raises it high. Subaru smashes the sword down, sending a shockwave through the arena. The explosion of lightning obliterates many dummies at once, raising his total to 26 kills with 1 minute 22 seconds left. Viewers react in awe as debris and robot parts rain down. Spectators on the floor predict he might take second place or even more as he continues fighting. Another comment laughs that everyone who set this mission underestimated him, while Hawk Eyes watches the devastation. Hawk Eyes stares wide-eyed, moved by seeing Thunder's true power. The main display now shows only 13 seconds left and 41 kills. Subaru keeps cutting down dummies in a blur of yellow lightning. An elite dummy is cleaved as the display jumps to 42 kills at 1 minute 22 seconds remaining in that segment. Exhausted but still fighting, Subaru faces more dummies with only 5 seconds left. Close-up of his focused eyes as the timer hits 3 seconds. A stronger, sword-wielding dummy advances on him while others close in. Subaru explodes forward in a lightning charge dash with 2 seconds on the clock. With 1 second remaining, he leaps and bisects the elite dummy. The arena screen freezes at 1 second left and 42 kills. It then ticks to 0 with his final kill raising the total to 43. A system message declares the trial over with 43 kills and records the new result. The ranking board announces Narukami Subaru in first place, and chat erupts as he pants on stream. Hawk Eyes rushes in shouting that Subaru got 43 kills and tied the original Narukami Subaru's record. Hawk Eyes proclaims the match a draw and asks viewers how they liked it while chat praises the fight. Stream notifications show large credit gifts and messages praising the run and Hawk Eyes hype. Another huge donation comes in asking if this is Narukami Subaru's stream, and Hawk Eyes clarifies it is his, not Subaru's. A user named Reinhardt sends an enormous donation of 10,000 credits, stunning Hawk Eyes. Hawk Eyes and chat realize the donor is actually the famous one-slash-swordsman Reinhardt. Hawk Eyes thanks Reinhardt and marvels that a high-ranking player is watching, while Subaru notes the swordsman's title. A visual of Reinhardt on a throne with swords at his feet emphasizes his fearsome reputation. Reinhardt sends another message saying Subaru's run inspired him and that he always watches Hawk Eyes streams. Subaru internally worries Reinhardt might have learned about what he did to Isaac and wonders why the man is watching. Reinhardt donates again, asking Narukami Subaru to collaborate with him, which shocks Subaru. Subaru hesitates verbally while Hawk Eyes holds out the interface, and their handlers watch anxiously. Their two managers nervously perform a heart gesture, silently begging Subaru to agree. Subaru flatly declines the collab, saying he must focus on the trials, leaving Hawk Eyes horrified. The managers and chat react with utter shock at his refusal. Subaru apologizes, saying he spent too much energy, and asks Hawkeye's to finish the stream, confusing him. Subaru walks off while Hawkeye's panics and calls after him. The managers scold Subaru for turning down such a big chance to boost his streaming career, admitting they are stunned too. Subaru naively asks if the opportunity is really that important, and the male manager explains collaborating with a high ranker almost never happens. Subaru shrugs that if being a ranker matters so much, he will just become one himself. The managers stare at him, overwhelmed by his confidence and ambition. Hawkeyes runs up praising Subaru's performance, and promises to send him his share of the stream revenue. Hawkeyes then nervously asks a personal question now that the stream is over. He says Subaru felt strangely off during the fight, as if not in top condition, and asks if he is injured. Subaru realizes Hawkeyes noticed his hidden limitation as the female manager listens tensely. Subaru thinks that Hawkeyes truly lives up to his nickname, and that winning or losing the trial outright would have hurt him strategically. Hawkeyes asks what he means, and Subaru explains that the audience's interest lies in whether he can surpass Narukami Subaru. Subaru reflects that even if he had won today, the hype around that rivalry would quickly fade. He adds that if he had clearly lost, people would just say he was no match for the real Narukami Subaru. Subaru concludes that he engineered a result where both versions of Narukami Subaru stand on equal footing. He states that a draw was therefore the only optimal outcome. The others realize he could likely have surpassed the record if he had wanted to. Subaru evasively answers that no one can know for sure and deflects the question. The manager notes the result is fixed now regardless, implying speculation is pointless. Subaru says what matters is how people interpret the outcome, not the numbers themselves. He then leaves the arena floor, walking away from the managers and wreck dummies. Elsewhere, a fist clenches in rage. In a guild hall, Reinhardt smashes the floor in anger at the situation. Enraged Reinhardt, identified as the rank 121 Golden Lion Guild Master, calls Subaru an insolent brat. The device on the floor shows Hawkeyes has ended the live broadcast. A nervous subordinate enters Reinhardt's hall and addresses him. The man anxiously asks if something is wrong. Reinhardt, seething, confirms that the Narukami Subaru the subordinate once mentioned is the one from the stream. He complains that Subaru rejected his offer, furious that an upstart turned him down. The subordinate flatters Reinhardt, and notes how bold it was to refuse him, while Reinhardt mutters he had planned to crush Subaru publicly to silence rumors. Reinhardt says he does not care about the credits spent but that a rookie daring to wound his pride enrages him. The subordinate hastily picks up Reinhardt's device. He nervously returns the gadget to Reinhardt. Reinhardt snatches it while brusquely asking about a separate matter he had assigned. The subordinate reports they are still searching hard for Sir Isaac. He starts to say that a young man disappearing for a few days is not unusual. Reinhardt grabs him by the throat with burning red energy. The subordinate gasps and chokes as Reinhardt lifts him. Reinhardt demands to know if the man is mocking him as well. Terrified, the subordinate tries to apologize mid-sentence. Reinhardt casually tosses him across the room. The impact smashes the subordinate into the wall with explosive force. The battered man slides down the cracked wall as Reinhardt approaches. Reinhardt looms over him, asking since when he started questioning orders. The subordinate grovels on the ground, begging for forgiveness and promising to resume the search immediately. Elsewhere, Hawkeyes receives a call from his nagging boss. A woman in a red coat, his manager, checks the caller ID with a resigned look. She answers cheerfully, greeting her chief, who yells that she sounds bored by his calls. The boss complains about her lack of energy and demands she talk to him like she does to Narukami. He presses her about the Reinhardt collab proposal while she listens. She reluctantly admits she did call about that proposal and knows they cannot waste such a rare chance. She wonders aloud what they can realistically do, while the boss urges her as Subaru's manager to convince him again. She repeats Subaru's name, focusing on the issue. The boss explains Subaru cares more about climbing the tower than collabs, and though he grumbles, he admits that mindset suits a player. She curtly says she is hanging up as he tries to protest. After ending the call, she admits to herself it truly would be a huge opportunity for Subaru. She decides to give it one more try and goes to knock on Subaru's door, calling his name. Subaru opens the door in casual clothes, surprising her. She shyly asks if he always keeps his mask on, and he says for now he feels more comfortable wearing it. Subaru teasingly asks if she is curious about his real face, flustering her. She rambles that the mask helps viewers associate him with Narukami Subaru but hopes someday he might show his own face. Subaru wonders aloud why everyone is fixated on Narukami Subaru. She lists reasons. He was a low-level Earthborn with poor stats who still became impressive, and his mere existence feels cool. She adds that, above all, Narukami Subaru represented their hope. She begins recounting how, when she first arrived in the tower, the world was barren and hopeless. The flashback shows an empty wasteland where nothing existed in the tower. She remembers a time of constant monsters, no food, no income, and no stability, where survival meant endlessly climbing. She explains that climbing earned credits, which allowed people to settle, and slowly they began to believe the world could be livable. She recalls the era when top players inspired everyone with the belief the tower could be conquered. Images of them triumphing over a massive dragon reinforced that idea of a winnable world. She says that above all of them stood Narukami Subaru, whose deeds went beyond simple floor clears. She concludes he was the first to prove conquering the tower was actually possible. Subaru asks if she personally believes that as well. She coyly says her full opinion is a secret, like what lies under his mask, and that maybe she will share it someday. Subaru realizes she came with business and invites her inside to talk, startling her. Flustered, she backpedals, insists it is nothing important, and says goodnight before fleeing. Subaru watches her retreat down the corridor, puzzled. She walks away thinking she no longer even wants to push the collab and wonders why his casual invitations make her heart race. Subaru reflects alone on the idea of being someone's hope. Later, in the white system space, the mission interface thinks. Narukami Subaru love. For another 1000 credit donation as he prepares the next run. More donations arrive, including messages from Golden Lion and the Yggdrasil Guild asking if he will really refuse Reinhardt and wanting to talk. Subaru notes how huge the collab hype has become, and that viewers and credits are rising fast. He decides his role is simply to give people what they want while earning credits, and starts the floor 3 trial. The system presents a choice between joining the Ottoman or Conrad kingdoms, and he reaches toward one as chat debates his pick. Exposition explains that faction choice changes everything on this floor and that the two kingdoms hate each other, then confirms he has chosen the rare Conrad's side. Only a small fraction of players pick Conrad, and the scene shifts to its rowdy mercenary rest area on floor 3. Subaru covertly enters the tavern as various mercenaries mill about. A thug notices him, calling him a newbie and saying he is bored and ready for trouble. The thug walks straight towards Subaru in the hallway. As they pass, he deliberately shoulder checks Subaru. Subaru remains steady while the thug recoils, surprised. A close-up shows the thug's foot sliding from the impact. He looks shaken as Subaru calmly keeps moving. Internally sensing Subaru's strength, the thug still yells at him to watch where he is going. He demands to know what Subaru's problem is. Subaru replies that the thug is the one at fault for purposely bumping into him. Enraged, the B-rank mercenary grabs Subaru by the collar and insults him for talking back as a supposed D-rank. Other mercenaries excitedly gather, eager to watch Vulture bully another low-rank newcomer. Subaru, unconcerned, notes B-rank great, and says he wants to test something as lightning gathers around his leg. His leg becomes wreathed in thunder energy as he prepares to strike. The masked protagonist violently blasts an arrogant mercenary in the face with electrified force. The man called Vulture is hurled across the guild hall and crashes to the floor, badly injured. The onlookers stare in shock as Vulture lies unconscious while the masked fighter calmly stands where he was. Some bystanders speculate Vulture might be sick, while another points out people do not fling themselves backward when ill. Other mercenaries realize the newcomer actually kicked Vulture and angrily threaten to tear off his mask for showing off as an E-rank. A stronger thug declares the guild hall will be the masked newbie's grave as he and his group move in. The protagonist's eye hardens with resolve behind the mask. After a brief, unseen clash, the hall is littered with defeated mercenaries, and one survivor whimpers that the masked man cannot be human. An older man approaches and praises the masked youth for his evident skill. The man introduces himself as Raymond, a rank examiner. Shaking hands, Raymond asks what jobs the unfamiliar E-rank has completed so far, while viewers in chat mock the situation. The protagonist explains via narration that Floor 3's trial is to complete mercenary jobs and earn 10,000 AP. He notes that E-rank jobs pay so little that players usually spend over a year on this floor, so he decided to take a shortcut instead of slowly ranking up. Raymond guesses he might be an otherworlder and notes that such people have become rare. Raymond refuses special treatment but hints the order can be shortened, while asking what benefit there is in favoring someone who will eventually leave this world. The protagonist thinks there is only one way to clear Floor 3's trial in one go and offers to make Raymond's dreams come true with a method even he never attempted in his past life. Raymond, nervous, asks what he means. The protagonist states he will conquer the high-level dungeon Cave of Thunder and claim it for Conrad. Raymond is horrified, saying only A-rank mercenaries can accept that job and hinting there is an even bigger problem. The protagonist calmly says he knows the dungeon is the subject of a prideful contest between the Osman and Conrad kingdoms over an impregnable stronghold. Narration explains Cave of Thunder is a special Floor 3 dungeon that no player, mercenary, or knight has ever cleared. A map shows the Conrad and Osman kingdoms separated by a contested, impassable mountain range. The narration adds that conquering Cave of Thunder, a direct pass through those mountains, would block invasions and grant decisive military advantage. The protagonist proposes that if Raymond issues him proof of A-rank status so he can take the Cave of Thunder job, he will clear it, and promises not to abuse the certification. Raymond hesitates, thinking hard about the request. The protagonist thinks that if turned down, he may have to fight Raymond too, while viewers jokingly urge Raymond to run away. Raymond finally agrees to write a letter of recommendation so the protagonist can join a raid on the dungeon. He remarks that raid parties always need manpower. While chat notes, he narrowly escapes serious danger without realizing it. Raymond says the raid leaves in 5 days and tells the protagonist to wait, while he fetches the recommendation. As soon as the plan is known, multiple viewers send missions offering large sums if he solo clears the Thunder dungeon. The protagonist notices that 5 days is exactly when Floor 3's tournament ends and wonders if Blue Zone scheduled it with that in mind. Returning with the letter, Raymond admits he still finds the idea of clearing the Cave of Thunder hard to believe. He recalls challenging the cave in his youth and losing half his party. Handing over the letter, Raymond is reassured when the protagonist says such losses will not happen this time, but he wonders why a recommendation is needed. The protagonist answers that it is because he intends to enter the dungeon entirely alone, surprising both Raymond and the watching chat. Raymond protests that Cave of Thunder is designed for a 20-person raid and questions if Conrad can even assemble that many people, let alone one man going solo. He coughs awkwardly, saying he assumed the protagonist already had companions, but the young man replies that he does not. The protagonist adds in his thoughts that he has no companions yet, emphasizing his solitude. Someone watching his exploits from a dangerous cliffside comments that his solo plan is impressive. This hooded watcher climbs along precarious planks and wonders if the masked man truly intends to clear the dungeon alone, comparing him to Subaru and wishing the live stream were not public. The hooded figure watches his stream and admits they have no interest in other trials, focusing entirely on him. On the broadcast, the protagonist announces he will take a break from streaming, disappointing his thousands of viewers. The watcher reacts in dismay as the stream ends. They see a notification that Narukami Subaru has ended the live stream and complain that it ruined their plan to pass time until reaching floor 3. After a moment, the watcher laughs happily, saying the masked streamer really resembles the original Subaru. She reflects that he stubbornly follows his own path regardless of others' opinions. Looking out into the storm, she muses that watching him feels like watching the real Subaru himself. She remembers he is also entering the upcoming tournament. She decides to stick around long enough to chat with him in person. Leaping dramatically from the cliff, she privately hopes he does not win the tournament. Later, the protagonist walks through town with his manager Tashiya, acting exactly as she expected. Tashiya praises how perfectly he captured Narukami Subaru's personality, though she notes the viewers booed him relentlessly. She adds that if he had just taken regular jobs, the stream would not have stood out, and he credits her advice for making it special. When she asks about his next move, he replies that he will go hunting to level up before the tournament in case strong rivals appear. He internally adds that he wants to gauge how much thunder power he can handle with his current stats, and test the artifact called Thunder's Heart. He vows never to hand over Toshiya's keepsake to anyone, no matter what. Elsewhere, Blue Zone player Ginzaki Naoto angrily rushes through the city after being summoned, irritated that he had to come in person. Complaining that he should not have to dance to the tune of some floor 3 nobody known as Thunder, Naoto approaches the tavern meeting place. Entering, he calls to say he has arrived and is beckoned over by a man waiting inside. The waiting executive greets him calmly at a table with drinks. 2 mugs and a bottle sit between them, indicating a formal meeting. The executive confirms Naoto is from Blue Zone and says he heard Naoto wanted to discuss something involving one of their streamers. Naoto acknowledges this but impatiently asks where the important person he came to see actually is. The executive says the streamer is not present and is busy elsewhere. Naoto calls that arrogant for a rookie and questions what could be more important, but the executive insists the reason is private. The executive notes they already relayed the streamer's wishes, which is precisely why the streamer is absent. He adds that their company intends to speak directly with the streamer, and that meeting him may be difficult for Naoto. Naoto accuses them of deliberately blocking access to the streamer, and worries he will be blamed if he returns without meeting Narukami. Losing his temper, Naoto slams the table, accusing them of trying to hoard their golden goose. He argues that Narukami Subaru would be better off joining a major guild than streaming and tells the executive to think carefully. Face to face, the executive counters that famous streamers can now earn as much as top-ranked players. He explains that many players still look down on streaming as a profession, but he has met that type and disagrees. When Naoto's tone suggests Blue Zone might become their enemy, the executive urges him to hear him out fully. He explains that their company prioritizes the wishes of their streamers above all else, and since Narukami's decision has been made, they will support it completely. Naoto mocks him as out of touch for a grown man and warns that Blue Zone will not stay quiet if they are slighted. The executive replies that Naoto is the one who does not understand, saying there are people who cannot be swayed by force or threats. His expression darkens as he tells Naoto that if he is finished talking, he should leave. Overwhelmed by the sudden pressure, Naoto reacts with visible fear. He internally panics at the overwhelming mana he just felt and shouts in confusion. Still furious, he yells back asking who the executive thinks he is to tell him to get lost. The executive casually waves a hand, unconcerned. As Naoto storms out, he wonders if the terrifying aura he felt was just his imagination and vows the executive will regret this day. The executive sarcastically remarks how scary that sounded, clearly unthreatened. 3 days later, the story shifts to floor 3's dungeon Sky Serpent's Nest. A gigantic sky serpent rides in the stormy sky, roaring. The monstrous, bleeding serpent lunges downward through the clouds toward a lone figure below. The protagonist, now unmasked, charges in with thunder-charged weapon and eyes blazing. He slashes a massive wound across the serpent as golden lightning arcs around him. The serpent screams in pain, its jaws and eye blasted by his attack. Wrapped in blinding thunder, the serpent's body thrashes and sprays blood. The protagonist stands calmly with his weapon on his shoulder as the severed serpent falls behind him. He decides this test run of his thunder power is sufficient. He launches himself again in a streak of lightning, preparing the finishing blow. As he dashes across the battlefield, he thinks it is time to wrap things up. He leaps high and brings his glowing blade down toward the serpent's gaping maw. A colossal thunderclap detonates, obliterating the sky serpent, System messages announce that he has defeated the boss Sky Serpent, leveled up, and gained increases in strength, stamina, and concentration. Sitting atop the serpent's corpse, he examines a glowing red drop item in his hand. He identifies it as a Sky Serpent's Fang and estimates it should fetch about 10,000 credits based on old prices. Checking his status window, he notes he has reached level 35, rising 9 levels in 3 days, and decides that is sufficient for now. He reminds himself that Tasha is waiting and that he should head back. Later, Tasha greets him cheerfully at a cafe table. He asks if something good happened, seeing how happy she looks. She excitedly asks whether he has seen something yet, but he is confused. When he admits he has not, she is surprised he has not checked whatever she means. He realizes she means the collaboration video and apologizes, saying he was too busy grinding. Tasha reassures him that his behavior is fine and that his unintentional authenticity is what makes him Narukami Subaru. She adds there is one difference between him and the original and hands him a folder to examine. Inside is a revenue statement from his collab stream with Hawk Eyes, showing nearly 50,000 credits, far more than he expected. Tasha says she could have given him the statement anytime, but she also had another reason for calling him today. She explains she has a gambler friend named Kayaharu whose habits taught her something useful. She outlines a form of gambling where people bet on who will win and collect payouts, with odds shrinking as a player's chance of victory rises. She summarizes that safe bets bring smaller but reliable returns. Tasha reveals his current betting payout rate is 6.1, while another player's rate is only 1.2. An image shows that this 1.2 odds player is considered the overwhelming favorite compared to him. Curious, the protagonist asks who that favorite player is. Tasha names the man Omar Schneider. She explains Omar is a Blue Zone player who has stubbornly remained on floor 3 for 10 years, obsessed with clearing the Cave of Thunder. She warns that Omar is probably already plotting to meet him, viewing his solo Cave of Thunder declaration as a direct affront. A menacing image shows Omar wreathed in dark aura as Tasha likens the declaration to mocking 10 years of Omar's grinding. The protagonist notes that Tasha has leaned in a bit too close while talking. Realizing this, she blushes and pulls back in embarrassment. She says she just wanted to warn him because between the Cave of Thunder challenge, the tournament, and later trials, there is a real chance he will cross paths with Omar, and she wants him to be careful. The scene shifts to a starry night over Floor 3's city Ordinal. In the streets of Ordinal, a carriage moves through the night. The carriage passes by onlookers as it approaches its destination. Inside, Omar's companions mention that tomorrow they will finally meet the arrogant streamer who boasted about solo clearing the Cave of Thunder. One man grumbles about what the streamer thinks he is doing and urges Omar not to be provoked by someone who does not understand how terrifying the Cave of Thunder is. They ask Captain Schneider for his thoughts, but he sits in silence, staring out the window. Omar finally says the bragging does not bother him since the streamer has the reputation to back it up. Flipping a coin, he acknowledges that the newcomer has already become the new Master of Thunder, something his group has sought for years. His subordinates protest that even so, the streamer is getting too full of himself, but Omar curtly tells them to stop. Omar adds that now is not the time for envy and that belittling the streamer's achievements is completely out of line. When they ask if he expects them to respect the man, Omar answers that if necessary, he could do that. He flips the coin again, startling his subordinates with his resolve. The two men privately think that although Omar talks big, his pride is badly wounded. One concludes the situation is bad because their captain's pride has been shredded. Omar broods, wondering how the streamer who spoke so casually will take responsibility when facing a monster like him. Meanwhile, back in his room, the protagonist's mask rests on a table beside his sword. Reading information about Omar, he thinks the man is mentally unhinged and notes Omar only started gaining attention about 5 years ago, entering Blue Zone around the same time. He studies the file more intently, interested. The document describes Omar Schneider's near success in reaching the depths of the Cave of Thunder, branding him a late blooming star of that challenge. The protagonist reasons that Blue Zone's confidence in the tournament makes sense if they already have such an internal favorite to win. He apologizes inwardly to Kyojo, implying he will disrupt their expectations. Looking at his sword and mask, he declares he is already back in action and wonders aloud whether events will really unfold the way Blue Zone intends. The next day, Ordinal's central market bustles with festival decorations and crowds. At a stall, a merchant criticizes a hunter's damaged monster hide, saying sloppy work lowers its value. The merchant offers only 1,500 credits for the scratched hide, shocking the hunter. When the hunter protests, the merchant insists that is his limit, and the flustered hunter quickly agrees to sell. The merchant privately celebrates his luck, knowing red troll hides can self-repair and are more valuable than most people realize. The merchant is startled as a masked man presents a large glowing red fawn. The merchant realizes it is a sky serpent's fawn and asks how much the masked seller wants. Examining the fawn, the merchant notes it is virtually undamaged S+ grade material. He decides the seller chose the wrong person to bargain with, determined to outnegotiate him. The merchant praises the fawn's condition as high B to a rank, saying only a small scratch keeps it from S rank and that the hunter who got it must be very skilled. He claims the timing is bad because sky serpent fangs have recently flooded the market, lowering demand. Pretending generosity, he offers 8,000 credits as a supposedly sweetened deal. Subaru thinks 8,000 might be acceptable after 20 years, but also knows the fawn should fetch at least 15,000 credits. He calls out the lie, pointing out that sky serpent fangs are actually rare and usually fetch name your price sums, shocking the merchant. A rugged man radiating power appears behind Subaru, drawing everyone's attention. The newcomer identifies Subaru as Narukami Subaru. Subaru recognizes him as Schneider. The scene shifts to a luxurious cafe where people relax amid falling petals. In a private booth there, Subaru and Schneider sit down to talk while nearby patrons whisper about seeing Schneider. Subaru says they are not friends meeting casually and internally thinks the situation is odd. He is baffled that someone like Schneider would be into cute parfaits. Schneider brings up Subaru's claim that he would clear the Cave of Thunder. Subaru confirms he said that, while Schneider mutters that he is a cocky drifter. Schneider explains he first dismissed Subaru as a newcomer boasting about conquering the Cave of Thunder. Subaru asks if Schneider has changed his mind, and Schneider says only partly. Schneider concedes Subaru's overflowing talent and grants him partial respect. He adds that even so, he finds it hard to believe Subaru is being compared to the legendary Narukami Subaru. Watching Subaru's serious eyes, Schneider admits he initially thought Subaru was just a weirdo but now senses his resolve. Subaru presses him for a reason for the meeting, and Schneider responds that he has a proposal. Schneider demands Subaru retract his boast. He calls Subaru's solo Cave of Thunder claim ignorant arrogance, and orders him to publicly apologize in a live stream. Schneider clarifies that if he defeats Subaru in the upcoming tournament, Subaru must acknowledge his immaturity on stream. He says that when that happens, Subaru must bow his head. Subaru agrees on one condition and says that if he wins instead, there will be a price. Subaru's counter-proposal is that if he wins, Schneider must reveal everything he knows about Spirit Cave, which he argues is a fair condition. Confident, Schneider accepts, certain he cannot lose. As he leaves, Schneider remarks that he will never lose to Subaru in particular. Schneider exits the cafe while Subaru stays behind, pondering. Subaru reflects that Schneider's 10 years of effort clearly were not wasted. The perspective shifts to the modern world at Azure Sky Entertainment's office building. Inside, an employee reacts in shock to seeing that over 10,000 people have joined something. He notes that with such a huge prize it is no surprise the turnout for the event is insane. The gambler-like employee muses that if these events had existed back when he was on floor 3, he would have entered at least once. Comparing odds, he judges Subaru too volatile and chooses Schneider as the safer high-yield bet. Confident in his reasoning, he decides that with so many participants, Schneider is the obvious choice and that a pro gambler bets based on trust, not just probability. While placing his wagers on a tablet, he mutters that gambling is also the quickest path to ruin. His betting is interrupted by an incoming video call from Wika. Startled, he screams that she scared him as he fumbles the device. He accuses her of spying on him. On the call, Wika demands to know what he is doing. He nervously answers while she angrily accuses him of gambling again. He defensively asks where she planted a bug and tries to change the subject, but she keeps pressing him about his behavior. When he admits he was thinking of betting on Narukami, she yells that he is an idiot wasting precious credits. Walking through the city, Wika asks if he really thinks Narukami will lose, prompting him to explain his reasoning. He argues that Schneider has far more floor 3 achievements than the original Narukami ever did and that expecting a new streamer to beat a veteran of 10 years is pure fantasy. Wika counters by challenging him to a private bet for their entire next month's paychecks. She steels herself, clearly serious about the wager. She warns him there will be no backing out as she notices a cloaked figure nearby. Back at the office, he complains that she hung up on him. He wonders why she suddenly asked about gambling and suspects something is up. Meanwhile, Schneider walks through a crowded marketplace, attracting attention. One of his comrades asks how Subaru was, and Schneider is asked to judge his strength. Schneider replies that Subaru is no amateur. His ally nervously asks if Schneider might actually lose. Schneider simply looks back, not answering directly. He states that after meeting Subaru, he is certain of something. He concludes that there is absolutely no way he himself will lose. Elsewhere, someone agile climbs a building to gain a vantage point. From the rooftop, a hooded spectator looks down at Schneider, confirming he is the tournament's top contender. This observer senses the intensity of Schneider's mana and decides there is little chance of an upset. Flags bearing Blue Zone's emblem flutter, signaling an official event. On tournament day, crowds gather at Ordinal Coliseum. Subaru walks alone through a dim corridor toward the arena. He approaches the massive gate leading outside. He steps through as it opens, entering the arena. Subaru emerges to the roar of a packed Coliseum. Spectators recognize his mask and realize the famous streamer Narukami Subaru is also competing, wondering who has the top odds if he is second favorite. Subaru spots Schneider marching into the arena from the opposite tunnel. Schneider strides into the sunlight, greeted by cheers. He readies his spear and surveys the arena. The crowd passionately chants Schneider's name. The entire Coliseum echoes as thousands chant for Schneider. Fireworks explode overhead, marking the start of the event. A blonde announcer descends from the sky and thanks everyone for their patience. She introduces herself as Mizuha of Blue Zone, explains she is hosting, and outlines that the tournament will have qualifiers and a main event. She tells everyone to focus on the grand prize that will go to the final champion. She reveals that the prize is a pair of shoes once worn by the god Hermes. She further explains they are a legendary Blue Zone relic once belonging to Hibiki Toshiya. She dramatically summons and names the artifact, the shoes Taralia, saying they are present as the prize. Subaru gazes up at them and silently addresses Toshiya, vowing something. he swears to reclaim Toshi's shoes. Subaru glances toward the stands where Wika is watching. Wika eagerly anticipates Subaru restarting his stream and grumbles about gamblers. Subaru notices her again and recognizes her from earlier. A cloaked, red-edged masked figure also recognizes Wika as the woman seen before. Subaru's live stream goes live, and online viewers flood the channel with messages of support and banter. On camera, Subaru apologizes for his absence while chat jokingly scolds and welcomes him back. He notes how hyped chat is and that he can barely keep up with their messages. A fan mission pops up promising a 30,000 credit reward if he wins. Subaru thanks the supporter for effectively prepaying the 30,000 credits and raises his sword, hyping up viewers. The host cries out for the start. With fireworks and magic exploding, she announces that the tournament has officially begun. She conjures a swirling green portal of energy above. The huge vortex expands overhead, preparing to transport contestants. The vortex detonates, green light raining down as contestants are pulled into the preliminaries. The Colosseum and audience vanish into a dark forest stage under that green dome. Spectators gasp at the spectacle, marveling at the scale of the event. Viewers remark that Blue Zone's tournament scale proves it was planned long in advance. The arena now resembles a massive forest battlefield contained under the green barrier. A system message confirms that all participants have entered the preliminaries. From outside, the entire Colosseum can be seen sealed under the glowing green dome. Rules appear, stating that the preliminaries have begun. Everyone is an enemy, death means elimination, and the round ends when only 1,000 survive. Subaru reads that over 10,000 fighters have been dropped into a solo survival match. He reasons that since nobody knows him yet, he can probably conserve strength during prelims. More viewer missions appear promising credits per kill and extra bounties for defeating Don Chow and Schneider. In the forest, Subaru senses movement behind him. He sharply turns toward the disturbance. Elsewhere, a commentator complains that targeting Narukami Subaru from the start is ruthless as someone charges at him. Subaru notes that bounties have already made it profitable for others to hunt him, totaling 200 credits per kill. The system shows the survivor count has already dropped to 8,544. A quick cut shows Schneider walking through the forest as well. Schneider advances calmly with his spear over his shoulder. He ignores weaker fighters, focusing only on one man. That man is Narukami Subaru, whom he is determined to face. Meanwhile, a group of archers tries to ambush Schneider. One archer narrowly avoids being struck, realizing danger. A group of fighters treats attacking Schneider like a betting game, collecting wagers on whether their shots will land. Some of them worry they may have underestimated him, but others insist numbers will carry the day. Schneider responds that their strategy is flawed only because they chose the wrong opponent. One bald fighter mocks him for talking big when he is about to die. A moment later, that bald man is instantly beheaded by Schneider's long-range throw. The others watch in horror as their companion collapses headless. Archers exclaim in disbelief that Schneider's spear killed from way beyond normal range. Schneider surrounds himself with a powerful purple vortex, saying he has fought countless upstarts like them. He swings his spear, unleashing a massive wave of energy. The attack streaks forward like a beam, tearing through the forest. The shockwave rips enemies apart, blood spraying as fighters are annihilated. Schneider tells the survivors that shortcuts do not work in this tower. He drives home that only one's own strength can protect them here. The remaining enemies stare at him in terror. The Colosseum's big screens broadcast his rampage to the cheering audience. Schneider continues mowing down opponents with overwhelming power. Onlookers panic and try to flee, realizing the prelims feel less like an exam and more like a slaughter. Back in the stands, the cloaked observer silently watches. The observer judges Schneider clearly above the rest and predicts he will reach the top ranks once he climbs higher. At the same time, they are irritated by Wika's loud reactions nearby. Wika yells at the screen, demanding the fighters take things more seriously and calling them cowards. She watches Subaru's live feed intently on her device. She excitedly asks the cloaked observer if they know Narukami Subaru. When she notices the same style of mask, she assumes the stranger is a fan, which they casually confirm. Blushing, Wika introduces herself as Wika and proudly states she has been a fan for 20 years. She then asks the cloaked stranger who they are. The system shows the survivor count dropping to 1,342. In the forest, Subaru asks his viewers how many opponents Schneider has killed so far. Chat counts at near 100. Subaru looks up at the swirling sky and thinks the preliminaries are finally about to end. The masked protagonist notes that the 200 credits bounty per kill is disappointingly low. He suddenly gets an idea. He decides to loudly reveal his presence to attract other players, while viewers in chat react to his bold plan. He unleashes a massive, lightning-charged slash through the forest. The shockwave of light tears across the trees. The attack's energy races outward through the woods. The blast topples giant trees and shakes the entire area. Dust and debris billow up, blanketing the forest. A spear-wielding man emerges from the settling fog. The spear user stands over numerous corpses, revealing his brutality. One of the defeated players dies in terror on the ground. The spearman, Omar Schneider, tracks someone and growls that he has found them. The protagonist appears and calmly says he actually found Schneider first, while chat notes Schneider's high bounty. The protagonist thinks this is perfect and resolves to finish the fight quickly. A mission notification offers 1,000 credits for killing Don Chow and 10,000 for killing Schneider, so the protagonist plans to claim the 10k early. The two fighters square off in the forest clearing as tension builds. System stats show 1,202 survivors, meaning 202 more must die before prelims end, which the protagonist notes. A sudden purple attack streaks toward the protagonist. The huge blast carves out the cliffside around him. Schneider remarks that with 202 players left there is still time before the preliminaries end. The protagonist analyzes Schneider's earlier blow, realizing it was pure technique rather than a skill. He assesses that losing sight of Schneider's spear tip means death, and that its reach is unnaturally long. Schneider whirls his spear, generating a vast purple shockwave. The protagonist charges in with his red demon sword against the shockwave. System windows explain that unnamed demon blade consumes his stamina, boosts all stats, and that Wedge of Greed reduces its side effects. Empowered by the blade, he sends out a colossal counterwave. He braces and swings again into the oncoming force. Their powers collide in a violent explosion of red and purple energy. His eye turns red, indicating he is pushing the demon blade harder. He lunges in close on Schneider with killing intent. The protagonist blocks Schneider's assault head-on. They clash repeatedly, spear versus demon sword. The protagonist plants his foot to launch another attack. Schneider counters with a sweeping slash. The protagonist responds with equal ferocity, trading blows midair. He raises his sword, aura blazing red, ready to unleash a decisive strike. A huge red arc of his power forces Schneider to leap back defensively. After the exchange, the two men stand apart again in a scarred battlefield, silently reassessing each other. Schneider asks why the protagonist refuses to use his thunder skill. The protagonist answers that using thunder on Schneider would be a waste. He adds that the match will be over soon anyway, startling Schneider. Schneider, noticing the remaining survivors ticking down toward 1,000, realizes the protagonist is conserving thunder for later and is irritated by the implication. He suddenly suspects the protagonist has just been stalling for time. Schneider rushes forward in frustration. The protagonist meets him with a crushing impact. He taunts Schneider, asking if he was really fighting seriously. While the survivor count drops to 1,003, Schneider curses him in rage. The system announces that the survivors have reached 1,000 and the preliminaries are over, freezing their fight. Schneider, smiling, tells the protagonist to be prepared the next time they meet. The protagonist accepts that the 10,000 credit bounty on Schneider will have to wait until their rematch. A system message announces the players are being moved to the waiting room. The protagonist is transported to a neon waiting room and given a 30-minute break. He clutches his chest, admitting to himself that Schneider nearly overwhelmed him at the end and that a longer fight might have gone badly. Back in the room, his live viewer count passes 10,000, with chat marveling at how intense the fight was. Elsewhere, a woman explains that 10,000 concurrent viewers is the crucial streamer's wall, and breaking it even once can secure a streamer's career. The protagonist reflects that hitting 10,000 viewers means his stream with Schneider was ultimately a big success. He also notes that even someone as strong as Schneider cannot clear the Cave of Thunder, underscoring that dungeon's difficulty. The scene shifts to a sunny countryside house, signaling a change of location. Under the bright sky, someone sighs and starts complaining. A long-haired man near the house grumbles that his days feel like endlessly searching for something, wondering what he's doing with his life. Stretching, he muses that Schneider still holds the advantage, and wonders why such a strong man remains stuck on floor 3. Looking at his device, he reasons that leveling is slower on lower floors and that Narukami Subaru's only real edge over Schneider is thunder. He adds that if Subaru had talent equal to Schneider, he might pull off a complete comeback, though he doubts that is the case. A mission complete notice shows a viewer sending 9,800 credits to Subaru, and the man concludes Subaru likely lacks that rival-level talent. Back in the waiting room, Subaru instantly claims a similar 9,800 credit reward from another sponsor, saying he will take any free credits offered. Subaru spends 80,000 credits to level up Wedge of Greed, leaving about 16,000 credits. The system shows Wedge of Greed is now a B-rank level 5 skill that suppresses side effects of other skills and can be enhanced further for a massive cost, which Subaru notes. Seeing its new rank, he thinks that perhaps even his more ambitious plans might now be within reach. The story cuts to the arena city at night, beneath a dome of eerie green energy. A guild worker gazes at the legendary boots Stellaria displayed in a barrier and falls silent. She nervously wonders if rumors are true that a thief is targeting these boots. She continues that this thief supposedly has a specific hidden identity. Someone calls out to Miss Mizuha, snapping her from her worried thoughts. A staffer enters and reports that reinforcements from guild headquarters have arrived, prompting her to ask who is leading them. A muscular man casually says he is the one in charge. Recognizing him as a powerful figure, Mizuha stammers, asking why someone of his rank is all the way down on floor 3. Another brawny man named Kiriko arrives, saying the guildmaster is in a foul mood. Mizuha asks if the guildmaster's mood is because of Narukami Subaru. Kiriko confirms it is about both Subaru and Schneider. He adds that there is another problem on top of those two. In the spectator stands of the arena, Subaru now sits cloaked beside a woman, blending into the cheering crowd. Subaru senses an enormous mana presence from the woman beside him, and wonders why someone so powerful is here. The woman reveals a calm, dangerous aura as she looks at him. Overwhelmed, Subaru thinks it is strange to find such a powerhouse here and starts to introduce himself under his alias. The cloaked figure reveals himself as Tammy, shyly saying being called Miss is embarrassing. The woman laughs that his aura is far from normal, and says she can tell he has trained for many years. She then states that his current face is just a disguise technique, calling out Tammy on concealing his identity. Tammy internally panics at how perceptive she is, wondering who she works for, while she says she understands strong people often need to hide who they are. She adds, "But," with a serious tone, signaling a condition. She asks Tammy to confirm that he is not here to interfere with the tournament. Tammy grins provocatively, and replies by asking what if he is. The woman declares she will stop him by any means necessary if he intends to disrupt the event. Back in the waiting room, Subaru looks up, reacting to a notification. The system announces the break has ended and light begins transporting him away. A new message declares the finals are commencing, and players materialize on a grid arena, surprised to find they have been standing close together the whole time. Rules appear overhead explaining that the finals will use a territory capture format where players must seize enemy tiles. Achibi Mizuha explains that once the match begins each player is assigned a territory. She further explains that only 2 players can occupy one territory at a time, and they must fight, defend, or steal to seize others' zones. She adds that defeating another player lets you take their territory tile for yourself. The tutorial finishes by stating that whoever controls the most territory after 2 hours wins, earning the prize Teleria. The finals start and Subaru lands on his assigned colored tile among many others. At the referee's shout, all participants spread out across their tiles as the match officially begins. Subaru notes that, just as expected, nobody moves aggressively at the start. He reasons that fighting immediately only yields 1 tile, while waiting until later allows you to gain larger territories by defeating someone who has already expanded. Ignoring that logic, he suddenly decapitates a nearby player, starting his own killing spree. He jokes that he would love to be selective, but at 300 credits per person, he is financially motivated to mow down everyone. Elsewhere, another fighter blitzes forward with violet energy. Schneider begins ruthlessly cutting down contestants on his own tile. From another tile, a swordsman watches Schneider slice an opponent apart. The terrified swordsman shouts that he has not even done anything yet as Schneider rushes him. Schneider kills him while demanding to know where Narukami Subaru is. Schneider continues butchering players, leaving a bloody path across his purple territory. Bloodied yet relentless, he surveys the field in search of Subaru. A wide view shows the arena grid with combat and corpses scattered, each tile shifting color as territories change hands. In some sections, combat devolves into a bloody melee under eerie red light. Schneider stands amid the chaos, still determined to find Subaru. Subaru, on another tile, watches Schneider's rampage from afar. Another contestant is mercilessly slaughtered by a red-eyed fighter, highlighting the event's brutality. Subaru observes 2 other strong players clashing with a purple aura between them. While he walks away, a sword drips blood nearby, showing he has just finished off another foe. Schneider spots Subaru moving away and yells after him, accusing him of running away. Viewers in chat tease Subaru, urging him to fight Schneider, but he calmly decides this is not the right moment. He tells the audience his priority is farming credits, prompting amused reactions from chat. Blood from his blade drips onto a dead opponent, emphasizing his efficient farming style. Looking down at another fallen enemy, Subaru realizes Floor 3's fighters are far weaker than Schneider, and is surprised by the massive power gap. A system alert informs him that player Don Chow has entered his territory, locking both of them inside. Don Chow approaches across the glowing tile as Subaru turns to face him. Don Chow charges in, confirming Subaru's identity and prompting chat to recognize him as Schneider's subordinate from the blue zone. Don Chow admits he will probably get scolded for beating Subaru here but looks eager to fight. Subaru acknowledges that Don Chow is from the blue zone and draws his sword with interest. Don Chow apologizes to his captain in advance and launches a full-force spear assault at Subaru. He follows up with rapid attacks, trying to overwhelm Subaru. Don Chow leaps and kicks while swinging his spear, forcing Subaru to dodge and parry. Subaru's sword slices Don Chow's weapon cleanly in 2. Don Chow is stunned, shouting in disbelief. Realizing his spear has been effortlessly cut, Don Chow is knocked sprawling. Subaru pins Don Chow to the ground with his sword inches from his face, silencing him. Don Chow concedes aloud that he takes back his earlier bravado toward his captain as Subaru dominates him. Subaru and the viewers mock how underwhelming Don Chow actually was despite his reputation. A new notice informs Subaru that player Schneider has now entered his territory, and chat remarks on how many people are desperate to fight him. Schneider screams Narukami's name as he finally closes in. He charges with his spear, declaring he has finally caught Subaru. The two collide in another cataclysmic clash of spear and demon sword. Subaru meets Schneider's attack head-on, sparks flying around his mask. The impact sends Schneider's spear flying backward. Schneider yells for Subaru to use thunder, insisting the protagonist will die on the next strike if he does not. Schneider adds that if Subaru refuses to use thunder, his next attack will kill him, while spectators comment on his odd sense of sportsmanship. Subaru abruptly dashes forward instead of answering. He keeps more distance, repositioning on the tile as Schneider adjusts his stance. Subaru reaches for the hilt of his demon sword again, readying himself for whatever decisive move comes next. Schneider taunts the masked fighter, asking if he plans to run away again. The masked fighter answers that he will give Schneider exactly what he wants and begins casting the Thunder skill. System messages show Heart of Thunder boosting Thunder's power and granting resistance to electrocution as lightning gathers in the fighter's hand. Another system message notes Wedge of Greed resisting Thunder's side effects while the fighter forges a giant lightning spear, declaring that only the weak run. An onlooker is shocked that the fighter can solidify elemental power into a weapon, wondering if such a feat is even possible. Brandishing the lightning spear, the fighter demands to know if he still looks like someone who is running away. Schneider, sweating, admits he does not, and the fighter prepares another question. Lunging forward with the spear, the fighter asks if Schneider is the one about to flee now. Schneider steels himself, thinking that if he breaks through this obstacle he can finally surpass his old limit. He rejects that thought, refusing something implied by his grim smile. In a flashback, a bald subordinate asks his captain a rude question while they walk together. The subordinate admits he does not understand why the captain is obsessed with the Cave of Thunder when his strength could take him to much higher floors. The captain laughs evasively, brushing off the question, to the subordinate's confusion. The captain explains that people who fixate too much on one goal often forget the original reason but still chase it. He calls that fixation either conviction or obsession but says one thing about it is certain. He tells his companion that overcoming this challenge, or failing to, will change his entire life. That is why he insists he can never give up. In the present, a swirling purple power gathers around another fighter as a new move is prepared. That fighter shapes a massive purple energy sphere overhead. He declares that his opponent is about to become his second obsession and hurls the attack. The purple-cloaked fighter dives toward the ground in a devastating arc. Narukami Subaru, running, vows to honor Schneider's 10 years of effort by not holding back. Subaru rockets forward in a blazing charge toward the site of a huge explosion. He continues falling through the blinding blast, fully committing to his strike. Schneider also charges up, shrouded in purple energy, as he raises his spear. The two ultimate attacks collide with a violent impact. Close-ups show Subaru and Schneider both straining fiercely as their powers clash. The collision erupts into a massive explosion that tears up the arena floor. Shockwaves and debris ripple outward from the blast. A towering column of light and fire marks the center of the cataclysmic impact. Elsewhere, spectators watch tensely from their seats in the green-lit stands. One observer silently narrows his glowing eyes as he watches. Wika, Subaru's manager, prepares to speak, beginning to explain herself. The cloaked spectator next to her reveals he is Narukami Subaru's manager, startling her. Wika enthusiastically says she cares because wrecking the tournament would hurt Subaru's stream, so she cannot overlook what happens. The younger fanboy beside her is ecstatic that she is really Subaru's manager, and can hardly believe it. Wika admits getting the manager role was a nightmare, complaining about the fools who opposed her. The fan gushes that he has followed their streams since an early fight, and asks excitedly about her fandom origins. Nearby, two other spectators suddenly stare toward the arena in alarm as the explosion's light washes over them. The huge blast is replayed on a giant screen, drawing gasps from the crowd. The arena shakes from the impact as the audience reacts in stunned silence. Wika hurriedly pulls out her device, suddenly concerned. Reading it, she reacts in disbelief, saying this cannot be happening. The dust settles over a shattered arena floor streaked with lightning and scorched marks. Amid the drifting smoke, Subaru and Schneider stand facing each other, silhouettes outlined by the residual energy. A close-up shows Schneider coughing blood from the damage he took. His torso is revealed with a gaping, burned-through wound where Subaru's attack pierced him. Schneider finally collapses to his knees, defeated, blood pooling around him. Subaru stands silently over Schneider's fallen body, saying nothing. Turning away, Subaru tells Schneider they will meet again soon. A system window tallies Subaru's 283 captured territories and begins to announce the winner. The interface proclaims Narukami Subaru, with 283 territories, as the victor, showing his masked face. Fireworks explode overhead, and the crowd roars in celebration of Subaru's win. Wika watches from the stands with tears and joy, thrilled by the result. The purple-haired fan beside her stares out quietly, deep in thought. He internally admits he still cannot believe what just happened. He resolves that, in the end, he will be the one to claim the tournament's grand prize. The hostess rises into the sky and prepares to repeat the official announcement. She loudly declares the glorious winner of the tournament. The arena host names Narukami Subaru as champion while spotlights frame him. She then moves on to present the next highlight. Hovering above, she reveals the long-awaited prize, a special pair of boots, to be awarded to the winner. The purple-haired fan stands to leave his seat. He strides out of the stands with determination, passing by Wika. The prize boots begin descending from the sky encased in light. Subaru receives the materialized boots into his hands. Looking at them, he reflects that it has been 20 years since they last meant something to him. A close-up of his eye hints at the depth of his emotion. In a memory, a younger Toshiya shouts in frustration about someone touching his shoes. Toshiya storms around the rooftop training area demanding to know who wore his prized shoes. Another teammate casually asks if he is losing it again. That teammate teases him for being cranky while rubbing his full stomach after a meal. Toshiya notices someone shuffling in his beloved shoes and screams in outrage. He charges after the offender, furious that they disobeyed his warnings. He tackles and pummels the culprit, yelling that wearing them will ruin their shape, while the others laugh. Subaru, younger, smiles as he watches the chaotic scene among friends. Back in the present, Subaru reads chat messages about his new item, viewers speculating on whether he will sell it. On stage, he tells the host he will not be selling the boots, explaining the viewers' comments. Even when the host estimates they could fetch hundreds of thousands or more, Subaru insists he will not sell them. Wealthy spectators in the crowd shout offers, begging Subaru to name his price or trade for better items. The bids escalate into millions of credits as people compete to buy the boots. Subaru curtly tells them all to buzz off. Elsewhere, lightning swirls in a stormy vortex. A bolt slams down with explosive force, evoking Subaru's thunder. He reiterates firmly that he would not sell the boots even for 10 million credits. The flustered host summarizes for the audience that Subaru absolutely refuses to part with them. Subaru ends the interview and walks off, saying he is finished. He leaves the arena alone, boots in hand, under the night sky. Banners flutter over the festival-lit city. The streets below glow with lights and decorations as night festivities continue. In an alley, a muscular man and a school-uniformed archer stand together in silence. The man checks his device and remarks that Subaru actually won, far beyond what he expected. Hanamaki Hiyori excitedly asks whether Subaru might become like the legendary original Narukami Subaru. The man replies that people now compare the new streamer to the original, expecting him to match those feats. He questions those labels, explaining that fans call the older ranker the original Subaru and the streamer the new one. He grumbles that the logic is backwards, saying it should be the original living up to the new Subaru's feats. Hiyori claims that sounds basically the same, but he insists it is very different. She mutters that Blue Eyes fanboys are the worst, annoyed by his attitude. He notices her mumbling, but she excitedly shifts to asking what he thinks will happen next and if he is not thrilled. He reminds her that regardless of events, they still have a mission to carry out. He concludes their duty is to catch the thief who stole the special shoes. Hiyori chases after him down the street, asking if he is sulking and begging him to wait. Cloaked figures observe as the pair run past, hinting at lurking enemies. Meanwhile, Subaru holds the boots on stream while chat comments on their old-school look and value. Subaru thinks of Toshiya and is glad that, even in this way, their paths have crossed again through the boots. He thanks his viewers for the missions that help distract him from the emotional pain. He brings up the item window, reading the Talaria's stats and preparing to examine them in detail. Chat debates the boot's usefulness. While some explain that movement speed gear is extremely rare and valuable, Subaru then receives a new message warning him about a suspicious woman, and he wonders what is going on. The message log shows Wika warning that a strange woman might be after the prize and urging him to be careful. Outside, crowds celebrate in the streets while a hooded figure moves among them unnoticed. That hooded person, clearly connected to Toshiya, asks herself why she is standing right in front of his cherished shoes. Resolving that she has no choice, she steps forward purposefully. She decides she must act without drawing attention. Her inner monologue turns dark as she concludes she may have to slice off Subaru's ankles to reclaim the boots. Under the full moon, lights glow from a large building where the night continues. Subaru arrives at a bar-like venue where Wika calls out to him. She happily waves him over to the counter. Wika warmly congratulates Subaru on winning the tournament. She says she already ordered a non-alcoholic drink for him and asks about the urgent message she sent earlier. She begins to explain that she met someone very strange in the stands. A flashback shows Wika chatting with a cloaked woman wearing the same mask as Subaru. Back at the bar, Subaru clarifies what she means by a weird person, and Wika explains it was a masked female player. Wika describes initially finding the woman shady but then bonding with her as fellow Narukami fans. She says that the moment Subaru won, the woman's expression suddenly changed. Wika adds that the woman looked like she had just been dumped and then vanished, which proves she was no ordinary spectator. Wika remembers chasing after her but being unable to detect her presence, strengthening her suspicion. Subaru reasons that anyone who can hide from Wika yet is also his fan must be someone special. Wika tries to repeat how she confirmed the woman's fandom, but Subaru cuts in, pointing out she already said that and specifying he means the Blue Eyes ranker. Wika recalls that, when asked directly, the woman neither confirmed nor denied being a Narukami Subaru fan. Wika struggles to describe the exact nuance of the woman's reaction. A side profile of the purple-haired fan suggests he may be that mysterious person or connected to her. Subaru is struck when Wika finally says the woman looked nostalgic, like she was remembering something. He jolts upright, knocking his stool away in sudden realization. Without explanation, Subaru sprints out of the bar, leaving Wika startled. She calls after him in confusion as his untouched drink sits on the counter. Outside, the mysterious woman, now clearly visible, sits atop a cliff overlooking the illuminated city and stadium. She stands up, revealing herself in full gear and watching from a distance. She quietly admits she expected things to unfold this way. Another cloaked figure comments from a rooftop that Kyojo has grown soft. Hiyori and her comrade below remark that if their enemy came himself that would be fine, but sending rookies against them is laughable. The cloaked woman sighs that Subaru has actually gone and won the entire event. Onlookers notice Subaru dashing through the streets and wonder where he is rushing off to now. She calculates that she would need only 10 seconds, no, 5, to steal the boots from him. Remembering a past promise, she insists Toshiya's treasured item should never belong to anyone else. She pulls at her hair, lamenting how dramatically she built up this plan. Yet she admits she cannot bring herself to actually attack Subaru. She confesses that everything Subaru does reminds her painfully of the Subaru who died. She falls silent, lost in conflicted emotion. Finally she yells that she does not care anymore and declares that if Subaru joins Blue Zone, she will not go easy on him. The silver-haired fighter threatens that next time she will go for her opponent's head instead of just his legs. She pauses and lowers her head, her aggressive demeanor briefly softening. She quietly admits she still wants to speak with Subaru at least once. She thinks that meeting Subaru face to face might make her feel like she has met the real him again. Dawn breaks over the desert where she just fought, the scene transitioning away. Elsewhere, a masked Subaru gasps for breath outside a building, wondering why he never considered a certain possibility. He realizes Teleria might be used as bait to draw out Blue Eyes. He reasons that if Reina, an infiltration specialist, went to retrieve Toshi's shoes, it would fit her skills. That would explain why Reina deliberately concealed her presence earlier in the city. Subaru recalls sensing Shu's mana from the ice flowers and that Reina may have been in the tournament. He concludes that Shu, Reina, and the others from his old party are all still alive. Subaru forces himself to calm down, deciding it is too soon to jump to conclusions. He reflects that Reina's personality would not let her ignore Toshi's belongings if they were right in front of her. Wika calls out to Narukami Subaru, concerned by how distracted he looks. She approaches and asks if he is all right, and he answers vaguely. She says he ran out of the bar so suddenly that she got worried. Subaru explains he thought the suspicious woman might be someone he knew but probably misjudged. Wika nervously says she has something difficult to tell Narukami. She gathers her resolve while the crowd moves around them in the plaza. Blushing, she blurts out that Narukami does not really have any friends. Subaru is left speechless behind his mask at this blunt remark. Wika hastily adds that he especially has no female friends, and Subaru curtly suggests they just go home. As Subaru walks off, Wika chases after him, worried she may have upset him. The scene shifts to a nighttime cityscape with tall buildings and lights. On a rooftop near the moonlit sky, a girl peers over the edge yawning. Reina and a muscular senpai complain that they are tired, hungry, and bored while keeping watch by a wall. She urges her senpai to say something and asks if their targets really escaped. He calmly replies no. When Reina asks how he can be so sure, he says he has just received a message from Itsuki. The message simply orders them to call the operation off. Reina explodes in frustration that the long wait ends with being told to cancel everything. Her senpai explains that Itsuki believes if Blue Eyes had truly come, they would never have let someone else take the prize. He adds that Itsuki realized he was overthinking the situation. The senpai stops and says there is another reason. He says Itsuki believes that, trap or not, that group would have shown up anyway. Reina wonders if the person they are targeting might actually be Narukami Subaru himself. The senpai recalls everyone saying Subaru's death was only an unfounded rumor, and admits he had hoped that was true. But he reasons that if Itsuki is going this far, the rumor might actually be real. The rumor claims Narukami Subaru died because his comrades in Blue Eyes betrayed him. Subaru stands under the night sky, brooding over that story. He wonders if this rumor is why his former comrades have all kept themselves hidden. Reading old articles on his device, he sees reports of Blue Eyes' breakup and Guildmaster Kyojo's silence about internal conflict. Subaru notes that 20 years have passed and Kyojo now seems beyond his reach. He decides that as a newbie, to catch up to Kyojo he will need something even more special. He thinks of the recreated legendary Thunder Spear he used in the tournament. He recalls recreating that one-time legendary item from the second floor, the Thunder Spear, to fight a giant monster. He admits that despite thinking he understood thunder, there is still much he does not know. Smiling, he recognizes he has a long way to go before fully mastering thunder. The narration describes thunder as a tremendous power coveted by gods and giants. It also says humanity sees this power to fight back against those beings. Subaru considers that perhaps he has never been using thunder properly at all. He focuses on the Cave of Thunder, a dungeon linked to this power. He resolves that clearing that dungeon might teach him something important. He hopes to uncover the secret of thunder, and how to grow stronger by it. The story cuts to a luxurious tea table laden with sweets and pastries. Wika's older sister lounges at the table, idly musing while looking at a device. When the call comes through, she pretends she cannot hear the person on the other end. On the screen, the blue-haired gambler kneels in a deep bow, apologizing for getting carried away. She playfully makes him repeat his apology, and mocks him as a broke loser who lost all his bets. He yells back over a live stream that he already paid her, desperate for relief. He begs her for help, saying he bet all his payout and cannot even pay his bills, while she coldly questions whether flattery will save him. He pathetically offers to act like a dog if that is what she wants, and she tells him to stop because it is disgusting. She falls briefly silent, considering something. Then she leans in and asks if he can do her a favor instead. A bell over a tavern door rings as someone enters. Inside a bar, a cloaked man drinks alone while Subaru steps in behind him. Subaru walks toward the counter, drawing the cloaked man's attention. Subaru orders the same drink as the cloaked man, and the bartender agrees. After tasting the beer, Subaru remarks that even a famous guild is serving cheap alcohol. The man explains it has always been this way and that treating too many guild members used to empty his wallet. He adds that he is so used to this drink that nothing else does much for him, and confirms he always paid for everyone. Subaru says all his comrades followed his selfish decision to challenge the Cave of Thunder. The man remembers that everyone was poor back then, that hunting was difficult, and they lacked guild support. The two clink mugs together, as the story shifts fully into his flashback. He recalls that entering the Cave of Thunder required credits, and dying meant losing everything, making their situation even worse. For low-level players like them, hunting monsters was their only way to earn exam fees or get stronger. He explains that on that fateful day, they went out hunting in the desert as usual. There they unexpectedly encountered a powerful sky serpent far beyond their abilities. The 7 inexperienced players desperately charged into battle against it. In the end, 4 of them died on the sands. He remembers the aftermath, staring in horror at the corpses of his fallen friends. He emphasizes that those who died were his very best friends. Subaru gently asks whether those friends came to hate him for what happened. The man repeats the question, wondering if they hated him for leading them there. He answers that they definitely did, and he heard their accusations until his ears bled. Subaru listens as he recalls their furious words blaming him for insisting on the Cave of Thunder. The memories echo harsh accusations that it was all his fault and that his stubbornness got them killed. He hears the haunting charge that he caused his best friends' deaths. Their voices torture him with the question of why he alone survived. Subaru tells him firmly to stop tormenting himself with those thoughts. He insists the story has gone far enough, but the man accuses him of pitying him. Subaru counters that anyone else would have given up after such a tragedy, while the man retorts that they died because he invited them. Subaru argues that if he quit now it would make their deaths meaningless. The man explains that this is why he has been obsessed with conquering the Cave of Thunder, though he doubts Subaru can truly understand. Looking at Subaru, he admits that thanks to him he can finally see a glimmer of hope. Subaru repeats the word hope, surprised by the sentiment. The man says he will now tell Subaru what the Cave of Thunder is really like. The scene cuts to a quiet house in the forest under a starry sky. She walks inside, wondering if Subaru truly figured out what is going on. He thinks he may have underestimated Subaru's insight. Shu considers that if Kyojo had already taken measures, Subaru might have seen through Reina's stealth. He acknowledges that seeing through Reina's infiltration technique would be impressive. Frustrated, he scratches his head, clearly annoyed at the complications. He then shifts into a cold, serious demeanor as he prepares to act. Electricity gathers at his feet as he invokes the name Kyojo Itsuki. He unleashes a massive ice and lightning attack, vowing that Subaru will not die easily. Just then his device beeps, interrupting him. He opens a message from Reina that only says she is sorry. Further messages explain she failed to retrieve Toshiya's shoes and treats it lightly. Enraged and disbelieving, Shu shouts in fury at the message. His scream of frustration echoes over the forest cabin. Meanwhile, Subaru begins a public live stream from within an ornate hall, drawing thousands of viewers. He confirms to his audience that he is about to challenge the Cave of Thunder, and that he went live to make that happen. As he streams, someone politely calls to him from behind. A cheerful man approaches and confirms Subaru is the famous streamer Narukami Subaru. The man laughs that it is a coincidence since his own party also accepted a request to clear the Cave of Thunder. He proudly shows off his group and suggests they team up with Subaru for the quest. Subaru's device vibrates with an urgent notification, surprising him. Wika messages him, warning that this party formed only to ride on his popularity. Subaru looks up from the message and asks the man what exactly he means. Members of the other party insist they are also going to the Cave of Thunder and claim they will be useful, denying any ulterior motives. Subaru sizes them up silently in the echoing hall. He exhales, resigned. He agrees to work together and suggests they all do their best, which the man enthusiastically accepts. Subaru thinks that if he backed out after accepting the request, he would have no excuse, and the man shrugs that this is just how the system works. Subaru starts walking, his boot turning as he heads out with them. He mutters that he cannot just kill everyone simply because he has a bad feeling about them. But he warns that he wants to make one thing crystal clear before they go. He tells them they are not comrades, merely people traveling the same path for now. The scene shifts to storm clouds parting in the sky. A crimson flag bearing a ram-like emblem waves against the blue. The view moves to the Conrad Kingdom's outer gathering point bustling with people. Someone remarks there are far too many mercenaries gathered for a Cave of Thunder raid. A heavily scarred S-rank mercenary named Conrad Demon reacts in disbelief after hearing Subaru is only ranked E. Seeing Subaru arrive, Conrad assumes he is an otherworlder who is likely to throw his life away. Subaru darkly wonders aloud if this man should also be turned into vulture bait. Observers sense that Conrad's killing intent is far from normal. Narration reveals that the blood on him is human rather than monster blood. Another gathering point is shown at the Osman Kingdom's outskirts, preparing its own raid group. Outside its gates, Kyojo's allied mercenaries and Blue Eyes veterans face each other tensely. Subaru's old comrade demands to know what was just said. A slick fighter from the Blue Zone policeman announces they are joining the raid and implies half of the others should drop out. When asked if those words come from Kyojo, he corrects them to call Kyojo their guild master. He reminds the veteran that this crackdown is punishment for his past failure to protect guild assets. He mocks the veteran for staying stuck on the 3rd floor for 10 years only to lose to a newcomer like Subaru. Another ally angrily reacts, but the veteran is insulted further that wasting 10 years there is pathetic. The smug policeman says they should be grateful he even showed up and claims his help might finally allow them to clear the Cave of Thunder. One of the veteran's men offers to shut the policeman up, but the captain says to leave him since their raid is full of rookies anyway. The captain concedes that, despite the insults, the man did get one thing right. Looking ahead with determination, he declares that this time they will definitely clear the Cave of Thunder. The party approaches a foreboding canyon, while viewers in chat note that some unknown interference has appeared and Narukami seems angry. The bearded mercenary senses that something is wrong with this place. He muses that dungeon doors opening on a fixed schedule feels artificial, while chat teases him and notes Narukami has stayed silent. The mercenary tells Narukami to look ahead. They see the lightning-wreathed entrance known as the Cave of Thunder. The mercenary explains that constant lightning blocks the entrance, and it only becomes accessible at fixed times. Asked about his experience, he says this is his third attempt and that very few mercenaries have ever entered and survived, counting himself among them. When questioned why he keeps challenging it, he insists he is not suicidal and chat jokes that he now has an audience and talks too much. Sabura asks why he is joining them at all, and the mercenary says he is after one specific thing. He reveals his goal is the Traces of Thunder, believing that obtaining it will let him retire from the deadly mercenary life. Narukami asks if the mercenary plans to clear the whole dungeon, but the man refuses, warning that only the ignorant can act carefree here. He singles Narukami out as a low-rank E-class, orders him not to act, and even says if Narukami is going to die he should hurry up, which chat calls harsh. The group gathers before the towering gate as lightning batters it. The mercenary states that in about an hour the thunder will cease and the entrance will open. He uses a squirrel as a test subject, which squeals in fear. He throws the small animal at the gate. The gate's lightning annihilates the squirrel, showing how lethal the barrier is. He warns the others that if they do not want to end up like that they should rest until the gate opens. While chat says it is waiting time and asks for stories, Narukami steps forward instead of resting. The mercenary yells at the E-rank for ignoring him as Narukami walks toward the gate. Narukami thinks that this situation reminds him of a previous trial on Millennium Mountain. The others panic, wondering what Narukami is doing and if he is trying to die, calling out to him anxiously. Narukami touches the gate as his Heart of Thunder skill lets him resist its electricity and grants him an electrification resistance status. Thundergate begins checking his qualifications, and the onlookers are shocked he is still standing inside the lightning storm. His Thunder and Heart of Thunder react to the Thundergate, linking with it. System messages declare that the Thundergate has vanished and revealed the hidden traces of thunder. Lightning disperses around Narukami's hand as the power condenses. The traces of thunder coalesce into a jewel-like item that drops to the ground near him. The glowing thunder traces lie on the floor, sparkling. The mercenary recognizes the item as the Traces of Thunder and is stunned. Furious and bleeding, he demands to know how Narukami managed this. Narukami wonders if the item had waited here for someone qualified like him, while chat marvels at his luck. Suddenly the mercenary launches a sneak attack at Narukami. Narukami's eye flashes in anger as he reacts. A notification confirms Narukami has been attacked by his allied raid party, authorizing retaliation. Another message says there will be no counterattack penalty as Narukami faces the murderous mercenary. The mercenary, eyes bloodshot, claims Narukami only got lucky and demands he hand over the thunder traces. Narukami coldly asks why he should obey while the mercenary argues that outsiders should not take local loot. The mercenary taunts that even if Narukami is from another world he must still fear death. Narukami agrees that despite deaths and trials not being permanent, the pain feels fully real. He recalls how trial deaths can still cause terror, breakdowns, or trauma. The mercenary adds that anyone becomes pathetic when death looms in front of them. He admits his crew is used to killing outsiders, confirming rumors other players had heard and making them regret joining. Saburo tries to calm Narukami and the mercenaries, urging rational discussion. His plea is cut short as blood bursts from his body mid-sentence. A devastating slash from Narukami's demon blade tears through several mercenaries at once. Narukami remarks that now he has a justification for killing them. He proposes turning these mercenaries into vultures too as he impales one from behind. The mercenary leader is horrified that an alleged E-rank is this strong, and cannot comprehend what is happening. Narukami rushes him with the demon blade, clearly outclassing him. He unleashes a sweeping sword arc that forces the mercenary to dodge while another screams. Narukami mocks that surviving more than one hit is all the S-rank leader can be proud of. The injured leader rages that Narukami tricked him and demands to know who he really is. Narukami's sword draws a long bloody arc as he continues his assault. The leader, now maimed and trembling, realizes Narukami is a demon blade user and bitterly accuses him of relying on weapons for strength. The bloody demon blade gleams menacingly. Narukami dismisses him as trash and says if the man was jealous he should have saved to buy a similar weapon. He then notes the mercenary no longer needs to worry about that as the man tries to curse him. Narukami finishes the leader with a brutal slash, and a system message announces that demon has been defeated. The surviving players stare at the slaughtered mercenaries in awe and shock. Holding the thunder traces, Narukami asks the others if they want this as well. The once cocky Saburo, now calling him Lord Narukami, frantically refuses and insists the item belongs to him. The dungeon shakes as the cave gate responds to their progress. Narukami calmly tells everyone to move on. Lightning crackles across the red rock deeper inside the cave. The group advances into the crimson cavern lit by stray lightning arcs. One woman nervously asks if it is safe to follow Narukami, feeling he is abnormal, while Saburo asks what she means. Saburo reassures her that as long as they do not provoke Narukami he cannot act recklessly toward viewers like them. He rationalizes that streaming depends on popularity, so Narukami will cater to regular users and viewers. Typing on his device, He smugly enjoys the profits and clout from Narukami's success. He adds that as long as his own shady posts are never exposed, he is fine. Suddenly the tunnel rumbles and red lightning seals off both directions around them. The party realizes that both their front and rear paths have been blocked, even though nothing was there earlier. A flashback mentor voice explains that the first monsters encountered in the Cave of Thunder are thunder wolves. Packs of electrified wolves charge toward them, crackling with lightning. Narukami notes there are many wolves and that fighting them one by one will exhaust them, then sprints forward as others fear he is abandoning them. The flashback continues, saying there is a way to shorten the battle, as Narukami confronts the lunging wolves. The explanation clarifies that while most packs are led by the largest wolf, these thunder wolves are different. Here the smallest wolf is actually the thunder wolf boss. Narukami dives through the swarm, cutting a path toward his target. He activates the Cloud Stride ability through his boots. System text informs him he can now walk in midair for 3 seconds as he sails above the wolves. Midair, he calls out to his fallen comrade Toshiya, preparing his attack. He reflects that this must be how Toshiya had always felt when pulling off such maneuvers. The wolves, including the small leader, race across the ground below him. Narukami crashes down among them, creating a shockwave. The thunder wolf